Insight, analysis, and interviews regarding the Winnipeg Jets, the Manitoba Moose, and all around the NHL. Here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve Hockey Show starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. And for all of those joining us live, wherever you're joining us live, good evening and welcome to the Illegal Curve Hockey Show NHL 2023 draft coverage. It's not Saturday, but this is Illegal Curve. I'm Dave Manouk. He's Ezzy Ginsburg. You ended your evening hopefully with me last night. You're starting your evening with me tonight. And of course, we've got Ezzy, my main man, in-house down below, and he is ready to go.
The draft house. Good to be back. House. Sorry I couldn't join you boys last night. Obviously, it was somewhat late pop-up show because you had Kenny and Rennie going at I think 4:30. We went live at I believe it was 9 o'clock. So I'm sorry I couldn't join you guys. I was dealing with a sick kid at home, unfortunately. But what a crazy day yesterday with all of the news coming out, and then obviously the deal finally being announced that Pierre-Luc Dubois was going to the Kings. So Dave, you did some amazing work on the website. You guys did the pop-up show, but it's all about the draft now, right? The Jets have the 18th overall pick for now. There always might be a trade. And obviously the Chicago Blackhawks are going to be on the clock pretty soon. We know who they're going to take, obviously. But it's awesome. We've been covering every single draft since 2011 in St. Paul when the Winnipeg NHL franchise didn't even have a name. And of course, it was Mark Chipman that went up there and announced that the team name was going to be the Jets. So it's always fun. We always go long. Usually the draft shows are about 4.5 hours. Huss and Remus are going to pop on live from Nashville in about 10-15 minutes. Yeah, they've been doing a great job all week long on Winnipeg Sports Talk. They had over 1,100 people listening live on Tuesday, which was pretty crazy. We're happy that everybody's joining us, and it's going to be an exciting night.
Well, as you've touched on it, these aren't short shows. These aren't our little pop-up shows. Our little pop-up, I convinced Drew. I know the chat was happy. I convinced Drew to go an extra half an hour. We went an hour and a half. That's going to look like child's play compared to what we do tonight. But I got to tell you, every year, whether you and I are on the road at the draft or whether we're here in Winnipeg covering it from on a remote position, it's my favorite time of the year. It's absolutely the best time of the year, especially when there's lots of Jets news going on. That's when things get to the next level and things get even more exciting. And look, we'll get your thoughts because, people in the chat heard my thoughts last night. They heard Drew's thoughts as well. We'll get your thoughts on the big trade that broke yesterday afternoon, which sent Pierre-Luc Dubois to the LA Kings for Gabe Vilardi, Rasmus Campari, Alex Iafallo, and a 2024, ironically enough, second rounder via the Montreal Canadiens to the Winnipeg Jets. So what were your initial reactions? What were your initial takeaways? And has that adjusted now that you've had 24 hours to sit on it?
It hasn't adjusted a lot, Dave, but initially when the trade was formally announced, as opposed to, just the insiders letting us know, we knew that Gabe Vilardi and Alex Iafallo were coming to the Jets, right? We knew that. What initially surprised me were two things: that the Jets didn't have to include any other players, right? We heard Jansen Harkins from Kenny Wiebe, right? Yeah. And, Logan Stanley's name was out there. Ville Heinola's name was out there. Logan Stanley more so than Ville Heinola. But I was initially surprised that it was only Pierre-Luc Dubois going to the Kings. Yeah. And then the second part that I was surprised about was the inclusion of the second round pick, right? Because I think everybody assumed, there could be a third player coming to the Jets. But if that second round pick turns into anything, then that's just a bonus for the Jets, right? So I think Chevy did really well here. I don't think there are many people in the hockey world, many Jets fans, that are unhappy with the return. When you consider that, Chevy was limited in the teams that he could deal with, right? It's not like Chevy was talking to 12 different teams. Right. Know that it was really two teams, maybe a third team, but it was Montreal and LA all along. And I'm with you, Dave. It is funny that was originally the Montreal Canadiens pick, right? So I think Chevy did really well here. I think Gabe Vilardi is going to fit in really nicely into the top six, most likely on the right wing. Maybe he'll play a little bit of center. We talked about this on Saturday's show. He was drafted as a center out of the Windsor Spitfires, but he's played mainly wing at the NHL level. So most likely he's going to play on the wing in the Jets' top six. And then when you're talking about Alex Iafallo, he's a guy that could easily fit in, on the wing on your third line, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what is that third line going to look like? Is it going to be Adam Lowry, Morgan Barron, Alex Iafallo? It's possible. Iafallo is a left winger, of course, as opposed to Velarde, who's a right winger. But the Jets have options, right? Like Iafallo is a guy that could easily fit into your top six. So there's a lot of question marks in terms of who's going to be the second line center. For some people, there are some question marks who's going to be the first line center, right? Because there's always the chance that Mark Scheifele is traded, being in the last year of his contract, right? But when you look at it, the sum of the parts are really nice, right, Dave? And a guy like Rasmus Kupari, I don't know enough about him. I've watched him a little bit, when I've watched the LA Kings play the Jets or other teams. But I think Kupari, his ceiling at the NHL level, I think is probably, a third line guy. So end up playing a lot for the Jets next year. It's possible, but it'll probably be on, in a fourth line role. But if he's able to chip in, 10 goals and 20 points on your fourth line, that's pretty good. Or maybe it's on the third line, right? So I think when you look at the sum of the parts, Chevy did really well here because obviously Dubois had no interest in signing long-term. Now, in terms of, how I like this trade long-term, I mean, I don't like it as much, but also if Pierre-Luc Dubois doesn't turn into that 75 to 85 point player, the LA Kings aren't going to like this trade long-term either because they just signed him to the, 8-year, $8.5 million a year contract. So the reason why you sign that contract is because you think he's going to become, a 75 to 85 point player. So I really like the move for the Jets.
Well, Gary Bettman's on the screen. Of course, we're not going to show the screen. We don't have the TV rights, so we're not going to be showing. You're not here to watch that. You're here just to listen to Desi and I blab a little bit. And Big Daddy's taking a little water as he's having a bit of a coughing attack. Now, Gary Bettman's on the screen. Sorry about that,
Dave. I'm good now.
No, that's good. But he's on the screen, but he's smart. He brought David Poile with him. So what he does is he says, okay, I know I'm going to get booed in Nashville, but if I bring David Poile with me, then maybe I'll be less likely to be booed. We'll see if that happens. We're not sure. Like I said, I'm listening to what Ez has to say. But Ez, I mean, look, I think one of the things that we've heard from a lot of guys today, and you're right, in terms of Gabe Velarde, he was on, we did the Zoom at 10:30 this morning, and then he was on Jets at Noon with Cam and Jim, and he basically talked about he was asked whether he feels more comfortable as a center or as a winger. And he talked about, learning under Todd McClellan and being McClellan sounded like he was hard on him, but it sounded like it worked. It sounded like he came up, like you said, he was drafted as a center, but because they had a lot of center depth and they put him on the wing, and also because he would say, he said today in his answer, I didn't score a lot. And as a result, I would get down on myself and da-da-da-da-da. Well, more importantly, while we are blabbering about the trade, we'll bring in some guys straight from Nashville if they're ready to give me the thumbs up, guys from Nashville, if you're ready to go. And then we'll is that a thumbs up? I can't even tell from us. That looked more a little different.
I think we got a little Winnipeg sports talk coming in.
We got some Winnipeg sports talk joining the show straight from Nashville. So let's bring them on. They are Andrew Hustler Patterson and Michael Remus. Here we go to the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
Fellas, what is going on? Greetings from
boys
at the beautiful Bridgestone Arena. Draft just getting underway. Gary Bettman greeting the fans as he always does, and looking forward to what should be an interesting night. How are you guys?
We're doing good. I think everybody watching wants to know if Remus took the scooter over to Bridgestone Arena, or if you guys just walk, because a lot of people are talking about that scooter that Remus has been seen riding on Broadway.
I wanted to take the scooter, but I had to carry a tripod and a backpack. I told Hustler to hop on with me. He wanted to go doubles. I'm like, want to do doubles? Wasn't sure. It was maybe too early. Hopefully later tonight we could try doubles.
Yes, the scooter. Sometimes, you need to really maybe speed up your trip home. And he did that last night, scooting off into the night. Did the wave, nearly wiped out, but he made it.
That was really hard. Taking one hand off and trying to wave, harder than I thought it was going to be. I wanted it on the video.
Boys, give us some of the flavor. I mean, you're there. Things are finally happening in Jetsland. They finally made the big trade. You guys had a massive crowd on the show yesterday and today. People are locked in. So give us a flavor being in Nashville and what you're seeing and hearing, with respect to the draft in general, but also specifically to the Jets.
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, downtown Nashville obviously is an incredible spot to bring people together. Bars have been crazy, but you really have felt that it was a big NHL event. And I mean, listen, there's not a huge Winnipeg contingent here, but Marat's here, Sean Reynolds, of course, and tons of anticipation as to, I don't need to tell you guys, I mean, we've been talking about this. In fact, in some ways, the PLD situation has been the gift that's kept on giving shows like ours for a long time. But as far as the trade went down, I mean, it seemed like it was inching closer over the first couple of days, finally happened yesterday. So now we move on. We heard from Kevin Cheveldayoff. I'm not sure if you guys have seen it or heard his comments from earlier today. Get ready to see what happens at the draft. But first big tick off the to-do list of moving Pierre-Luc Dubois. We are hearing, though, it doesn't seem like there's a ton of traction about Connor Hellebuck or especially Mark Scheifele from the guys we've talked about. And I don't know, personally, I think that's a little surprising considering what is and what isn't available on the free agent market. But as we've seen, David, some of the trades that have been made so far, pretty significant players going with teams maintaining 50% of the salary and not getting much back. The market's in a strange place right now. So, listen, they got something done. I thought pretty good return. We've been referring to Chevy as the escape artist here, coming out of these situations, looking pretty good overall. But intriguing to see what happens tonight, both with the pick and potentially more moves. Although I can't tell you that we're sitting on eggshells waiting for it to happen based on our conversations with a number of the insiders that have been kicking around Nashville.
So Huss, just sticking with Connor Hellebuck and Blake Wheeler, because obviously, you guys have been talking mainly focused on Pierre-Luc Dubois since you guys arrived in Nashville, and for good reason, because he was eventually moved. But when you're talking about Blake Wheeler, I'm sure you guys are getting texts of people showing you the for sale sign for his house on Wellington Crescent, and people are seeing him crossing the border and hanging out with the Bufflins and everything like that. Are you surprised, Huss, that we haven't already heard the buyout from Wheeler, or is that something that we should expect to happen after the draft? And as a second part of that, going back to Hellebuck, do you think the main reason why those rumors have quieted it down is because of the fact that some teams are scared off that he wants in that $9 to $10 million a year range for his next contract?
Yeah, first off on Wheeler, I think if anything, they're holding out that if there's an opportunity to trade him and eat half and pay 4 point whatever million as opposed to eating 5.5 and spreading it over the next 2 years, that's preferable. But I think the smart money, and is highly likely that at some point before the 30th, we'll hear that Blake Wheeler's been brought out. I don't think there's any doubt that he is finished with the Winnipeg Jets and they're moving on in a different direction. And that has been pretty much confirmed by just about everyone in the know and with connections to the Winnipeg Jets and Kevin Cheveldayoff. As far as Hellebuck goes, the goalie market is weird. Listen, you know me, I'm a huge Hellebuck backer. I think the guy's a workhorse, one of the best goalies in the National Hockey League, has huge value and can help you win a lot of hockey games and challenge for a championship. I'm not sure whether, Aiden Hill came off of number 3 or 4 on the Vegas Golden Knights depth chart and went on that crazy run, whether that's, with the cap only going up 1 year and people realizing that the commitment on an extension to Connor Hellebuck is going to be significant. We've heard Jersey is a team that, makes a lot of sense for a landing spot. Well, they just dropped 8.8 for 8 years on Timo Meier. So you do wonder how the numbers work. Is there demand for Hellebuck around the league? Absolutely. Would most teams love to have him as their goalie? Yeah. But I don't think anyone's willing to pay the Winnipeg Jets price just to get him on 1 year at just over $6 million. And I do think that price tag is somewhat intimidating to a number of teams around the league.
Huss, just to jump in here before Dave talks, I don't think we're going to see a repeat of last year when you were on the show. And there's no mystery about who's about to be taken first overall. Kyle Davidson's on the podium right now, so I think there's not going to be as much drama as there was last year.
Now, before we even get into the pick, Huss, we got to talk about Kyle Davidson's random encounter in Nashville. That is, I don't know if people haven't seen it yet, but that was probably, and the fact that he went with it, Reem, you must have loved that. Yeah. Like, honestly, I lost my mind. I was watching it. I saw it come through my Twitter feed, and I was like, How cool is this GM that he's willing to just play along and play ball? And these guys have no idea they're actually asking the GM of a hockey team. And if you haven't seen it, I've tweeted it out. I'll tweet it out from the Illegal Curve account. They were showing it when just before Kyle Davidson and the Chicago Blackhawks went up. But what did you guys think of that? Because I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, I think that just shows, how hockey is really taken over in Nashville. Everywhere you go, you don't know who you're going to run into. So,
and you don't know who the hell the people are.
Yeah, you don't know.
Reem, I know that you liked that Michael Roosevelt reference. When he said that, I was like, Remus is going to love that reference.
You know that my ears perked up.
What about Johnny Oduya?
Yeah, Johnny.
Yes.
Pizza Man.
Brian Bickle. I mean, those are all Chicago legends. So for him to go along and say with a straight face, no, it was not rigged. And if you watch the process, it 100% was not. But he went along with it, had some fun, and I think he gained a lot of new fans there, because I don't think he had too many fans last year when he was trading everyone away.
Unbelievable. As you can see, Connor Bedard's walking up to the podium and shaking hands with one Gary Bettman. But yeah, just quickly back to the Kyle Davidson thing. I mean, an all-time hilarious bit of content. And credit to him for kind of rolling with it. I'm Kyle from Chicago. Somehow I don't think that we would have had, I'm Kevin from Winnipeg. That if they managed to hit Chevy. But hey, listen, Davidson's kind of a younger guy. And listen, he should be in a damn good mood right now because he just picked the next superstar of the National Hockey League, Connor Bedard, who's on the podium right now here in Nashville.
So, boys, obviously, it's going to be all about Connor Bedard, not just until Anaheim makes their pick at second overall, but Connor Bedard is going to be the talk for weeks and months to come, right? You're going to start to see fans projecting how many points he's going to get. I think he's going to get 110. Just kidding. But just wanted to go back to what it's been like for you guys this week, because obviously I remember, Remus obviously remembers that 2011 draft in St. Paul, and us, the last draft I think we were at together was 2017 in Chicago, when of course the Jets took Christian Vesalainen. What was it, the 23rd overall pick? But what's it been like for you boys to be in Nashville and with all the attention around the Jets and specifically the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade?
Well, I mean, listen, the days leading up to the Doobie trade was a lot of fun. I mean, everyone, whenever we were talking to people, they had as many questions for us as we did for them, to be honest with you, having followed it and being close to the market and having Winnipeg as one of the most intriguing teams going in. I will tell you, it is better to be here in the rink. This is a little bit of a history of our draft trips. We had normally done the shows from the draft floor. That year, for some reason, I guess it was some Sportsnet TSN beef, but once TSN was the broadcaster, Sportsnet had the broadcast rights, they decided they didn't want the TSN stations, even if they were the official teams, to be on the draft floor. In fact, you couldn't even broadcast live from the arena. So I had to do the afternoon show, go on a 5-minute break, grab a Diet Pepsi. Then you and I talked nonstop for 5 hours on the first round in basically a closet in a Chicago hotel room.
It was me, you, and Adam Toy, and it was 3 lonely men in that Chicago hotel room, let me tell you.
At least that pizza was good. And we had Edmonds jump on 5 minutes an hour. That was what we could have. But a little bit different. And listen, I mean, it's great to get back here. I mean, you guys know, I mean, the draft is such a cool event. Whether you're a fan, whether you're in the media, whether you're working for the team, in a lot of ways, it is a convention of the National Hockey League at every level. And I mean, obviously doing what we do, we've got great guests, get a chance to see people in person, maybe have a drink with them at some point. It's been a heck of a lot of fun, but adding to it all has been the intrigue around the hockey club that we cover the most, the Winnipeg Jets, starting off with that big deal yesterday. And although, as I said, things are sort of quiet right now, and I'm not really expecting anything based on what we've heard, things can change pretty quickly here. And especially just quickly to mention Scheifele, it's quite crazy that things are so quiet on him, considering the season that he had, the price that he, is going to be due for a contract next year. I mean, we've talked a lot about the Boston Bruins. I mean, the word is here that they're progressing as if Bergeron and Krejci are both not coming back. And of course, they made that move for, trading, essentially giving Taylor Hall to the Chicago Blackhawks. So it's just part of the strange trade market right now. And going to be really interesting to see whether we see any picks moved because of the demand for, some of these top prospects that are up on the board right now. And obviously, once we get to 18, who the Winnipeg Jets have as their first round pick.
Boys, I'm not gonna lie. I want to. Sorry, you go ahead, and I'll tell you what I was gonna say after.
Hey, as we went to the draft in 2011, the biggest change for me is the technology here. I don't think there was streaming video back in 2011. Like we were just doing audio and sending that in. So, all this stuff with cameras and fast internet. To me, I'm noticing that the most.
Remo taking advantage of the opportunity to wear this beautiful suit from
Yeah.
F Apparel.
I had to suit up. Come on, it's a draft.
Yeah.
Well, more importantly, what I was going to say is I want to jump through that screen, go behind you guys, go to the Pepsi machine and grab some cherry Pepsi if you don't mind, because right now I'm drinking a cherry Pepsi Max, which is okay, but it's not quite the cherry Pepsi in the US of A. But no, guys.
You guys love the press box food. As soon as this is done, we are jumping over to a beautiful spread of Nashville barbecue, as you can see right over there.
You can smell it. I don't know if you guys can.
We're hungry, but because we are such fans of yours and pals, we figured we can't jump on. Hey, I didn't want to have barbecue all over my face when we came in because of nature of streaming video, but definitely wanted to jump on with you guys as you do it. Are you guys just going to kick it? Basically, have a bit of a watch party throughout the first round?
Yeah, this is what we're doing. We're just going to keep it rolling. We did a pop up yesterday. We went about an hour and a half, and now we're just going to do probably about 4 or 5 hours. Talk to you guys. We're going to talk to
Drew. Where's Drew?
Drew's at a family event that he is a prior family commitment that is taking him out. So unfortunately, last year he did.
When he found out you guys go for 5 hours on round.
Yes. Well, I know Drew. That's what I said. I was shocked he didn't actually get it moved, because the idea of Drew not having this much mic time must actually kill him.
Yeah, so us and Remus, we were okay with Drew taking the night off. There was it's not like we were like, no, Drew, we really need you. We really need you. We were like, okay, good. More mic time for us.
No, but guys, seriously, I was being serious, but your reaction. I mean, we've been hearing from Kevin Cheveldayoff today, and you're right. I heard the media availability at one point. I'm not joking. In his answer, I don't know if you guys were there, but his response to the question as to whether he felt his team is still in a championship form was the most rambling answer I've ever heard him give, and it didn't make any sense. It was kind of like I just didn't know what he was saying. I was like, the coaches and the squiggling and this, and I was like, okay, that's not. I don't really understand. It's an easy answer, either yes or no. But he went on and on and on.
Dave, remember when Facebook started and you could have your status as "it's complicated"? That's essentially like we just hear. It's complicated right now. They've got good players, but again, no one's playing a game for the next little while. I think they do have some options, but it's quite clear that I think they still believe they don't want to waste these years of Morrissey, of Kyle Connor, of Nikolai Ehlers. Again, as of right now, Mark Scheifele and Connor Hellebuck are still Winnipeg Jets, and that's a big part of it too. I mean, I think everyone's got their own take on whether the Winnipeg Jets should, maybe make more of a commitment to the future with some of these players right now, but that hasn't happened. And I think all things considered, with that being their goal, whether you want to call it, whether they believe they're a championship contender or not right now, they got a bunch of pretty interesting.
Whoa.
Off the board. The Anaheim Ducks are on the board, and they went off the board.
The Ducks.
Leo Carlson.
Whoa, what were the odds on that?
Dude, that was like plus 800 for sure.
Wow.
Surprising. I think most people thought Adam Fantilli was going here, right, boys?
I think everybody thought that.
Maybe there is a little bit more. And that's what Craig Button talked about, right? He said the fun's going to start after the first overall pick.
Oh,
that is
that's surprising.
That is a stunner. I don't think we've talked to one person that did not think that Fantilli was a lock. And as you know, I don't mind to check out the odds boards on our favorite betting site every now and then.
And you wonder, boys, right? Like you guys, know the numbers that Fantilli put up with the University of Michigan, but you wonder if one of the reasons why they were scared off is maybe that he's going to spend one more year at the University of Michigan. I'm not sure what you guys heard talking to Ryan Kennedy and Stephen Ellis and others, but I thought there was still a chance Fantilli was going to go pro next year.
Listen, no one even talked about that. They just said he's a lock at number 2, and they'd be stunned, which we all are right now, if he didn't go number 2. And I got to tell you, who's fired up right now? Got to be Jarmo, because
Jarmo Kekalainen.
Guy, he of course famously took PLD.
I think they blew the internet out there.
Freezing action happening here. I think Huss will be back in a second, though.
I think they blew out the internet. People are so excited about Pat Verbeek going off the beaten trail that it blew out the internet for Winnipeg Sports Talk in Nashville.
Well, the thing,
yes,
Dave,
you
there you go.
Huss is
They're back.
Yeah.
They're back.
Well,
Yeah, the internet here is touch and go, But I think
Yeah, you
you're
guys
right.
are good. You're good. You're good. You're good.
The internet.
everyone is tweeting "Holy bleep" right now everywhere around us.
Yeah,
Well,
ruined
and,
the
Leo, and
Wi-Fi.
you guys know, I mean, it's not like Leo Carlson is a schlub. He's a good player too. He's got the size. He just, I don't think has what most scouts think is the offensive upside that Adam Fantilli has, right? Like all the scouts say that if it wasn't for Connor Bedard, Fantilli would go number one, which is Captain Obvious, right? But obviously, yeah, that's a funny comment from Spency right there. But Leo Carlson's going to be a really good NHLer. But yeah, I think we're all shocked that it wasn't Fantilli there.
You know what? That's what makes the draft cool. I'm just pissed off I didn't bet on Carlson. That would have been huge.
But you know what, though? I mean, and that's what we heard about Pat Verbeek. Pat Verbeek, you know, with buddies with Steve Yzerman, and they said that he was going to be willing to, you know, be his own man and do whatever he wanted that he thought would be the best for his team. So a little bit unexpected, but yeah, there you go. That's the first shocker of the draft.
You know, here's just a quick little tidbit. I had a great chat yesterday off air in the hotel with Shane Malloy, who of course is working, I believe, Sirius XM NHL radio with their draft coverage tonight. And he has Hockey Prospect Radio. Brilliant guy. And he was speaking about traditionally the best drafting and developing teams in the National Hockey League. And he said Anaheim is top three, and the Kings as well, top three, which is one of the reasons why he was sort of surprised, of the value of that second round pick that they gave up to Winnipeg in the Dubois trade. And I can't remember the guy that is sort of in charge of all of their scouting and, that area for Anaheim, but he spoke incredibly high of him. And he said that he would imagine Fantilli was a lock. But then he said something that was interesting to me. You never know about the Pat Verbeek effect now that they've got someone new sort of running the show. And, Dougster.
Oh, did we cut out? Did we cut out there?
Yeah, I think we did cut out.
Are we back?
You guys are back. You're back.
Yeah, you boys are back. You're good.
It elongated you a little bit, and then boom, you were right back.
All right, excellent. So as I said, I mean, listen, Pat Verbeek's put his stamp on it. I mean, he's the GM; he gets that final say. But that'll be a pick that'll probably be talked about for a long time, much like the Dubois selection back a few years ago with the Columbus Blue Jackets.
And it's like you said, Huss. I mean, now Jarmo Kekalainen has a pretty easy choice. But then again, I go back to last year when we had Huss on, and I think we had you on for the first 5 picks. And then Shane Wright slipped to 4th to the Seattle Kraken, right? But you would have to think that, Fantilli's not going to slip to number 4. But, I mean, stranger things have happened. But you'd have to think that Jarmo's going to go up there very quickly and take Fantilli.
Listen, I would think the one possibility, though, is if they are really enamored in Michkov. Michkov has been the most intriguing draft prospect. Just, obviously he hasn't been here. He showed up this week, met with a number of teams. I've always been asking a lot of people if a guy was from, Medicine Hat or Mississauga instead of Moscow, where would he be picked? And a lot of people have thought that he would have been right there for the second pick. So it was thought all along, though, that Columbus would be deciding between Will Smith and Leo Carlson, looking for that big center. All of a sudden, Fantilli's on the board. So if it's not Michkov, I can't imagine it's not Adam Fantilli.
Well, then the question becomes, and you guys have been talking to all the experts and you've had a lot of people on your shows leading up to the draft. So the question I have for you boys is, and I know we've got a lot of picks before now and when the Jets actually make a draft pick, but what is your feeling? Do you have a feeling? Have you gotten a kind of a consensus as to who you think the Jets could be taking the 18th overall?
I mean, I don't know about you, Reem. I mean, to me, it's, this has been usually the case for so long. I mean, look at the mock drafts. It's a different guy every time. I mean, so much of it dependent is on who is there. And then, when we think about the Winnipeg Jets and their history, there's certain guys that they like, but often with Perfetti, with we've seen that drop, some guys drop into their laps. So I wouldn't even want to. I mean, if was it Alvin Moore, I believe, from the U.S. National Development Team. If he's there, I think he's a player that the Jets would love to get.
Yeah.
but I think there's a pretty good chance he's picked before. I saw his over-unders at 14.5 right now. So,
Yeah.
There'll be a player who will probably be saying, wow, can't believe he was available. But that often happens in this case when you're picking in the middle of the first round.
Well, the Columbus Blue Jackets are picking right now with the 3rd overall pick. So, and they went with
Adam Fantilli. Patrick
Fantilli.
Pat Laine and Johnny Gaudreau will probably be pumped about that pick. Man, that is a nice little, and who knows, maybe Carlson will turn into this superstar and we'll be saying all along. But, as far as
I think Huss froze a little bit there, but I think what he's saying is that I think both yeah, there you go. Both Columbus and Anaheim are going to get really good players there. You're absolutely right, Huss. I mean, this draft is so deep, and I don't think you saw 2 mock drafts that were the same in terms of the picks around 18, right? Like, it's the same thing goes for picks 16 or 22 or anything like that. We know that this is one of the deeper drafts maybe since 2015, right? So I think you're right. Oliver Moore. I mean, there's Braden Yager, Nate Danielson on the Wheat Kings. Like, maybe if Tom Wielander, the Swedish defenseman, if he's available, maybe the Jets go with him, right? Like, it's going to be really difficult to predict it now. It's going to be even more difficult to predict it when we get to pick 15 or 16, right? But obviously they're going to get a really good player at 18th overall.
I mean, listen, I've seen Ryan Leonard connected to Montreal all week long, and I saw some rankings today that had Ryan Leonard 18. I mean, the bottom line is there's a ton of great players in this draft. I think, even at 18, the Winnipeg Jets are going to get someone good. And depending on what other teams do, they might have a guy that, they have, ranked in their top 10 or top 8 that all of a sudden is there at 18 and they run to the podium and pick them.
Yeah, and that's what Mark Hillier, the Jets director of amateur scouting, said in the interview, media availability. He said, look, if there's someone who's 9 to 11 on our draft board, and we get to pick him at 18, you're right, Huss. That's exactly the attitude. We'll run up there and we're going to try and get him because that's what they want to do. And that's what they've been able to do. And it was interesting. I don't know if you guys heard his comments about, location, geography, because he was asked by Murat whether, picking someone from the WHL. And he said, look, if we go with best player available, but if it's a tie, then we obviously may make an effort to take a Manitoban, but you can just see that there's obviously an effort. And he goes, look, there's no conspiracy theory. For a long time, we were taking guys out of the U.S. national program. We're taking guys out of Finland. Obviously people would like to see them take some, there's some very good, and I don't have to tell Mr. Hockey Manitoba to my right or left how many good Manitobans there are that could potentially be drafted. But there's a lot of good players that they're going to get a shot at with that 18th overall pick. And
the guy, Hassan Reem, that I kept talking to Dave about in terms of, how deep this draft is Zach Benson, right? Like, we saw him so much with the Winnipeg Ice. What did he have? 98 points during the regular season. And then he added, I forget exactly how many he had during the playoffs, but he obviously added a bunch in the playoffs. Zach Benson, most scouts have kind of, in that 5 to 8 range. And then you look at some of the mock drafts, and some mock drafts have Benson going 10th overall, 11th overall. Like, from what I've seen, and obviously I'm not an amateur scout, but like, you would think that in most draft years, Benson would be a lock to go 4th or 5th overall, but it's possible with, as Huss mentioned, like, Matvei Michkov is the big mystery. Like, he could go 4th overall. He could end up going to 8th overall to Washington. That's what we've heard. And I'm sure you guys talked to all of the scouts like Ryan Kennedy, and we talked about Stephen Ellis you guys had on. Obviously, you guys had more people on during the week. Michkov's not going to go past 8, I don't think.
Ellis just walked by us, actually. I looked over and did there was like the wide-eyed, one of those after the Carlson and Fantilli swap of the pick. So Michkov, Will Smith, those both players, both sort of consensus top 5 guys.
Mm-hmm.
Question is whether someone's going to jump on Michkov, or whether he will drop potentially to Philly, or I think everyone assumes that if he's there for Washington with their history of Russian players, they'll be doing that running to the podium if they can get.
Boys, I just wanted to quickly, I know you guys got to bounce soon and hit up that media meal, but you guys are at the draft in Nashville. There hasn't been any talk that Will Smith might go up there and slap Gary Bettman, right? Like, we're not going to see anything like that.
I was waiting for a Will Smith slap joke, as nicely done to pop that one in there.
Had to get that in there.
Oh, no doubt.
Well, boys, we appreciate you guys joining on and foregoing the BBQ even though you could smell it. It's so close, so tantalizing. So we appreciate you guys jumping on with us, and we, kudos to what you're doing in Nashville. Great crowds on the show, and of course, what you do every day, Monday through Friday from 1 to 3.
Hey, appreciate it, fellas. And I imagine you guys will have a big day on Saturday with free agency. So certainly we'll be looking forward to seeing what you guys are doing. And we'll be back on Friday, hopefully, in one piece after. But tomorrow should be a great show for us, starting at 1 Central. We're going to be here in the morning. We'll get a ton of draft reaction from a number of folks. Day 2, as you guys know, is a little more chill. We'll have more time to get people reaction to tonight, trades and whatnot. So we should have a packed show before a pretty hectic travel day tomorrow evening to get back in time to bang it out on WST on Friday. But thanks for having us, and enjoy the rest of the first round. Started off with a bang.
Started off with a bang. That's a good way of putting it. All right, there they go. Hustler and
Thanks, boys.
Remo. Thanks, boys, for joining us today on our Illegal Curve draft coverage. Ezzy, back to you and I. No more San Jose is moving up. There's Mike Greer.
Yeah, Mike Greer.
Looks like he could still play. He's ready to go.
Love Mike Greer's a hockey player.
The pick is in.
Oilers.
Just in case you were wondering, the pick is in. So we'll find out who Mike Greer and the San Jose Sharks will be selecting.
Is this Will Smith here, Dave, or is this Matvei Michkov?
I don't know. I really don't know. Let's ask the crowd. I mean, guys, everybody in the chat is here for a reason. You're not just Ezzy and I. You guys let us know who you think is going to be selected 4th overall.
I mean, or Zach Benson. Is it out of the realm of possibility Benson goes 4th overall? I mean, maybe I'm higher on Benson than others, but
probably
he's a really skilled player. 100 points for the ice. Maybe
the only hesitation would be his size, because to be honest with you, like, the kid's got a motor. He's aggressive. He wants the puck. I don't know if you saw that. There's that clip of him playing against Saskatoon, where he literally came from the offensive zone, went into the neutral zone, took the puck off a bigger guy, fired back into the Saskatoon zone, and scored a beauty goal. So the kid's got a motor. He's got a determination to win. But you're right. I mean, we watch a lot of Zach Benson, so we're probably a little bit biased in that regard. But I suspect that, he's definitely a top 10 pick. I don't think he's going to fall out of the top 10, but I think he's probably in that 7 to 10 range, which means he's probably getting picked. Which means he's getting picked right now.
Well, Will Smith is I would say, if I was throwing some money down with our friends, at Betway, I'd say Will Smith here. I mean, 104 points in 52 games with the U.S. National Development Program. Will Smith is going to be a very good NHL player. Love to see Patty Marleau making the pick here, and I believe it's Will Smith, right?
Yes. I don't know. They haven't flashed the name up, so I'm sitting there, and I'm not gonna pretend that I know who that is exactly. It's just some sort of 17-year-old kid, so I'm not gonna say. They haven't flashed it on the TV that I'm watching, so we'll see if it's does it say Will Smith?
Well, I don't know. Like, I can see the player. I just don't know if that's Will
That's what
Smith.
I mean. They haven't shown his
Zach
name.
Benson.
No, it's definitely not Zach Benson. I know what Zach Benson looks like.
I believe it's Will Smith, 4th overall.
Yeah, there we go. It's Will Smith. There we go.
And he's an incredible player, right? I think we knew that it was going to be, obviously we didn't know Carlson was going to go 2nd overall, but we knew it was going to be, in that order, Connor Bedard, Adam Fantilli, and Leo Carlson. And then most scouts had Will Smith kind of 4th, 5th, 6th overall. Yeah. So, they have it up on the screen right now, right? Like, he was the MVP of the 2012 U18 World Championship. This guy's going to be an excellent player. He's going to go to college next year, right? He's not going to go right into the NHL. But, for a team in San Jose, let's be honest, one of the worst teams in the NHL last year, Erik Karlsson could be on the move, but Will Smith, that's the type of player that you build your team around, right? He's that skilled.
No, you're absolutely right, Az. I was just answering the chat because people think we're very delayed. It's not that we're delayed. We're seeing this in real time. It's just that, or maybe we are delayed, Az. Who knows? We're delayed. We're definitely delayed a little bit on the broadcast. And the pick is obviously coming in a little bit quicker in Nashville, but I just wasn't sure. I don't know what these guys look like enough to know if that was Will Smith, right? But Will Smith is obviously not. He's what is he? 5'11", 6 feet. He's not the tallest guy. No. So I thought it was Will Smith. Generally, I knew it wasn't Matvei Michkov. Put it that way. There you go. Well, no, I'm for the record, I'm not watching on YouTube, folks. I'm watching on the we got
Sportsnet on here.
Yeah. So we're good in that regard. I'm watching on my phone as he's watching on the television in front of him. He's got a nice little setup, set as he up in a nice little man cave in the on the main floor. But Anyways, yeah. So let's maybe do a little while they're doing some Will Smith talking. We'll do some fresh Jets talk, and we'll get back to the Jets a little bit because again, like I said, we talked about it with Hustler and Remo a little bit. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was the comments from Kevin Cheveldayoff. I'm not going to ask you if you heard them, but I thought the comments from Kevin Cheveldayoff were quite interesting today. Basically saying, again, it could be posturing, and I always caution. I always say take it with a grain of salt because you don't know. But these are. I'm just going to read you some of the comments from him on Wheeler. We're looking at all of our options with Blake, and buyout is one of the options that we are looking at. But sometimes you can get creative in this game as well. You're looking at all the different options before you make your final decision. Translation: please, Pittsburgh, take him for a pick, please, and we'll retain 50%. On Scheifele and Hellebuck, he said Helly and Scheif are big parts of our franchise, but for us right now, our focus is their. But and then he said a few other things about having conversations with other GMs. But for us right now, our focus is their Winnipeg Jets, and we're looking forward to moving forward with them. And then at the end of his media availability, he was asked if he's comfortable starting the season with 55 and 37 on his team, despite the fact they'd have expiring contracts. And he said he reiterated that they are Winnipeg Jets. We'll look at everything that comes to us, but that doesn't mean we're jumping at anything. He did say that he spoke to Scheifele's representatives over the course of the last couple of days and told them, look, we're listening, but obviously it's got to make sense for the Jets because these are good players. These players can help us win. So what do you hear when you hear that? I'll put it to the chat. I'll put it to Ez. I mean, I hear those words from the Jets general manager. And again, remember, I was on record as saying that I didn't think that the Jets were going to trade. I thought they were going to extend Mark Scheifele. But it seems like Connor Hellebuck, I guess the offers aren't great. So they're just kind of holding.
Right. And we talked about it with Huss and Remus, right? Like we know the Blake Wheeler buyout / trade is coming in the next 7 days, right? The buyout window is the buyout window ends June 30th, right? If I'm not mistaken. So he can be traded, but we expect him to not be a member of the Winnipeg Jets next season. In terms of Connor Hellebuck, I mean, we know that he doesn't plan on signing long-term. That was reported, what was that, Dave? 3 or 4 weeks ago at this point, right? I'm not that surprised that the trade chatter, I'm kind of pivoting here a little bit away from Chevy's comments and just going to Connor Hellebuck here. But if you look at, and Craig Button and Ryan Rashog had a piece on TSN about and we posted it on illegalcurve.com, so you can go check it out. Or if you saw it on tsn.ca, right? We obviously would prefer you go to illegalcurve.com, right? But when you talk about, whether it's the New Jersey Devils or the Ottawa Senators or the Buffalo Sabres, who else am I missing here? The Pittsburgh Penguins. I mean, the Pittsburgh Penguins, if you think about it, make the most sense because they're in win now mode. They just don't have the assets. Like I went through their entire roster, and I mean, I just don't see Chevy trading Connor Hellebuck for, Ricard Raquel or Brian Rust or, one of their defensemen, right? So Carey Price, I see here, Dave, is walking up to the podium here with Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes. So we're going to get the Montreal Canadiens 5th overall pick probably in about 60 seconds or so. Really curious to see if they go with Matvei Michkov because they did talk to him at the draft, I believe, 2 days ago or 3 days ago. So we could see Matvei Michkov go here. Obviously, there's a lot of other good players here. We talked about Zach Benson. I mean, we could play speculation station about who they're going to go with here, but I think Matvei Michkov is the guy that a lot of Habs fans are expecting. But just getting back to Hellebuck, I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult in that sense to make a move because you're going to have to give up a really good player, right? Like who would the Devils be giving up? Like they're not giving up Jack Hughes or Nico Hischier. They're certainly not going to be giving up Timo Meier, who they just signed. And then when you talk about the Ottawa Senators, I mean, who's coming back to the Jets? I don't think the Sens are trading Jake Sanderson. I don't think they're trading Brady Tkachuk or Tim Stützle, right? So it's kind of hard to see the obvious choice, and that has a lot to do with the fact that the Jets aren't limited here in teams that they can talk to like they were with Dubois, right, Dave? But clearly, Chevy didn't say a lot there, but clearly more moves are coming. I have no idea if Connor Hellebuck's going to be traded, in the next week or 2 weeks, or if he starts the year on the Jets. But certainly Blake Wheeler is not going to be part of the Jets next year, and I think that's one of the reasons why the Jets acquired Gabe Vilardi, because he's a right winger, and he replaces Wheeler in the top 6.
Yeah, and it looks like the pick is in, as they say, for is that I couldn't tell. I mean, again, remember we can't listen to the audio, so we don't see. I can't hear what happened with Carey Price, but I saw Carey Price had a little bit of a confusing moment as they were making the pick. So Reinbacher, that's who they took with the was that the 5th overall pick now? I think
That
it
was
fifth
fifth
pick.
overall, right?
Yeah.
Reinbacher, Austrian
So,
defenseman. Yeah, we talked to Craig Button on Saturday.
Is that Orville's kid?
Yeah, that's a funny one. I don't know, Dave. I do have some popcorn here that you supplied me as one of my snacks. You also put out some Twizzlers here for me on the draft table, but that's a bit of a surprise, right? Because obviously Matvei Michkov is going to go somewhere in the top 10. It could be 6th overall, could be 7th overall. But Reinbacher, I think a lot of scouts thought was the best defenseman available in the draft. Played in the Swiss League. Has got some good size at 6'2". Right-handed defensemen, as we know, are harder to develop, top 4 right-handed defensemen. So when you think about the Habs and some of their high-end prospects, right, like Slafkovsky, who obviously they took 1st overall last year, and they've got Caden Gooley in the system, right, good WHL defenseman who's going to play his first full year in the NHL, most likely next year with the Habs. So you've got Caden Gooley there, and now you've got David Reinbacher there, who I think, is just considered a good overall two-way defenseman. He's obviously got tons of skill, so a little bit surprising, but we expected Reinbacher to go somewhere, in the top 10 or 12. So not that surprising, Dave, in that sense.
And then the Habs are now flipping him to the Jets for Pierre-Luc Dubois. Oh wait, because the Jets could use a right shot defenseman. This is the Illegal Curve Draft Show, a special edition that we do once every year. It's one of our favorite shows of the year. You are listening to Ezra Ginsburg. I am Dave Minuk. I'm hosting for Drew Mandel, who is off partying or whatever he's doing. He's missing the best show of the year, and we're okay with that because that just means more time for Big Dad, D, and myself. So make sure you smash that like button because that's what I ask you to do when you come on our show and you join us and be part of the conversation. We appreciate you spending your Wednesday night with us. Hopefully you've been on illegalcurve.com. You're home for all of hockey in Manitoba because let me tell you, we've got lots on there. I was up till 2 a.m. last night, folks, posting and tweeting and Instagramming and everything else. So there's lots on the website yesterday, and then we started all over again today. So we will see. It's a long, slow climb as in the draft order for the Jets, who are picking in that 18th spot. We'll be here with you all night long. Hopefully we'll have the Jets draft pick on after he has his opportunity to speak to the media who are in attendance in Nashville. Then he'll jump on with us, we hope. And then so hopefully you'll stay tuned for that. And we're going to be here all night long. And we'll be talking about the draft. And so who's up next, Ezzy? You got the
Arizona Coyotes at 6th overall. And followed by that, you've got the Philadelphia Flyers at 7. And you remember, Dave, there were rumors that the Philadelphia Flyers might be offering, they've got a second pick in the first round. I believe it's 22nd overall. Yeah. So 4 spots after the Jets. So apparently there was a rumor that the Flyers might trade the 7th overall pick and the 22nd overall pick to take Michkov at 5th overall. So it's going to be really interesting. Sorry to, fixate on Michkov here, but
it's good.
Some scouts think he's the second most skilled player in the entire draft, above Leo Carlson and Adam Fantilli. Obviously, nobody's touching Connor Bedard's skill level. He's expected to score 100 points several times in his NHL career. But you wonder here where the Arizona Coyotes go here because, another player, Dalibor Dvorsky, who's a really talented Slovak center, he's on the board. Oliver Moore, obviously, who we've talked about. I mean, he's a guy that, some Jets fans are hoping that, he might slip to 18th overall. I don't think that's going to happen. Zach Benson is a guy that we still expect to go in the top 10. So that's what we've talked about so much, right? Like it's really hard to predict right now, who a team like the Philadelphia Flyers is going to go, the Arizona Coyotes are going to go with. And then obviously you've got the Flyers at 7th overall, followed by the Capitals. That's been, the scuttlebutt from the draft that there's no way that the Capitals will pass up on Matvei Michkov if he's available there at 8th overall. But, just reading, we have the future considerations draft guide here, Dave. They're talking about, when you're talking about David Reinbacher, back to him who the Habs just took at 5th overall. He's not a guy that's going to step right into the NHL, and he's certainly not like in the same class as, some of the other top defensemen that have been taken at 1st overall, Rasmus Dahlin, Owen Power. But I mean, he's got an excellent shot and, he's got great size. That's why we talked about him being kind of that two-way defender. And if you think he's going to be a top 2 or top 4 defenseman and he ends up turning out to be that, and so does Caden Gooley, I mean, then the Habs obviously have a great player here, right? But I think some Habs fans might not like this pick because it's not as sexy as Matvei Michkov, who obviously, has the potential to be kind of that 80 to 100 point guy at the NHL level.
Well, and the interesting thing is, again, depending on your organizational perspective, if you weren't expecting to compete for another 2 or 3 years, and obviously Michkov isn't going to be available for 3 more years, I mean, that you have to figure out what your organizational window is. And so for me, that's why I was a little surprised with Montreal, because nobody anticipates Montreal and Jets fans are going to be happy for that. I think Jets fans are done with the Habs fans. I think that they this Dubois situation has soured maybe a lot of parents who are born Habs fans or were Habs fans after the Jets left. Well, it's one thing, but I think people are done with the Habs and offering a stale bag of peanuts too, Ezzy, not a fresh bag of peanuts, a stale bag of peanuts.
Oh, there's nothing worse than stale peanuts.
The Coyotes at the board, so we'll get that one up when it's announced. But I think it's interesting that I would have thought a team like Montreal would take a chance because that could go within their development window, and then you have a chance to get a guy on his ELC when he's 21, 22 years old, ready to go. He's going to be a real good professional. So I was a little bit surprised that they didn't go that route because of the plan. But you're right. I mean, if you have a guy who you think is going to become a top defender in the NHL, then we saw with the Vegas Golden Knights. It's one of the things that folks here in Winnipeg have been lamenting is that big defense. So we'll see what happens. The pick is in. People can tell us who it was at for the Phoenix, Arizona Coyotes. Or what are they called now? The Glendale Coyotes or the
Mullet Coyotes? Tempe Coyotes.
The Tucson Coyotes.
Scottsdale Coyotes. Yeah. Tucson, Maricopa County. I have no idea. Not going to be in Arizona for very long, Coyotes. Let's
Simashev, Ezzy. It was Simashev.
I think that's a pretty big surprise as well, right? If you look at the consolidated rankings, which obviously takes all rankings, I don't think he was even in the top 10. Just looking at future considerations right now, I think they had him. Was it just checking right now, Dave? I don't even think he was in their top 15. So give me a second and I'll try to find a scouting report on him. But he is obviously a Russian player. Kind of funny that they go with him over Matvei Michkov, but he had 10 points in 29 games in the Russian Junior League last year. And he played a little bit in the KHL as well, 18 games.
There you go. Okay, as we're not quite into our first hour of the broadcast, but we haven't even taken a break yet. Now, Drew and I didn't take a break yesterday, and Drew was rather proud of that. But you know what? Drew's not on the show. Drew's not the host of the show. So Ezzy and I are going to take a little break. We're going to come back as who's up next, who's picking next. So we'll give people a little update as to who's going to be the next team on the clock. I think you said Philly.
The 7th overall pick is Philly. Yep. And then you've got Washington, number 8. Detroit's got the 9th overall pick. And then the St. Louis Blues round out the top 10.
All righty, we're going to go to some commercials. So thank our sponsors and take a little break. And Ezzy and I will be back in a few minutes. You've been listening to the Illegal Curve Draft Show.
Keeping Winnipeg laughing for over 30 years. Rumors, Canada's longest running comedy club, bringing you the biggest laughs from the best comedians on the planet. Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Jon Stewart, Dennis Miller, Brad Garrett, the greats, and all the up-and-comers too. When was the last time you laughed out loud? Make it a great night out with friends or book your office or birthday party. Even a fundraising event at Rumors. Get all the details and dates on upcoming shows at rumorscomedyclub.com.
Hi, Ez. A strange question for you. But why are you lying on the ground being crushed by a piano?
Well, Drew, I definitely tried to carry this baby grand piano down the stairs by myself, and somehow I failed miserably.
Right. Yeah, sorry, that was a silly question on my part. My apologies. Would you like me to call Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage to help you move the piano? They are the most experienced piano moving company in Winnipeg, after all.
Yes, please call Rolly's and hurry. This piano is very, very heavy.
Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage offers stress-free residential moving services while taking great care of your personal belongings, including your piano. At Rolly's, no job is too big or too small. For more information, visit Rolly's.com.
Hi, it's Drew from Illegal Curve here. Selling your home can be stressful, but it wasn't for me. Thanks to my friends at Zappia Group Realty, they made the process so easy. My home sold within 48 hours and with multiple offers. Zappia Group Realty took care of everything with their exquisite customer service and attention to detail. If you want to sell your home for more in less time, get started by talking to Frank and Mauro Zappia of Zappia Group Realty. Online at zappiagroup.com.
Hey, Drew.
Ezzy, whoa, what a smile!
Yeah, I got my crowns done at Linden Market Dental Center, and they whiten my teeth.
I see.
They're so bright that every time I smile, they go...
We have hockey tonight. Do you have a mouth guard to protect those pearly whites?
I sure do.
Whoa, they even ting through the mouth guard.
Linden Market Dental Center covers all your dental needs from restorative to cosmetic dentistry and will fit you with a sports guard for that active lifestyle. 877 Waverly. See lindenmarketdental.com.
Boston Pizza harnessed Fanalytics to help optimize no-look dipping. Ooh, making adjustments so you can stay focused on the game. The playoffs at Boston Pizza, powered by Fanalytics.
Welcome back to the Illegal Curve Draft Show. I'm Dave Manouk. He's Ezzy Ginsburg. We are with you all night long on the broadcast, talking about the Winnipeg Jets, who are drafting in 18th right now. Well, not right now, but they'll be drafting in 18th. We just was that the 6th overall, 7th overall? I've already lost track. As
Arizona just drafted 6th overall. Yeah.
But the interesting thing with Arizona, given the fact that, and again, obviously, if that's your player, that's your player.
Dmitry Simashev.
Yes.
And by the way, just a little, before we went to break there, Dmitry Simashev is obviously, as off the board as they come. We were talking about our friends at Future Considerations, FC Hockey. They had him at 24th overall. And then I was taking a look at Craig Button's last draft list. Here we go here. Simashev. Hold on. Let me go down the list here. I don't even know if you had him in the top 20.
Yeah.
Pardon me, top 30. I can't find him at all.
Wow. But I mean, okay, so let's go through the logic here. If that's your case and you have a very good sense that, that's if most draft boards don't have them, and obviously public versus private, the team ones are could be different, but don't you think it's a bit unusual that you wouldn't have traded down? Like if you're the Coyotes, why not trade down? Especially even if you knew Philadelphia wanted to trade up. And
think of all the good players that are still there, right? Like you've got Matvei Michkov, you've got Dalibor Dvorsky. We mentioned a really good Swedish center. Or pardon me, I don't know. No, I think he's Slovakian who played in Sweden. Ryan Leonard, U.S. National Development Program. Matthew Wood, Gabe Perreault, who also played for the U.S. National Development Program. Philly, Keith Jones is up on the podium right now, Dave. So we're going to get the Philly pick in seconds here. You wonder if it's going to be Michkov here, maybe Zach Benson, maybe Gabe Perreault. The way things are going, they might go completely off the board because when it comes to Dmitry Simashev, he was a guy that I wasn't even my radar for the first 20, 25 picks.
So that's why, that's not good asset management to me. And again, we don't know what other teams' boards could look like, and you don't want to have him.
This is Arizona we're talking about here. So
yeah, I know. Like I don't know. I'm just a little surprised that you wouldn't have tried to take advantage of that. If you're planning on going that far off the board, then to me, that would have made an opportunity. That would have been an opportunity to secure some more draft capital.
So sorry, Dave, just to cut in. Sure. Craig Button had Dmitry Simashev 49th overall.
Wow.
I repeat, 49th overall on his last Craig's list, and he went 6th overall. So that's maybe one of the biggest. It kind of reminds you of Moritz Seider, 6th overall. But the thing is, Moritz Seider was supposed to be a top 20 pick that year. Most scouts had Simashev going kind of late first round, mid second round.
Well, so, Joe, our good friend Joe from Winnipeg had a funny joke. He said,
and Matvei Michkov goes to Philly, by the way, Dave.
I know. I was going to say that in a second, but you didn't let me finish my first thought, which was, you're not just cutting off me, you're cutting off Joe from Winnipeg ads because it's his point I'm making. But he said that let me put it on the board so you can read it in its glory and then laugh. But he had a good one. He goes, I bet you Arizona picked the wrong Russian by mistake and instead meant Michkov instead of what was his name? Who did they take in? Already forgotten. I was going to say Slipashev or something like that.
Dmitry Simashev, Russian defenseman.
But anyways, the point is that the Philadelphia Flyers just taught Michkov, and so the Philadelphia Flyers will have him sometime down the line. But you know what? I think that's a good plan. I respect what Daniel Briere and the new brain trust in Philadelphia are doing, because really, what they've decided is we stink. We know we stink. We're not going to be good. We're the suckiest bunch of sucks that ever did suck. And the fact of the matter is that we're better off trading away some of these players, recouping assets. And he's saying, listen, our window is not going to be next year or maybe even the year after, but we're going to be ready to go when this guy is like, they have a plan. And what he's doing is he's putting his plan into place. And I think when you draft a player like this, you're saying to the you're saying to the fan base, listen, we're not going to be good this year. We're not going to be good next year, but we're planning on competing, 2, 3, 4 years down the line. So be ready for that. But you're going to have to bear with us until that time takes.
And we had Craig Button on the show Saturday, and Drew asked him about Michkov, and Button said that, there isn't as much risk as some people think, right? Most NHL prospects or most NHL players don't really establish themselves until that kind of 21 to 23-year-old range, right?
Yep.
Look at Mark Scheifele. Look at Josh Morrissey. There's a long list of players. Look at Cole Perfetti's 21 years old. He's still trying to establish himself, right? Exactly. So I think Matvei Michkov, we've all seen the highlight reels. He pulled the Michigan in the Russian league, and you look at Danny Briere, right? Like, what was Danny Briere known for, right? Being a skilled playmaker, goal scorer, right? And you're right, Dave. Like, he's putting his stamp on this team, right? Like, they know they're not going to be very good next year. So this isn't a draft pick that you make to help your team in the next 2 or 3 years. It's a pick that you make to help your team 3 to 5 years from now, when you hope that, the rebuild is coming to an end and you're starting to now compete for playoff spots on an annual basis, right? So I like this move, and it's what we talked about at the beginning of the show, right? We didn't think that Matvei Michkov was going to go past 7th or 8th overall, because you heard that the Washington Capitals, with their track record of drafting and developing Russian players, obviously with Alex Ovechkin and Evgeny Kuznetsov being at the top of that list, right? So I think this is a really good pick for Philadelphia. And look, I think that, just because the guy's going to be under contract for 3 years, and no, they're not going to be able to break him out of that contract. That's a 3-year contract he's going to play in Russia. But you're going to get a really good player, and you have to think of a guy like Kirill Kaprizov, or you have to think of a guy like Artemi Panarin, right?
Or as David Zirk said, remember the Jets drafted Teemu Selanne in 1987? And they didn't get him until
87 or 88. Yeah. And then he didn't come over until 92, 93, right, Dave? So
I think it was 88. But the point is, and he didn't, because he had to do his Finnish army service, right? So the point is that it's not unheard of. And look at how good Teemu Selanne was when he was ready to come over as. So I think you see that. And again, like you just said, Kirill Kaprizov, if you want a more recent example, and look what he was able to do with Minnesota.
Absolutely. And, we've got Washington, who's on the clock right now. And obviously, they're disappointed that they're not going to get to take Michkov, but there's a lot of good players that are going to be available. Just like there's going to be a lot of good players available for the Jets at 18th overall, and for Philadelphia when they make their next pick at 22nd overall. Craig Button said it, Dave. This is a draft that is deep, 25 to 30 players, right?
Yeah.
It's one of the strongest drafts ever, really. And it's probably the strongest draft since 2015. And we know who went first and second overall in 2015, right? So I think it's a really strong pick. And I'm still scratching my head at what Arizona did.
No, I know. I think we all are. And I don't think that they made the wrong selection. I mean, it's as much as everybody wants to make a joke about, I think they made the wrong decision. I think that was a pick that they could have had. But again, I mean, this is us speculating. We don't know what you hear. And again, they could have heard that, 2 or 3 teams were in on him. And again, they're the ones who have the scouts watching these players. So, I mean, I know it's easy to rip these teams and to make fun of them and say, hey, but look, Arizona very easily could have known that Washington, maybe not Washington, but like Philadelphia or one of these teams was in on him, right? They may have had scouts there. So again, it's easy to throw your hands up and go, well, what the hell is this team thinking? But I think there's a little bit more to it. There's a little more involved. And again, your scouting department, first of all, none of these scouting departments get everything right. The Jets don't get everything right. There's a lot of players who never pan out, so it's not a exact science. But the fact of the matter is, folks spend their entire year preparing for this, and Mark Hillier talked about it. You do the Ivan Hlinka in August, and now he's already, as soon as this is done, he's going to the Ivan Hlinka, getting ready for that next Ivan Hlinka. So I think it's one of those situations where you got to give them a little bit of latitude. I just don't like to me, I think they could have made some more, they could have had some more draft capital as a result. I know Arizona has a lot. I think maybe their problem is Arizona's really good at securing dead contracts. Maybe they're not so good at getting prospects, but they're really good at securing dead money. So they were just
exactly.
like, what are we supposed to do? We don't know what we're supposed to do. Anyway,
well, if they want to come full circle, they can take Blake Wheeler's half of Blake Wheeler's contract if they want. But Washington's about to make their pick, Dave. They're on.
No, they took it. Leonard.
There you go.
I believe they took. I believe they did. That's what Matthew Thompson is telling us. David Zirk is saying Leonard would be a good pick. So maybe. Well, it says that he's been selected. I can't see. It kind of looks like Jansen Harkins, actually, this kid. I don't know who he is, but we'll know in a second.
Yeah, it's Ryan Leonard, confirmed.
Ryan Leonard. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, Ryan Leonard from the U.S. National Development Program here. We talked about him. The line was Will Smith, Ryan Leonard, and Gabe Perreault, if I'm not mistaken. And Craig Button on our show said that Will Smith, Ryan Leonard, and Gabe Perreault was the best line that he saw this year. So Ryan Leonard, he's not a big player. I think he's 5'11", 6 feet, if I'm not mistaken, but really talented player. And, I think, at 8th overall, Washington got a really good player there.
Well, and again, I was going to say, we're talking about Michkov for the Capitals, but the reality is if you're the Capitals with an aging Alexander Ovechkin and Nicholas Backstrom and TJ Oshie, John Carlson, you've got an aging core over there in Washington. And again, I don't know how soon these guys are in terms of getting into an NHL lineup, but maybe you're anticipating or hoping you're going to have someone who could turn the corner a little bit sooner than Michkov to get into that window of helping them out right now, because they still, again, with that group are kind of in win now mode, are they not?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely they are. And, Ovechkin's going to score goal number 894 and 895 a couple seasons from now. He's not going to do it next year, but a couple of seasons from now, he's going to do it. And you're absolutely right. Washington, it's going to be 3 or 4 years from now before they start their rebuild, Dave.
Right.
And, just looking at the scouting report, again, we keep referencing our friends at FC Hockey. If you look at the scouting report, it's all about skill, high hockey IQ, versatile shot. He's going to go to Boston College, which if I'm not mistaken, Will Smith is also going to go to Boston College. So, it seems like every year, the best players go to University of Michigan, University of Minnesota, Boston College. Obviously, University of North Dakota hasn't been as successful, but for many years, they were getting the top prospects. If you think about, Travis Zajac and Jonathan Taves, Zach Parise, TJ Oshie, all the good players UND's had. Tucker Poolman, shout out to the former Jet.
So I think
Ryan Leonard, as we talked about, he's a winger. He's not huge, but he's just a guy, I think, that's an overall great player who makes a lot of good plays and scored the game-winning goal at the U18s, and also is a pretty good defensive player. So he's a player that a lot of scouts think projects as a first-line winger, but even if he projects as a second-line winger, for the Washington Capitals, that's going to be a great draft pick. So again, you've still got Zach Benson on the board, Dave. I think he's going to go, if he doesn't go 9th overall. Who's got the 9th overall pick? Is it the Red Wings?
Red Wings are up now.
Yeah, the Red Wings have the 9th overall pick. And I've got, maybe I'm a little bit higher on Benson, but I keep bringing him up. But, there's still a lot of good players available right now. We talked about Matthew Wood, who also, I believe, did he play for maybe University of Connecticut or the U.S. National Development Program? Edward Saleh, who I believe is Czech, and he is supposed to go somewhere in the top 12 or top 15. So it's going to be interesting, but we're getting closer to the Jets pick here. 9 picks away from the Jets, going a little quicker, Dave, than in previous years. Actually,
I was just going to say, this is traditionally a much longer process, and it feels like it's more streamlined. I don't know if the teams had a meeting in advance, but it seems like, well, I think also there hasn't been a trade, right? We haven't heard Gary go, there's a trade to announce. So I think part of the reason why there's, and even if you notice, and you know this from watching this for many years or being there, oftentimes teams will pause, right? They have an opportunity. They don't have to go right up as soon as it's their pick. You see them make a phone call. You see them having conversations as to whether they're going to make a trade or not make a trade. So that hasn't taken place, right? We haven't seen that happened so far tonight, at least from what I've seen. So I think it's a real interesting draft right now in the way it's kind of playing itself out. And yeah, you're right. As at 18, the Jets are definitely going to be getting a quality player, and whether it's Danielson, a Jaeger, an Oliver Moore, who knows? And we know that Rutger McGroarty like I said, he was on Jets at Noon the other day. He's big, well connected. He's actually in Nashville. He'll be in Winnipeg next week, as will Brad Lambert for the development camp, which gets underway on July 4th to the 8th at Hockey for All Center. So if you're interested in seeing the Jets of tomorrow next week, you can go to the Hockey for All Center. We'll have that schedule up on a little site called legalcurve.com. Steve Eiersman walking up to the podium, and as the Detroit Red Wings have made some very good picks. Oh, Manuke's Antlers are here. What's up, Manuke's Antlers?
And, Edward Saleh, I think I'm pronouncing that name right. We talked about him. He's Czech, good size, really good player, good shot, skilled player. Another guy that we talked to Craig Button about on Saturday was Axel Sandin Pellikka.
Yeah,
a guy that Craig Button had 5th overall on his final rankings. Other scouts had him kind of going in that 10 to 12 range. So it'll be interesting to see if they go with the Swedish defenseman, because we know that, of the long list of great Swedish players, I think there's a guy named, was it Nicholas Lidstrom? Nicholas Lidstrom, I think was his name, right? He was pretty good. I'd say he's the second best defenseman after Bobby Orr. And Moritz Seider, the German defenseman who they took several years back. It'll be interesting to see who they go with here. We'll find out who Stevie Y is going to go with. Colby Barlow is another guy. We talked about Matthew Wood. And another guy, Zach Benson. Is this going to be the
no,
pick
it wasn't Benson.
Zach Benson goes?
It was definitely not Benson, because I know that I know Benson's face. It's not. Matthew Thompson says Danielson. Oh, Nate Danielson, has he? Brandon Wheat King.
Yep. And I know that the Wheat Kings owner, I forget the first name. Last name is Jacobson. The Brandon Wheat Kings owner is in Nashville for the draft, obviously because of Nate Danielson.
I think his first name's Jacob.
No, I believe that's his son.
No, I'm joking.
Or is it Jackson? Jackson Jacobson's his son.
No,
he was drafted by the Wheat Kings.
Jacobson.
The owner of the Wheat Kings is there, but Nate Danielson goes 9th overall, 78 points last year for Nate Danielson. Really talented player. He's not from Manitoba. I believe he's from Alberta, Dave, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Carson
maybe?
Bjarnason is from Carberry. He's expected to go somewhere in that kind of 20 to 28, 30th overall range. Can end up going in the second round, but Nate Danielson.
I was right, by the way, as he from Red Deer.
Yeah, there you go. So I knew it was a little more west of us here in Winnipeg. So Nate Danielson was going to say, in addition to Dubin having some great ginger flow there as he's walking up to the podium, shaking Gary Bettman's hand, he's going to shake Stevie Y's hand in a second. But Nate Danielson, is a really talented player. Maybe went a little bit earlier, but I mean, when you're talking about a center with some decent size, lots of skill, goal scoring ability, and he's got some grit to his game, right? He's a guy that the scouting reports I've read is a guy that's pretty tenacious on the forecheck. So the Wings most likely are going to have a really good NHL player in Nate Danielson.
As didn't read my private note to him where I said, I'm just going to send some tweets out. So you got to keep rolling. I didn't want to do this motion.
Sorry, Dave. I was on another browser. I didn't see that. I can keep talking about Nate Danielson if you want.
Please do.
Didn't see him play a ton, obviously, but I know he was one of the top players for the Wheat Kings. We mentioned put up 78 points for the Brandon Wheat Kings this past year, and just adds to a great stable of prospects there in Detroit. I mean, this Detroit Red Wings team is going to be a team that
Can you hear me right now? You can? Oh, I can't hear. That's really weird. I can't hear you.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Whew. I was a little bit bizarre. Someone was, everyone who was I muted or was Ezzy muted? Someone was muted and I couldn't hear you. And all of a sudden I was like, what is going on right now? I thought I was hearing something. Anyways, I'm back. I got the tweet out. It was a very good tweet, guys. Very important. Very important. More importantly, not as important as you smashing that like button here on the Illegal Curve Draft Show to let Ezzy and I know that you're loving this show. And I haven't checked, Ez, because I asked everyone after the end of last night's show if they'd go on our iTunes or wherever you can leave comments on podcasts and drop a comment on the Illegal Curve podcast. It doesn't have to be a positive comment. Those are the comments I prefer because I don't want negative ones. But, regardless, if you want to give constructive criticism, maybe send me an email. let me know. Someone else recently just constructively criticized me, not in a bad way, just gave some suggestions. I said, that's fine. But if you're going to be able to leave a comment on our iTunes and let us know, rate us, of course, and give us some love, smash that like button, and make sure, again, if I can ask you, if you're not already, make sure you're subscribing to the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Even if you're not going to be one of the chatters, we would like it for you to be able to be on the show. You can, like I said, you don't have to chat, but it's always helpful if you're subscribed and letting us know that you enjoy what we are able to do. And that's what we get. We get that positive reinforcement when we see our subscription numbers go up. We went over 5,000 of Saturday show ads, and now we're approaching 5,100. So we're climbing. We're still climbing ever more. And we appreciate everybody's support here on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, Illegal Curve Post-Game Show. And as quickly, because it's on a commercial break right now, so I'm going to ask you a question. The schedule came out. How beautiful is the schedule? The fact that it came out and the Jets are playing the LA Kings for the third game of the season. So Pierre-Luc Dubois will be in Winnipeg. It's the second home game. First game, of course, against Paul Maurice and the Florida Panthers. The first game period. So the season opener will be in Calgary on the road. But the first home game will be against Florida Panthers. And then 2 days later, Pierre-Luc Dubois and the LA Kings come to town.
Yeah, pretty awesome. The Jets get to see Paul Maurice, Matthew Tkachuk, AL early in the season, and then the Jets get to see the new Pierre-Luc Dubois on the LA Kings. So you got to like that. Just wanted to go back, Dave, to what I was talking about before with Nate Danielson. So it's Jared Jacobson. Sorry, I couldn't remember his first name. He's the owner of the Wheat Kings, who obviously bought the team from Kelly McCrimmon, who obviously is now the GM of the Vegas Golden Knights. Won a Stanley Cup. St. Louis Blues are going to get up to the podium here and make the 10th overall pick. Just wanted to read a scouting report for those who are a little bit more curious about Nate Danielson. He's a plug-and-play center who excels in all three zones, displaying smooth and fluid skating and quick decision-making with the puck. He supports his defenders both in battles and as a low outlet option below the hash marks, effectively separating opponents from the puck into the defensive and neutral zones. Danielson is known for his active stick in defending using pokes and strong stick lifts and his wingspan, which deters attackers. He has drawn interest for his size, poise, and finesse in stick handling and passing. So that just tells you, I mean, he's a real skilled player. Even though we thought he was going to kind of go in more of that 12 to 18 range. Obviously the Red Wings like what they saw from Nate Danielson with his time in the Wheat Kings, and they snatched him up. And I think the Blues
did just make their pick, Ezzy. They went 10th overall, and they took Dvorsky, I think is what Matthew Thompson, who's been very helpful. Shelley also. So they're telling us Dvorsky at 10 to the St. Louis Blues. There was Doug Armstrong, didn't take any hesitation. He went up there. He didn't allow anybody else to make that selection. He's like, I got this. He went right up to that podium. So as we're flying along here, I mean, we're already through 10 picks. It's 7:20. I mean, this could be the fastest show in the history of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. And we've done a lot of these since we've been in business, but so there you go. Dvorsky going to the St. Louis Blues, 10th overall. What can you tell us about that? And again, as folks are noticing in the chat, this means guys like Perreault, Benson, Moore are starting to slide and becoming more and more. And that's what Mark Hillier talked about. They're guys that they have at 9, 10, 11 are there at 18. You're going to watch him sprint to that podium to make that selection for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, and what's got to stand out to you too as well is that only a couple of defensemen, or no, was it 3 defensemen have gone so far in the top 10. Axel Sandin Pellikka, a guy who we talked to Craig Button a lot about on Saturday's show. He's still available there. Dvorsky is a guy who was ranked as high as 7th overall by some scouts. And what stands out, and this isn't going to surprise a lot of people, highly skilled, versatile, has an elite shot, high hockey IQ, great vision. I'm reading the scouting report here. Also exhibits strong puck protection skills. He's aggressive on the forecheck, tenacious and digging for pucks. Sounds like he'd be a great Winnipeg Jet, by the way, if he was available at 18th overall. Says that Dvorsky's speed and acceleration still need improvement, but he's got an exceptional understanding of the game and ability to make the right play in all situations. And he has the ability to contribute at the NHL level on the power play. So obviously, the St. Louis Blues are a team that have been, active in the trade market. Kevin Hayes, former Winnipeg Jet, is now reunited with his friend Torrey Krug in St. Louis, and now they've got a really, exactly for now. So they've got a really talented player there in Dvorsky, who's obviously got some good size at 6'1". He's a center. I'm not sure if he projects as a center or a winger at the NHL level. But you're right, Dave. I mean, there's a lot of good players that are still left, and that's what we expected. That is exactly what we expected. Tom Wielander, Swedish defenseman, is another guy who you expect to kind of go in the next 4 or 5 picks here. Colby Barlow from the Ontario Hockey League, left winger. He's another guy. Caleb Ritchie, the Oshawa Generals. But I wonder here, if Zach Benson goes in the next 2 or 3 picks. And again,
Todd believes that.
Yeah, I mean, if Zach Benson goes, past 13th or 14th overall, then the Winnipeg Jets, I think, are going to be licking their lips here, because he's such a talented player who's obviously not going to be playing in Winnipeg, unfortunately, because of the move to Washington State with the Wild, Wenatchee. But
where do you announce it? Where do you announce you're taking? If you're taking Zach Benson, do you say from the Winnipeg Ice, or do you say the Wenatchee Wild?
I think you've got to say Wenatchee Wild, Dave. I mean, I think, if you say the Winnipeg Ice, I mean, the Winnipeg Ice have moved. They no longer exist. I know it's weird to say that, but they're no longer playing in Winnipeg. So I think
we got a little breaking news. It's not of the hockey variety, and I threw it up on the board, but I want to just give a special shout out to the Illegal Curve intern. She's the intern not just for us, but also for Winnipeg Sports Talk, Kenny and Rennie, and all the Winnipeg sports podcasts. But Bailey graduated today, so congratulations to Bailey, the official intern.
High school's coming up.
Got big things coming up. So congratulations to Bailey on the graduation. Enjoy your summer, but the Legal Curve isn't going anywhere. And like I said, that schedule came out as 82 games with us on the post-game show. We got Saturday shows till at least the end of July. Remember, free agency. I mean, this is the crazy thing about this schedule right now. We've got the draft right now till tomorrow. Then you got free agency on Saturday. And then, the Canucks are going to be up there, the 11th pick, the team with the 11th overall pick. And then after that, you've got development camp. You've got, again, the free agency kind of peters out till about the middle of July. And we're going to keep on going. We're going to keep on rolling until at least the end of July. And then we take off August, and we'll be back the second weekend of September with our Rebirth Illegal Curve hockey show. And then, of course, the postgame show gets going in October, but it looks like Rutherford and company are getting up to the podium right now to I almost said Jeremy Rutherford, but I was like, no, that's not. I was thinking St. Louis, Jeremy Rutherford, Jim Rutherford, and the Vancouver Canucks are heading up to the podium with the.
Is Oliver Moore an option here, Dave? Is Gabe Perreault an option? Well, of course they're options, but you know what I mean. Is that going to be the selection? Right? We talked about Zach Benson. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to watch him? You just have to go a little bit south to Wenatchee, right?
I always love, by the way, I always love when they have the name bar on the back of the jersey. Like when the team has the confidence, and you're like Philadelphia didn't have Mitchkov because I'm assuming they thought he was gone before. But I always watch to see if the name bar is actually on the back. What is with the pick is in? I feel like I'm watching like Maury Povich right now. It's like the results are in. Well, now it's, by the way, speaking of, as a complete aside, a buddy of mine sent me a thing. Apparently Maury Povich is now doing home pregnancy tests.
That's
the
amazing.
Results are in. I don't know if it's real or not, but he sent it to me and I started howling. So
whether that's real or not, that's amazing. But Dave, I'm just gonna wait for the Patrick Allvin and the Canucks to make the pick. Could be Oliver Moore, could be Zach Benson, could be Gabe Perreault, could be
not Zach Benson. I can tell you right now, it's not Zach Benson. He looks like a European kid, so I'm gonna guess he's I don't know.
Edward Saleh, we talked about.
Why is the chat not helping us out? Come on, chat. You guys are ahead of us. Ezzy and I are behind. Well, we don't know yet. I mean, it's amazing. Kind of weird that they're not posting it on
They don't post the name.
Oh, it's Wielander.
Wielander. Okay. Tom Wielander, we talked about. Swedish defenseman. I believe he's right shot, Dave, because we talked to Craig Button about him. Just pull up his report here. I believe he's a right shot defenseman, but he was one of the top defensemen projected to go. I think most scouts had him as the third or fourth best defenseman.
Yeah.
So I think that makes a lot of sense. And obviously, let's be honest, the Canucks aren't very strong on defense. Obviously, right. Quinn Hughes is one of the, I'd say, a top 20 defenseman in the NHL. But after that, they just bought out Oliver Ekman-Larsson, right? So kind of funny. They buy out one Swedish defenseman, then they draft another Swedish defenseman. But Tom Wielander, I think, based on what Craig Button was telling us on Saturday's show, I think his offensive upside isn't as strong, but he's a guy that's a really excellent defenseman, and I think most scouts believe he'll be a top 4, even top 2 defenseman at the NHL level. So I think that's a safe pick for the Canucks at number 11.
Well, again, like it really is fascinating to watch. I mean, it's amazing and we prepare for the draft, but we don't do what scouts do, and we don't do what a lot of these prospect experts do. But it really is amazing to watch the way this first round plays out, because again, teams have to evaluate what is it that they need. You know, are you going for the best player available? Are you going for organizational need? And of course, most would go with best player available. But there are some very good players that potentially could fall to the Winnipeg Jets with just 5 more picks left, I think, or before the Jets pick, or 6 more picks before the Jets
Arizona's
get
up next, Dave, at number 12.
At 12, yeah.
And then you've got Buffalo 13, Pittsburgh, Nashville, Calgary, Detroit gets another pick, and then Winnipeg at 18.
There you go. All right. Well, you know what? We're going to be joined very soon, and by very soon, I mean right away, by Mr. Jet Setting himself, Scotty Billick of the Winnipeg Sun. He is going to join us to talk about all things Winnipeg Jets here on this special edition of the Illegal Curve NHL draft coverage, brought to you by our friends at Betway. So let's bring Scott in without further ado. Scott, how art thou?
It's good. Is my mic better? Like, does my mic work? Can you hear me?
It is good.
Crystal clear,
some
Scotty.
issues. There's some issues earlier. So
I just have your back, Scott. I didn't. It's not like I tweeted it at you. I
didn't have to. Other people did. So yeah. It's all good.
Scott, we were just talking about this like 5 or 10 minutes ago. Is this not going faster, much faster than previous years? Because when we were texting, I asked you to come on at 7:30 because I was thinking the Jets would pick at maybe 8:30 at the earliest.
Well,
the way things are going, the Jets might pick at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, 8's still fine, I guess. I mean, whatever. I'm fine with earlier because I still got to write about all this crap. So,
what have your impressions been so far, Scott? Because obviously, you know, it was a surprise that Adam Fantilli went 3rd overall. Not that big of a surprise because we thought Carlson was going to go 3rd overall. But what have your kind of macro level impressions been of the first 11 picks?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know. Is Michkov falling that far that big of a surprise? I don't know. I mean, part of my wonder with him is, I mean, there's a lot of things with Michkov, right? I mean, he's got a KHL contract. I believe there's some character concerns, and so if that's the case with him, maybe I'm not surprised that Arizona, who took Mitchell Miller in 2020, and that didn't work out, and then Montreal, they took Logan Mailloux, right? So I wonder if those teams maybe just kind of steered clear. But I mean, I think the one pick is the and I'm going to butcher the name, Simishev, I think it is.
Dmitry Simchev, yeah, 6th
like,
overall to Arizona.
That's a weird one only because like you could have taken a lot of guys, right? I mean,
or you could have traded it. You could have traded it to move down.
Right, exactly. I mean, I think some of the mocks that I read from even Sam Constantino, who's on here, had him. I think going to Toronto at 28th maybe. The carpet did not move. It's still there. It's literally over. I guess if you're looking at me, over my right shoulder. It's over my right shoulder. I'm not good with the mirror.
I think it's fallen down a little bit. It's
has it? I mean,
the carpet's underneath you, Scott. That's where it is.
Well, there is some carpet underneath me too. Yeah, that's the old carpet that used to be under here. So, anyways, yeah. I mean, nothing else. So, I mean, I think if I was just, I mean, I'm looking at Sam's thing. I've looked at a few of them now, but I mean, the Carlson Fantilli thing. I mean, there was talk that Anaheim would potentially not take Fantilli. So, I mean, who knows? I mean, this is the thing with the draft, right? Every year there's something. And we go all the way back to 2011. I don't think many people thought the Jets were taking Mark Scheifele that year, right? And Mark Scheifele goes early in the draft there, earlier than he was destined to be. And
do you think he's had a better NHL career than Sean Couturier? And I'm just kidding.
Oh, geez. Yeah, do you want to go there? Well, I mean, Scheifele's playing still, and Sean Couturier was out all year last year, I think. So, but yeah, nothing really. I mean, Zach Benson hasn't gone yet, although Arizona's still up here. We'll see. The interesting thing with the Coyotes is they like their ice players. So when
they didn't take them,
they
didn't
take them.
No.
So I'm watching on my computer, and so like I hate Sportsnet when I'm watching on my computer because it's always like there's already a delay when you watch Sportsnet just live. Like we're at the games all the time in the press box, and anytime it's a Sportsnet game, it's always like 30 seconds to a minute behind. But then when you're watching it on your computer instead of on TV, there's like another 30 seconds tacked onto it here.
Daniel Booth.
Yeah. So he was high up there too. I'll say this. I think the one thing for the Winnipeg Jets here is that they're getting somebody good at 18, right? Like, I mean, they're already on, what is this? This is the 12th selection.
Yeah.
I mean,
Buffalo's up next.
So Perreault's still left. Benson's still left. Barlow's still left. Jaeger's still left. Oliver Moore. I mean, so
Axel
there's a lot of guys
Pellica.
left. Right. Like if they can get him to fall. I mean, this is the part where you wondered, do the Jets start actually looking to maybe trade up for a guy that they want? I don't know.
And that's what I was going to mention, Scotty. That's almost the biggest surprise so far is that no teams have traded up, right? You heard Philly might, make a move to trade their 22nd overall pick and the 7th overall pick to Montreal at number 5.
Yeah.
But obviously
then they found out they didn't need to because I think they wanted
so you wonder if there's going to be a trade here.
Yeah. Yeah, so you do wonder, right? I mean, I don't know who's next. Who's next up? It's Buffalo next.
Buffalo
up.
At 13. Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Nashville.
I mean, maybe Pittsburgh. It'd be interesting to see what they do with Pittsburgh, right? We've heard Pittsburgh maybe in some trade discussions with the Jets. I mean, I don't know if you're going to see anything big here with it. With I know Pittsburgh's interested in obviously in maybe potentially in Blake Wheeler a little bit, but that's not gonna make them trade down. I don't know. I mean, that's the thing, right? At this point, the Jets might know roughly who guys are drafting to still, right? Like that's the other thing. I mean, we heard Philly talk a little bit about it on the broadcast here, and part of their thing is, well, we kind of knew he was going to fall at this point. Once a couple teams didn't take him, we kind of figured he'd fall to the 7th pick. So you didn't really have to kind of worry about it at that point. So perhaps the Jets know, where it's going, but we'll see. I mean, I don't know what they take. I mean, honestly, I think if Sandin Pellica fell as far as 18, they would take him, even if Zach Benson's on the table. I think the idea of being a big right-handed shot defenseman into the prospect system is exactly what this Jets team needs.
And he plays with Elias Salmonson.
Right. All right. So there's the connection there, of course. I mean, they've taken Swedes in the past, obviously David Gustafsson, Salmonson. They got Simon Lundmark. There's other guys that I'm just not thinking of right now. But yeah, so just kind of looking at how this is going, it'll be interesting to kind of see who falls them. But I think the blanket statement here is they're going to have a good pick. And whether it's a big defenseman like the right-handed guy there and whatever his name is, the Swede. I'm going to call him the Swede because
Axel Jansson's.
This is a selfish reason why I don't want the Jets to take him. Typing Johnson Fialbi all last season with the hyphen was so annoying. I don't know about it.
I was trying to do Dominic DiVincentis today, Scott. Let me tell you, that wasn't
I know easy. That one's at least it's one name. Like once you finally figure it out. Like it's not that you start getting the muscle memory, right? So it's just really easy to do.
Well, Daniil Butt would be much easier if he slipped to 18th. By the way, I was just looking. Speaking of the Coyotes and reaching at 6th overall with Dmitry Simashev, most scouts had Daniil Butt going late in the first round. Craig Button had him ranked 30th overall, but obviously, I mean, this is a crapshoot, right? Like it doesn't matter where any of these guys are ranked. All that matters is where the respective NHL teams' amateur scouting stuff has them ranked, right?
Well, and it's interesting that Arizona is now taking. Well, where's Simashev from? Is he from?
Simashev is a Russian defenseman.
Is he Russian? Yeah. So they've taken 2 Russians now. So that's interesting. I don't know. I don't know what that means because they've taken 2 Russians that are sort of kind of off the board, right? Like, I mean, so what's the connection there? I mean, I imagine that gets talked about at some point. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's gone like every draft, right? Like there's always something in every draft that kind of shakes up, what's happening, right? And so, we've seen that. We obviously saw that, with the 5th overall pick, who, what was his name? The guy that Carey Price couldn't remember, David Reinbacher.
Oh, Reinbacher, yeah.
Going there. So yeah, I mean, and then it's all kind of changed because Michkov didn't go early. I mean, obviously there's the fact that he might not play in the NHL for 3 years, which I mean, it's interesting because we think that, and because Michkov is so good, right, and so highly touted, he's the type of player that maybe could come in at 18 or 19 and play right away. He has that contract in the KHL. I don't know how if he can get out of it or not. But you kind of think of guys
that's the craziest thing. But I don't think Philadelphia cares, right? Like I think they're
prepared,
right?
Right, because some guys wait till they're 20 to 21 to get into the NHL anyway. So Michkov will be there. I mean, I think part of it is like we've seen guys come over from the KHL and really succeed at times. We've seen guys come over and not succeed in the NHL. But I mean, what do you want this guy to come and play in junior now when he's tearing up the KHL? Like I don't know. I don't know if that would be the best development plan for him anyways, other than him coming and playing in the NHL. But maybe Philly doesn't see that as something that he, is ready for just yet either. Who knows? I mean, this is the thing with all these guys. You never know what each team kind of thinks of all of them. So, So
how great, just to jump in here, Scotty, like, we've got the 13th overall pick, as Dave mentioned, Buffalo Sabres here. And I'm going to keep talking about Zach Benson. Maybe it's the recency bias because he was here in Winnipeg, playing for the Ice, putting up 98 points in the regular season. And I realized, okay, Western Hockey League might be a little higher scoring, everything like that. But like, wouldn't it be funny if Buffalo took Zach Benson? They've already got Matthew Savoy.
Zach Benson.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
So they've already got Matthew Savoy there, who obviously was Benson's teammate with the Winnipeg Ice. And now Wenatchee Wild are going to have him. So, I mean, there you go. I mean, I couldn't imagine Zach Benson falling all the way to 18th overall. He's just way too skilled.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just retweeting your tweet so people know that I'm here.
Yeah, let's go, Scott. Get us up. Get those numbers up.
I just forgot about it now. I'm trying to remember that more and more, but I'm on like I'm on a big sports talk or Kenny and Rennie or all those things. But yeah, I think that's a great pick. Look at that mullet, man. Holy smokes. There we go. What a beauty.
But, Scott, we were talking about talking about Zach Benson before.
Sorry, he asked a question. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea. Like, I mean, hey, if you like a certain program, and this is one of the reasons why I thought maybe Benson might go to Arizona, because, like, if you like Connor Geekie, I mean, you probably like the idea that you have another guy that's been coached and developed and all that by the same team that maybe is. I mean, Buffalo obviously is happy about what they got here because I think they've sort of see the same pipeline out of the the former Winnipeg Ice, now the Wenatchee Wild. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think it's good. It's good for Buffalo, who gets two players out of the same program, two teammates, two guys who've played together. I mean, that's I mean, that's something that you would obviously, I think, like as a team. And we've seen this in the past before, where guys take players that are out of the same program or teammates at college or whatever, right? So yeah, it's interesting to see.
Well, the continuation of the draft coverage here on Illegal Curve continues to roll on. We are approaching the end of our second hour, and we're going to keep going all night long, Scott. That's what we do here on our draft coverage show. We don't end. We just keep it rolling. Of course, we know you're going to have some writing to do, but we're not going to keep you that long. We'll keep you a little bit longer because the Jets still have. I think there's 5 more picks before they go.
What a great jersey, this Sabres jersey.
Oh,
sorry,
amazing.
I agree.
I'm just off the cuff here, but like that old, like I like the old. I never liked the Buffalo Slug, which was like the I never liked that one.
Yeah,
but I love the Beeman Buffalo. I like the one that Hasek kind of was in all the time and all that.
I was going to say, it makes you think of Hasek or Patty LaFontaine.
Oh yeah, Patty LaFontaine for sure. What's his name that got Brian? The guy who just absolutely blew up RJ Umberger that one time. Brian Campbell, I think it was. Maybe it was.
Brian Campbell.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So, but I remember those days because I used to watch Buffalo quite a bit because I just loved Hasek, right? And so, I was a big fan of that growing up. But this jersey that I want one of these jerseys, like this blue, royal blue with the thing, like the old school kind of throwback. I love it. I love that old Sabres jersey.
Would you put Hasek on the back, or would you just go with Billick?
I wouldn't put I don't put names on the back of jerseys anymore. I mean, I used to when I was a kid. But now it's just like, whatever. I'm just not that guy anymore. Like it's funny. People are, I still have people that are like, oh, it's so cool that you get to, see these guys and talk to these guys every day and all that stuff. But they just become regular kind of people to you, right? Like it's not. Yeah. And I just don't really cheer for anybody in the NHL. Like I just have
of course not.
No, you got to stay
no,
biased. I mean, we
Well,
get that.
yeah,
We
well,
get that as journalists, Scotty, right? We know that we have to be unbiased. I can
Yeah.
This,
say
by the
that,
way,
Dave.
hold on. Sorry, they're showing on the television. That was the Saskatoon,
this
the
Oh,
play against Saskatoon that I
right,
talked about,
yeah.
where Benson went into the neutral zone, stole the puck, and then just scored an absolute
Yeah.
beauty goal. The kid's got just. I know he's small, but he's got unbelievable desire
Well, and that's
to
why
score.
a lot of scouts had him, 5th overall, 6th overall, 7th overall, right, Dave? So I
Yep.
think at 13th overall, I mean, I don't
It's
know
kind of
if
like
you would call it
Perfetti, right?
You wouldn't call it a steal, but it's good value at number 13.
Well, it's like Cole Perfetti. Cole Perfetti was seen as a top 5 player originally in 2020, and he fell to the Jets at 10. And a lot of people were surprised that he fell, and part of it was because he wasn't big.
I still think size plays. And for me, I thought I didn't think Benson was going to go in the top 10 because of his size, right? Like we see this. I mean, I think part of the draft always gets the recency bias of the playoffs that just ended and all that, where you're always talking at the end, you're always talking Vegas was a big team. They had a big defenseman, all that. And so you get to the draft and a lot of people are like, well, I don't want, a small guy. I want big guys that help me win Stanley Cups. Right. But we're seeing in the NHL that small guys are able to operate and look at the Cole Caulfields or, the Jets obviously have Perfetti and we'll see how that goes. But there is still worry that these guys get, hit around and it's difficult to get injured. And we've seen that with Perfetti now. That doesn't mean that they're bad players. It's just, at times I still think there is a bias towards take the bigger center, take the bigger defenseman, right? Take the 6'6" goalie, not the 5'11" goalie, right? I mean, we talk about the Winnipeg Ice. I mean, Daniel Hauser's a good goaltender, but he's like 5'9". Like he's not a big guy, right? I mean, and that's just not how you draft goalies anymore. And so those guys, I mean, you look at, but you look, there's outliers. UC Saros isn't huge, but I mean, he's arguably one of the best. Well, arguably, I mean, not arguably, he's one of the best goaltenders in the NHL. So, yeah, it's interesting to see. We got Pittsburgh up here now. What are they going to do?
Kyle Dubas specifically.
Kyle Dubas, yeah. They didn't trade down, that's for sure.
No, they did not. They stuck with the pick, and they made the pick.
Oh, Brandon Yeager. So I like Yeager.
Moose Jaw Warrior.
I watched him. Yeah, well, so I watched him during the series, and he was the reason why the Moose Jaw Warriors were able to take games off of the Winnipeg Ice. He had a hell of a series. I think he had four goals and 10 points in that series.
Mm-hmm.
I had Yeager on my list for the Jets potentially. I mean, he's not the biggest center. Like he's a big guy. Like he's tall, but he weighs less than some of the other guys. I think he gives up about 20 pounds to some of the other guys around that spot. But I like Yeager. I thought he was really good. I thought the way that he played against the Ice was, they just didn't have anybody else on that Moose Jaw team to really kind of drive them kind of past the ice there. But they gave them fits that in that series for a couple of games there that put the ice behind before they came. So yeah. And yeah, Yeager bombs. Yeah. I mean, that's just a great, the kid's got a bit of a heavy shot too. So it's not just that, I like him. I think he's a good player and he would have been a good Jet, I think. So, but
I was just going to say that, Scott, you wonder, I mean, if that was the Jets right now are for sure just going with the flow, right? Like they're going to take the best player on their list. But as you mentioned, Braden Yager, 78 points with the Moose Jaw Warriors, is considered to have one of the best shots in the draft. Just reading his scouting report. But when you talk about the speed, the skating, the two-way ability, I mean, this guy projects as a easy, a top 6 player, top 6 forward at the NHL level. He's a center. And obviously we know that the Jets probably would draft a center if they could here. So Braden Yager. And another thing too, is that if you looked at the beginning of the season, Braden Yager was ranked kind of in that 5th.
Is it Yager? Is it Yager?
Not
Yeager?
I think it's Yeager.
Sorry.
Okay.
Braden Yeager.
No, I'm not trying to like.
But he's actually Yarmir's nephew. That's
Either
why
way, Scotty, we can do Yeager bombs.
There you go. Yes, that's right. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Ezzy. But yeah, no, I mean, I still Axel Sandin Pelech is still there.
Pelech,
Pelech, sorry.
They've got 4 picks. It's crazy. They've got Oliver Moore. They've got
so
many.
Colby Barlow. Colby Barlow is a guy that I would have to think out of the Ontario Hockey League is a guy. What was it? Was it Owen Sound that he played for, Dave?
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah. Owen Sound.
Owen Sound attack, 79 points last year. He's a
youngest
left winger
captain in their team history.
Yeah,
and
they love their captains.
And really one of the very few OHL guys that are probably going to go in this first round. And I don't know how much you guys have talked about the OHL thing because this is really the first the first year of the pandemic really affecting developments, especially in the OHL, which was shut down completely. And this is why you're seeing WHL guys go high this year. It's because they got in that 24 game bubble season, right? And so that's it doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a lot, right? Because you're still playing, you're still training, you're playing hockey still, right? And so obviously the US players were still playing, the European leagues, they had some guys still playing and that sort of thing. But the OHL is taking a hit in this draft, right? I mean, and it's not it's not anything that the OHL could deal. This was I believe Ontario sport minister was very against doing anything about that during that time, if I remember correctly, covering COVID for so long. But I mean, you look at the guys here. Oliver Moore, Gabriel Perreault is still there. Samuel Horonzek, who's massive. Sorry, he's I think he's 6'5" or 6'6", just like just a tank, right? Matthew Wood's still there. Colby Barlow, like you said.
Axel Sandin Pelika.
I still think they're taking him if he falls there. I mean, that's my guess because you listen to Kevin Shoveldayoff earlier. I don't know how much you guys kind of.
I listened. I'm still trying to figure out if they're in their championship window or not.
We don't really know what he said, Scott. We listened to it, but we're not sure.
The one interesting thing he said though, and to me that stuck out more than anything was the Cole Perfetti, and they're going to try him at center. At center,
yeah. I picked that up too.
Like to me, that's okay. What does that mean then for this team, right? Like, I mean, obviously they still want centers in there coming up, but are they going to? Are they only really looking for one center now in free agency or in a trade, obviously with Hellebuck or what they do? But it'd be interesting. I mean, there's a lot of big and good centers still left here. I mean, it's quite interesting.
Well, you are listening to Illegal Curve's coverage of the NHL draft round 1. We are Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg, joined. We're probably at the midway point, joined by the Winnipeg Sun's Scott Billick. Scott has all your coverage for the Winnipeg Sun. Oh, Scott, we're Pepsi
Zero Sugar.
But I got a cherry.
Where did you get that from? You went to the States?
Superstore has it now.
They get the cherry Zero Sugar.
Did I buy it at Superstore? Where did I buy it?
This is a great conversation. I love
Walmart, I think.
Yeah, Walmart. I know it's not at Walmart, man. I've been looking everywhere for this cherry stuff. But anyway. Buy it.
Well, you know what, Scott, I bought 2 packs. So if you want, I've got some in my house. You can come here, or I've got some at the office if you want some at the office.
Dave invited me over. All right. Yeah.
Hey, if I let Ginsburg in my house, I'll let almost anybody except for Mindell. But this is the Joe from Winnipeg. He's got our back. It is Superstore.
It is Superstore. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Scott, if you want me to, I will pick up a pack of 12 for you, if that's what you're asking. If you can't find it,
you can always buy me a 12 pack. It doesn't even have to be Diet Pepsi. So
okay,
it's all
not
good.
Diet Pepsi, it's Pepsi Max. Come on, let's get it right.
Zero sugar, actually.
Yeah, zero sugar.
Yeah.
But anyways, David Poyle is up. He's making a selection for Nashville.
This will be the last selection. Well,
I feel like this is going to be one of the Americans from the U.S. national program. Oliver Moore.
I was going to say this feels like an Oliver Moore pick.
Looks like Matthew Wood actually. So,
yeah. Matthew Wood.
It is Matthew Wood.
Matthew Wood.
Okay, he's an American, right? University of Connecticut.
He is out of the university.
Give us the 411 on Matthew Wood, Ezzy.
Yeah, you're gonna have to. 'Cause I don't know.
Matthew Wood. Hold on, let me pull him up here. If you give me a second here.
I thought you had this on the top of your head.
Yeah, what's going on here, Ginsburg?
Let's get Matthew Wood here. I think he's a bigger player, 6'4" right winger. Matthew Wood is Canadian though, but he played for the University of Connecticut. Wood is a dominant player with impressive size and strength, excelling in offensive exploits and demonstrating a maturity in his game, a pro-style forward with a well-balanced offensive toolbox. Wood checks all the boxes for scouts. His ability to scan the ice well and maintain open body positioning for better vision of his options are valuable traits. So that's for our friends at Future Considerations. With the right development, Wood could become a modern power forward with a great shot size and a nose for the net, making him a sought-after asset. So he goes 15th overall to the Nashville Predators, which means we only have 2 more picks before the Jets pick at 18th. Are you going to be able to stay on with us, Scotty, for the 18th overall pick?
I can stay on for the 18th, and then I got to go.
So we've got Oliver Moore. We've got Gabriel Perreault. We've got Axel Sandin Pelika.
Barlow, Colby Barlow.
Colby Barlow.
There's a lot of good players.
Jets have like 5 or 6 really good players.
I mean, this
is to pick from.
I said it earlier. I mean, I think I tweeted out this is shaping up nicely around the 10th pick, and now we're at 15 here. I mean,
16 now. Calgary's
they've already done Calgary. Yeah, so 16, and they like this shape. It's even better than it was shaping up before.
This is unbelievable. As I said before you came on, Scotty, I don't know if you listened to Mark Hillier's media availability earlier, but it was funny because he basically said from yesterday, but he basically said, well, if our 9, 10, 11 selections are there, we're going to be running up. Well, I suspect the Jets are going to be running to the podium because they will be getting a player. I can't imagine that they're not going to be getting one of the players that they would have highly ranked because of all these teams going off the board.
Yeah, I honestly wonder if they have somebody that's still first on their draft board in terms of where they knew they were picking, right? Like, I mean, anything could change, obviously, but I do wonder. I wonder if their top player on their draft board. Of course, they're going to say, "Well, this was the top player that we had on our draft board," because they always say that crap, right? That's always a lie. But I mean, unless you're first overall and took Connor Bedard, you didn't get the player you wanted. Yes. But I mean, on the realistic draft board, they might actually have the guy that's still on there. So
Kalen Ritchie, guys, out of Oshawa, one of the best players in the Ontario Hockey League. He's a guy too that I think could be an option for the Jets at 18th. Again, I'm completely playing the guessing game, right? I'm with Scotty.
The thing with Ritchie was he was hurt all year, right? Yeah. Sorry, I don't mean to.
That's all good. All good. Go ahead, man.
He was hurt all year. Like Ritchie played hurt all season long. So that's the interesting thing about Kalen Ritchie, right? Like I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, right? Because I know a lot of people he was a top 10 pick, I think, in a lot of people's minds at one point, but didn't have the greatest year because he was playing hurt the whole time, which is interesting. I think some draft mocks have had him around there. Some have him later in the first. Obviously, he suffers a little bit from that OHL problem with just with the pandemic and all that too. That's maybe why we haven't seen Barlow go. They must be taking a break here because no, they're not taking a break, but they do have Bedard on the thing.
They're doing a little chat. They knew that they knew the show was going a little too fast for us.
It's too fast, right? They gotta get the ads in and all that stuff, right? Like
they're like, I mean, if you think about it, Scott, though, it's very unusual, right? There hasn't been a trade, which is fine. That doesn't always happen. But I was saying the ads before you came on. Another thing that these guys do is they tend to kind of make phone calls, and then you see them using their time allotment, and we haven't seen that. Guys have gone right up and they're making their picks, and I guess a lot of teams are happy with the way this is playing itself out, right? I guess one of the things we're learning, and I think you're right, is that because of the pandemic, it did change the way drafting is done. And I know we're back into some normality, but it definitely did impact it. And I guess some teams feel confident that they can do what we've seen, like the Arizonas do. And I look, it's easy to mock them, and make fun of them and say, why did they do it? The only thing I would have suggested is that I would have thought that they would have traded down to accrue more draft capital. But again, like I said, it's entirely possible they knew 2 other teams were interested and they wouldn't have had that opportunity if they moved down, 5, 6, 7 spots. So again, there's a risk. There would have been a risk involved to do that because you don't know what every other team is doing. And, again, if you're a Winnipeg Jets fan, which I would imagine almost 350 people who are currently watching are the 500 who were joined us last night on our pop-up show. I would suspect that most of those people are quite happy right now the way this 2023 draft is played out, because you've got Calgary and then you've got Detroit and then you've got Winnipeg, and I can't see how the Jets are not going to get one of the players that they wanted with absolute certainty with the 18th overall pick.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. It's interesting, right? We talked about trading up earlier. And right now, I mean, it just seems like there's less and less even incentive to do that, because you probably, you're looking at your draft board right now if you're the Jets and you're thinking, okay, well, there's going to be numerous centers available. Some of them not all of them, but some of them obviously with a big size advantage and those sorts of things. But there's multiple of those guys too. And potentially, I mean, you still have the right-handed shot defenseman and Axel there. And there's the other guy, what's his name? I think it's like Luka Dragovic or Lucas. I don't know. The other defenseman who I think is projected to go a little higher.
Isn't that the new head coach of the Raptors?
Well, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'm just butchering the thing. But I think, some of the analytics draft mocks that I've looked, like that Dragovic guy is I'm probably butchering his name, but and you probably can't find it because I'm butchering it so bad. I'm trying to look it up here. It's Lucas Dragisevich. I think Sam had him going 29th here in the draft. So that's interesting. But yeah, what do we got here? The
I don't
Calgary
know.
Flames
I can't
are
tell.
here.
I know
Yeah.
the Calgary Flames have made their selection. The pick is in.
And now Brad Treliving can actually go to the Leafs table, eh? You know, because like he's not allowed to actually join the Leafs table until after because he would have so much inside
They took
knowledge.
Honzek.
They took Honzek. Yeah, that's a big dude. I think wasn't Honzek playing out in that way too? I can't remember where he's from.
Third in WHL scoring.
Yeah, but where did he
points.
play? And where's he from?
Well, he's hold on. Let me look.
He's Slovakian, isn't he?
I was going to say, I think he's Czech or
something. Yeah, one of
Honzek was
played for the
Giants.
The Vancouver Giants.
Vancouver Giants.
And he's from
Scotty mentioned.
Giants, and he was Slovakian.
Just under 6'4". Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
And the closer I know I'm skipping ahead here because there's only one more pick before the Jets, but
yeah,
I keep going back to Oliver Moore. Like Oliver Moore was ranked. I think he was ranked. What was it? Number 16 by Craig Button, but I want to say he was even higher than that by Bob McKenzie, 13th overall. Right. So keep going back to Oliver Moore. We know he's going to play for the University of Minnesota, right? Like he's not the biggest guy. He's what is he, about 5'10 and a half, 5'11, but all the skill, like all the scouting reports I've read are just that he's got tons of skill, tons of speed.
Record McGroarty talked about him yesterday, has he?
Yeah, and you know, so I wonder, I don't know how the Jets pass up on Oliver Moore. Obviously, you know, we talked about how many other good players there are, guys like Colby Barlow, Gabriel Perreault, Axel Sandin Pellikka. But the guy that I keep going back to is Oliver Moore. I mean, if they could snatch him at 18th overall, Scotty, that would be pretty impressive.
Yeah. I don't know where did he play, Oliver Moore? Do you have the
U.S. national program?
Yeah, and so right, that's the one guy. So well, same with Perreault. I was thinking Perreault at the same time. I think they're both from that program.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked, right? I mean, this is somewhere that the Jets obviously love going to. We've seen that with Chaz Lucius or Rutger McGroarty or Kyle Connor. I mean, almost every American they've drafted.
Jacob Trouba
out of that program. Trouba, obviously. I am not concerned. I am curious is the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
What they might do though, do they take another American or do they look to the WHL because, this is a year where the WHL is strong and, I don't know, is there pressure to go out and get a WHL kid? Is there pressure to get a Canadian kid here? But, the thing is there's a lot of them. Or, I mean, we'll see who takes Detroit next. We'll see what Detroit does next. I wouldn't be surprised if they take the right-handed defenseman here and the Swede. We know how much they love Swedes there in Detroit, right? I mean, but so we'll see. It'll be interesting to see who they take. But if they don't take him, I
thought he could have been an option. Sandin Pellikka at 9th overall. The way Craig Button talks about him, he had him ranked 5th overall and on his ranking. So I thought he could have gone 9th overall to Detroit.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, I'm looking at Sam's too here, and he had him at 9th as well on his last mock year. So it's interesting, right? Like, I mean, and I don't know. We'll see. I think maybe they knew that he was. We'll see what Detroit does here, right? But maybe they knew. So
I think regardless of who Detroit takes, we're still going to be maybe a little bit surprised because there's 4 or 5ve really good players, maybe more than that, maybe 7 or 8 really good players.
Wait, did you say maybe more? Maybe more?
I like it.
Yeah, I think Oliver Moore will be good if they take him.
I'm with Ez on this one, Scott. I got to tell you, Oliver Moore has been a name. I mean, we talked to Craig Button about it. He had him listed for the Jets. So Moore is a name that we've heard more and more. Axel Sandin Pellikka, again, another right shot defenseman that folks were kind of excited about as the possibility, big guy. But the question was, would you be able to get him at 18? So, I mean, the Jets, and again, you got Barlow, you got a lot of tantalizing options here for the Winnipeg Jets.
Gabriel Perreault, who Scotty mentioned earlier.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm just saying, like, the Jets are going to get a quality player, which is what they evaluated because this draft is so deep and because we talked about it. The first, I think Hillier said it, but everybody's been saying it. Really, up until like 2023, you're getting a very good hockey player for your hockey team. So that's why there was so much excitement ahead of this draft. But yeah, folks who are following along, this is of course the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. We're doing our draft coverage. We've got Scotty Billick of the Winnipeg Sun who's joining us until the Jets make their selection. Then he'll go and he'll start buzzing along. So you can read his work tomorrow in the Winnipeg Sun. Make sure you pick that up
tonight. WinnipegSun.com.
I didn't get
this
Scott. Come on, you let me finish. Don't forget who you're talking to. I promote.com.
Like your biggest fan, Scotty. I was going to say we're in a commercial break right now. We've got one more pick coming up before the Winnipeg Jets here draft at 18th overall, as Scott mentioned. Detroit picked 17th overall. I know you touched on this in your article on Winnipeg Sun and with jet setting. But just going back to Pierre-Luc Dubois, it seems like that happened a week ago, but it just happened yesterday. What were your kind of overall impressions about the return that the Jets got? I imagine, like a lot of people, you like that return for the Jets.
I don't know if you could have done better than 3 roster players and a draft pick, right? I mean, that's sort of, how I look at it. It's like, okay, if we separate this from the fact that, yes, another player wants out of Winnipeg and all of those things, right? Like, we just take that away for now. That it's been talked about a lot. It'll be talked about going forward, all that kind of stuff. But if you just like strip away that for now and just look at, what Kevin Cheveldayoff had to work with, based on having 2 teams really that were really in the running that Dubois would actually sign with, potentially long term. I mean, it sounded like the offers from the Canadians just weren't good enough, but then you look at, you get Gabriel Rivardi, who's a versatile player who's starting to come into his own. You've heard Kevin Cheveldayoff talk about, there's obviously the worry about his back and the injuries that he had earlier on in his career or whatever. But I mean, he's a guy who broke out last season, can play on the wing, can play center, potentially could be your second line center here at some point. Who knows? Depending on how that kind of goes. But then you get Alex Iafallo, who is, a veteran winger. I think he's played 420 games, a good two-way player, right? So here's a guy that you add to your lineup that is actually responsible defensively, and you can maybe put him on that third line with Adam Lowry and, I don't know, Mason Appleton, whoever they end up playing there. Morgan Barron. We'll see what happens. And then Kupari is kind of a reclamation project, right? Like, here's a guy in, I believe it was 2018. Jets didn't have a first round pick that year. I believe they traded in the Stasny deal, if I'm not mistaken.
Kevin Hayes.
It would have been Stasny. Yeah, Kevin Hayes was the year after.
Yeah. Look at me butting in with the wrong information.
Ezzy, what's going on here? Fake news.
I mean, this is nothing new, is it? Right. So, anyways, but yeah, no, I mean, believe what we want to believe from what Kevin Cheveldayoff said, but they would have looked at him at that point. I think at that point they might have. I mean, Kupari, here's a Finnish player. At the time, they were, obviously looking at a lot of Finnish players. The year before that, they took Christian Vesalainen in the first round. The year before that, they obviously took Patrick Laine second overall. And then the year in 2019, they took Ville Heinola. So, they were in that kind of Finnish run of picking players. Yeah, sure, yeah, Finnipeg, right? So, but yeah, I mean, I think you're fine with a reclamation project in that, like, hoping a guy will, turn out and different opportunities afford him, more chances to kind of maybe grow into a player. Again, I think you got 2 solid players, one that'll help with your top 6, one that helps out your middle 6, that can move into a top 6 role in event of an injury or whatever. And then you got Kupari, who, there's still probably a ceiling. It's obviously capped on him right now based on, he hasn't really panned out there. And then you get yourself another pick in next year's draft.
The Montreal pick, Scott. So it's a little bit of an extra twist.
I just always think that's so funny, right? I mean, it's just like the only thing that Montreal didn't get out of this deal was Pierre-Luc Dubois, and still, the Jets managed to, get a Montreal draft pick out of it, which is funny.
And by the way, did you not find it curious? I don't know if you listened to Pierre-Luc Dubois' media availability.
I did, yeah.
I did. But did you not think it was curious listening to him talk about? It was almost like he was, like I said, he took the Montreal PJs and all of a sudden he had Kings PJs. Like, I've always dreamed about playing for this team. It was like, what? I thought it was like a week ago that you made that decision.
It was always happy.
Montreal.
It's always your biggest dream for the team that gives you 8 years and almost $70 million, man. So it doesn't matter
I
what it is, right? And who knows? I mean, maybe he ends up there. Maybe he pulls a Pierre-Luc Dubois really and ends up in Montreal in a few years, or who knows, right? I mean, you never know. But I mean, one thing we do know about Dubois, he likes the big cities. He would vacation in New York. He liked Los Angeles a lot when he was there too. I think he likes the idea of being able to. He's a big comedy guy, Pierre-Luc Dubois. When he was in New York,
rumors all the time. Hangs out with us.
Maybe not, but he definitely goes to some of the big comedy clubs in both cities. And he's talked about that before a little bit, or I've talked to him just off the record. He was at the comedy club or the comedy store in Los Angeles the last time he was there, which is like a big famous comedy place there. Mm-hmm. Not as famous as Rumors, of course, but it's up there, right? And so it'll be interesting. Here comes Detroit, but yeah. So I didn't have an issue with definitely didn't have an issue with the return, because I just think it was one of the better returns you could have hoped for, given the parameters of
exactly, considering that there were really only two teams that you were dealing with, right, Scotty? So when you think about,
what else do you do, right?
And I think the return, the sum of the parts were really good.
Sandin Pellikka.
Well, and
so look at us, look how smart we were. That's what we predicted. Swedish defenseman, right?
Well, and it's interesting because I think there's a lot of people that actually like this trade for the Jets, right? Like, I mean, we've seen the Trouba trade and the return they got from that, and there was a lot of negativity after that, and maybe it wasn't big enough, and they're really kind of pigeonholed into trading him to New York, and that was it, right? So, you've seen maybe didn't get what you wanted for Andrew Kopp, different deal, of course, but this one, you got some good players, some young players, and some guys that are pretty good on a spreadsheet too, right? Like, I mean, they're good analytic players. So two of them for sure, right? So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Who did they take here? What am I saying? I didn't even see it. They took Sandin Pellikka. So the Jets won't have him. So I mean, is it Oliver?
That's why I said Axel. That's why I said Axel Sandin Pellikka, because I said I was.
Well, it's either him.
It is a fun name to say.
Scotty was talking about the Dubois trade, Dave. So
I know, but I broke in to say. That's what we do. The breaking news, Drew. I'm hosting right now, so I said Axel Sandin Pellikka.
That's not a surprise that he went there.
I gotta think. I'm curious.
I'm going Oliver Moore. By the way, let's all make our predictions right now. I'm picking Oliver Moore
Barlow
by the Jets.
Colby Barlow.
Yeah, Dave, Oliver Moore, just because some scouts had him, ranked 8th to 10th, and we're at pick 18, and he's, out of the U.S. national program. He's going to play for the University of Minnesota. The Jets love their U.S. players. I think Oliver Moore, but yeah, Colby Barlow had really good numbers in the Ontario Hockey League with the Owen Sound attack.
I'll tell you why I say Colby Barlow, and the only reason I'm saying it's because he also has the character. And if we know one thing about this, so funny thing about Colby Barlow, Scholastic Player of the Year in
I saw you say that.
OHL.
Yeah.
Who's the last Scholastic Player of the Year that the Jets
Josh
drafted?
Morrissey.
There you go. And so I think there's something about that, I think, with this team, that they like to draft those character guys. And I think
because they have to write tests. The Jets make them write tests.
Well, maybe, but I think part of it is like, when you got a guy like that who's like, okay, he can maybe see the bigger picture, right? It's not just like, Josh Morrissey is a great example of a guy who's like, the first chance he got, he wasn't trying to get out of Winnipeg, right? Mm-hmm. Here's a guy who's embraced the city and all that. So I wonder, do you take an Oliver Moore because you like the program and all that? Or do you take a Barlow because you like, obviously, the skill, because Barlow at one point and has been in that top 10 consideration, and still have them higher than 18 on most mocks that I've seen. It'll be interesting because I think Moore is going. Where is he going? He's going to the Gophers, right? Minnesota.
Yeah, University of Minnesota, Scotty.
You can keep tabs on him as well. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm curious because I think either one could go, and for different reasons, right? You'd either take Barlow because I think you like the skill plus the person, and you might take Oliver Moore because you like the skill and you like the program that he's developed in, right? And so, we'll see, I guess.
Okay, well, hold on. The Jets are up right now, 18th. Mm-hmm. They're showing the Jets on the screen, although Elliot Friedman's talking to Steve Eisenman, so that might take a little break. So we want everyone in the chat, almost 500 of you, let us know. Who do you want the Jets to take right now? Oh, that's right, Scotty. You're talking to a big audience.
Is that including the three of us, though? Or
we don't mess around. No, we don't mess around.
I mean, you guys start.
I may have also rounded up by 70.
I'll come over to this show too. So
But the point is, we want to hear what everyone thinks. You've got the Jets up right now with
You're
the
a beauty,
18th overall pick. You're listening to the Illegal Curve draft special edition of our draft coverage, which we do each and every year here on our YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you smash that like button and all those other good
We
things.
actually drafted Scotty Billick into Winnipeg sports media, but because before Scott, I think we had Scott when you were with Manitoba. Was it Manitoba Hockey now?
Yeah.
I think we had you on back in like 2012 or 2013 before you graduated pre-com.
Oh, gee, I wasn't even going to school at that point.
By the way, Chevy is not, guys, for the record.
Forever.
Yeah. Kevin Cheveldayoff he's sitting there. He's put his glasses on. He's covering his mouth. I'm doing play-by-play right now. He's talking. I don't see him. I see Zinger standing up, and he's talking to Barrett, but I don't
I'm
see.
still watching Iserman. So
no, I'm a little bit ahead of you.
And Mark Hillier are still talking.
But they're actually, well, Kevin Cheveldayoff's the only guy I've seen. Now maybe it's because they're having a little conversation. He's got a little time, but he's definitely
is at the table there.
He's not moving up quickly.
Burnaby Joe right behind them though. There. Oh, now his head's in the way. But Burnaby Joe Sack was right behind him there.
I know, but this goes.
I just saw Hassan Remus eating some barbecue chicken there in the background.
That's right.
But the point is, what's interesting here is that it just goes to show you that the Jets are, having a lot of options. I suspect, and Scott, that's one of the things we've talked about is that they've definitely know that they're going to get one of the players that they wanted, and now it's almost like I actually think it's very similar to what you're talking about. They're probably thinking we got Oliver Moore, a guy we love that program, best skater in the draft, versus a Colby Barlow versus Perreault versus
I was going to say Gabriel Perreault.
Here they are.
I'm just going to throw in as a bit of a long shot here. It's probably going to be more Perreault or
walking up
or Barlow.
He's shaking hands with Gary Bettman. This is exciting play-by-play stuff.
Chevy's got a shot going on. That's a guy who just won a
This is exactly how reporting works. You just sit here with your phone and
you're watching Scott Billick right now. This is live.
This is live. I'm waiting for somebody to tell me what to do, and then I'll put it in.
The pick is in.
There they go. Well, so they've already walked up to the stage, I presume.
On my screen, they've already walked up to the screen.
And then Cheveldayoff sitting there. Oh, thank you, Nashville. Thank you for your hospitality. Congrats to the Vegas.
He goes, actually, I want another chance to answer that question about whether we're still in a championship window.
Oh, yeah. We're going for it. We're all in.
Great time at Tootsie's last night.
He's thanked the city of Nashville. And, okay, now stop guessing, folks, as to what you think it's going to be.
Colby Barlow.
Breathe.
Is that who it is?
Yeah.
Barlow. Colby Barlow. There we go. The Jets have selected Colby Barlow with the 18th overall pick. We were discussing that. And Ez, tell us a little bit more about the Ontario product who's playing for the Owen Sound Attack. 59 games, 46 goals, 33 assists.
Yeah, this is from our good friends at FC Hockey. We picked up their FC Hockey draft guide. This is first off 79 points. 79 points in 59 games, as Dave mentioned, for the Owen Sound Attack. This is the scouting report from FC Hockey. Barlow is a big-bodied scoring forward with an elite shot and dangerous offensive toolkit. He is effective all over the ice, using his powerful stride to gain speed in transition and proving difficult to knock off the puck when he cuts to the net. His foot speed is still improving, but he has plenty of top-end speed thanks to great extension on his strides and lower body strength. Great stick handler. He will be a top six scorer who plays all situations if he hits his ceiling. And if he doesn't, his style can adapt to a checking forward who chips in defensively. I mean, so you're getting a good offensive player, a guy with some decent size, but also a guy who's reliable defensively. So, I mean, this looks like, just a really good overall forward, left winger.
Yeah, I mean, to me, obviously they didn't take a center or a defenseman here, but they took probably the best player still, maybe left on the draft board for me in terms of how the Jets.
And he's got a great mustache, Scott.
Well, he's got a nice beard and everything. The guy's got hair. I mean, but this is the thing. Like, he's got NHL size. He's one of the best players in left in the draft. I mean,
93% average in grade 12, Scotty. That's about 30% better than I did.
That's about 50% better than I did. So, I just think this is the type of player that kind of embodies the Winnipeg Jets organization, right? Like it's talent plus character. And sometimes, I mean, obviously talent, trumps everything, but I mean, character is a close second for this Jets team. And then they went out and got him, and, they get a Canadian player in the draft in the first round for since Cole Perfetti. So it's been in a couple of years now, but not something that they've always drafted highly in recent years with their first round picks. I mean, other than Perfetti, but I think they like this guy. So obviously they do. They drafted him when there was other options, including some big centers on there too. So, but I don't think they hesitated here with Barlow. I think they like exactly what he brings to the table on and off the ice, and that's a big deal for them.
Well, I think people are liking the pick, Azzy. Go ahead. Yeah. No, share your thoughts.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say another thing. In the scouting report here, I couldn't read the whole thing. I was just trying to give people kind of an overall view, but really, I mean, the scouting report from FC Hockey, and I imagine from other sources like Elite Prospects, is that he projects to be a top 6 winger with 30+ goal potential. Right, so he's got a really good shot, and he's a guy who has some tenacity to his game. Right, so I think that's what stands out. Like, this is a guy who, he doesn't have the high end skill of a Connor Bedard or a Adam Fantilli, but he projects to be a guy. Exactly, how many players do? But he has the potential to be a top 6, top line winger. As we mentioned, he's a left winger, 6 feet. As Scott mentioned, I mean, the Jets like to take players with that certain character, right? This is a guy, scholastic player, as Scotty mentioned, youngest captain in Owen Sound Attack history. So I think there's a lot to like about this pick.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think my computer's dying because I got like 6% battery life here. So, but I do need to run. If that's okay with you guys.
Yeah, no. Thanks for joining us.
I might be frozen here, so yeah.
No, you're good. We're good. But you know what? You are frozen, but we're going to send you off. Thank you, Scott Billick of the Winnipeg Sun.
Thanks, Scotty.
Scotty joined us. Yeah, I cut him off, actually. He was going a little long. Thanks, Scott. But
Scott stayed on with us for about 50 minutes there, Dave. So he's always very generous with his time. He's a gentleman, and now he's got to bang out a little copy, as they say in the journalism.
So as he gives some people some more insight into Barlow and what kind of player he is. What kind of is he? A right shot, a left shot? He can grow a serious mustache though.
No, he shoots left. He shoots left. He's a left winger. As we talked about, this has been a very center heavy draft, especially when you're talking at the top with Bedard, Fantilli, and Carlson. That means, by the way, that Oliver Moore is still on the board, which is incredible. At 19th overall, who's got the pick at 19th overall? Chicago, and then the Seattle Kraken are at 20th. So I'd be shocked if Moore doesn't go to either Chicago or Seattle. But back to Colby Barlow. I mean, we talked about it, right? He was the captain of the Owen Sound Attack, 79 points in 59 games, Scholastic Player of the Year. They showed it there on Sportsnet, 93% average, which is just incredible when you consider how much hockey he's playing, right? Like these guys that play in the CHL, so that you're talking OHL, WHL, QMJHL, these guys are playing hockey 5 or 6 days a week, right? So that's really impressive that you can put together a 93% average in your grade 12 year. But I think what's standing out is the elite shot, how good he is hard on the forecheck. Here's the scouting report from FC Hockey. Finishes his hits hard on the forecheck, uses his strength to win battles along the boards. So we've talked about that a lot, right? The Jets want to be a harder team to play against. And when you think of Gabe Vilardi, obviously, Dave, his goal scoring stands out. But Gabe Vilardi is also a guy that is tenacious and can turn the puck over. Alex Iafallo, again, a hard player to play against, a good defensive forward, in addition to being able to chip in offensively, right? So just reading the scouting report a little bit more here on Colby Barlow. With his ability to play physical and nose for the high danger areas, he should be an effective scorer at the next level, both at 5-on-5 and on a power play unit. The consistency and skating are issues, but can be improved with the proper commitment from Barlow. When he is engaged, there are few better than he in his class, as his high-end shot and high hockey IQ make him a formidable pick in the 2023 draft class, despite his other above-average attributes. FC Hockey had him ranked 13th. I think Barlow, with most scouts, they kind of had him in that 12 to 20 range. I'd have to check back on Craig Button's list. Just checking here on Craig Button's list. He had... where are we here? He had Colby Barlow at number 10. So Craig Button had him at number 10 on his list. So in that sense, he might have dropped a little bit. But I think overall, for people just tuning in now, what stands out about Colby Barlow, really smart player, both on the ice and off the ice, being the OHL Scholastic Player of the Year. And just good shot, good overall forward, projects to be a top 6 winger at the NHL level with 30+ goal potential, and a guy that finishes his check. So this is a really good overall player. As Scotty Billick mentioned, he just had to run and do some work for the Winnipeg Sun.com and the newspaper, the Dead Trees edition. But, what we were talking to him about is what stands out with him is, he fits a profile, and he's the first player that the Jets have taken in the first round from the OHL since Cole Perfetti, right? Because, of course, you had Chaz Lucius, Rutger McGroarty, Brad Lambert being the Jets' last 3 picks. So 2020 was the last time that the Jets drafted a player from the OHL in the first round. And obviously, Perfetti's trajectory in the NHL is looking very good. So Colby Barlow, he's looking like a really good pick, and we'll wait and see. I mean, obviously, he's not going to start for the Winnipeg Jets, but we'll see him next year. But we'll see him here in, a week to 10 days, Dave, at Jets development camp. So a smart player, a really good shot, and a guy that put up really good numbers in the Ontario Hockey League, 79 points in 59 games.
That was good timing, Ezzy. I was banging out content. I was getting it all done. You finished it impeccably just as I hit publish on Colby Barlow's profile on illegalcurve.com. So if you have any questions about that, hopefully to be speaking to Colby Barlow when he's done his duties with the Jets media in attendance and other media who are there. And we'll hopefully have a chance to talk to the Ontario product from Orilla, Ontario. So that'll be exciting for him and for us to get a chance to, speak to him and get some insight into him and find out, if he's got any connections here in Winnipeg, who he knows. Maybe he's friendly, familiar with Dominic DiVincentis. Of course, the Jets don't have a ton of prospects in the OHL, but the North Bay Battalion, Dominic DiVincentis, OHL player of the year, goaltender of the year, I should say, sorry. And they would have seen each other because, as you said, Ezzy, and as you've described, Joe from Winnipeg saying that Chicago just took the Oliver Moore pick, so they got a lot of speed.
Right, and that's what I just said, right? Like Oliver Moore wasn't gonna, he wasn't gonna fall to 23rd or 24th overall. I thought that if Chicago didn't take more, then Seattle was going to take him at 20th overall. So I mean, I'm sure the Jets amateur scouting staff was considering Oliver Moore at 18th overall, but obviously they like Colby Barlow better. And that's the thing. Going back to what we were talking about, in the first 30 minutes, first hour of the show, Dave, this is one of the deepest drafts in recent memory. Probably, the best draft class since 2015 when you had Connor McDavid and Jack Eichel going 1-2, right? So, I mean, Oliver Moore is a great player, but Colby Barlow's a Jet, and that's who we're focused on. That's who everybody wants to talk about. And I think, a lot of Jets fans are going to love this kid. And I think when you consider, Rutger McGroarty last year, Brad Lambert, who obviously had a great WHL playoffs with the Seattle Thunderbirds, you throw in Chaz Lucius. I mean, a lot of the focus is on some of the players that are leaving Winnipeg, namely Pierre-Luc Dubois and Blake Wheeler, and maybe Connor Hellebuck. But I think a lot of Jets fans want to focus on some of these young players and what this team could look like 2 or 3 years down the road. And we expect Barlow to obviously play, with the Owen Sound attack next year. But then a couple of years from now, you could see Barlow playing with the Manitoba Moose and possibly the Jets for the 25-26 season.
For sure. And I think that, Ezzy, that's one of the things you're getting a sense of. Like, look at what you got. You got a big character guy. And Rumhut's saying it right now. I'm going to throw it up on the screen because hopefully Rumhut's not at the Rumhut right now. I don't think Bomber Stadium's closed, but he's saying it's McGroarty 2.0. Well, you know what? A lot of folks are very excited about Rutger McGroarty and what he's going to bring. And the Jets don't really need another speed guy, right? Like the Jets already have Nikolai Ehlers. They've already got Brad Lambert. So do you really need to add an Oliver Moore type, or do you want to add maybe a different element to your mix? And I think, and again, you're not projecting this guy, as you said, as to be in your lineup tomorrow or the year after, but you don't know, but the reality is you're trying to get someone who's going to create, a framework of a playoff team. And that's what you need in the playoffs. You need these types of guys. You can't just be all skill. We've seen it. Like, and I think it was SK was saying that this is a Mark Stone 2.0 of some sort, or a junior Mark Stone. And that's a high bar because we know that Mark Stone is, an unbelievable player. But look, if you can get guys like that in your lineup, that's not a bad thing. And, you can't suddenly become just a team with no talent, but we're not saying this guy doesn't have any talent. It's just a function of what kind of mix do you need? And that's what teams are trying to constantly project, is what is their mix going to look like? Because from the Jets perspective, you don't know, right? It's hard to know what the team is going to look like. As we thought we knew what this team would look like, last year we weren't sure. This year, nobody has any idea. Is it going to be 4 guys gone? Is it going to be, and there's all the UFAs. I mean, it's interesting. One of the things that Kevin Cheveldayoff didn't talk about today was the fact that he hasn't even explained who he's qualifying. And I know we're going to focus on Colby Barlow right now, but we don't even know, which players. A lot of teams have already said, put out who they will be qualifying and who they won't be qualifying. So a lot of excitement here in Winnipeg. And again, the Jets had the chance to get a very good player. They took a very good player in Colby Barlow. I'm not going to pretend to be a Colby Barlow expert. If we get a chance to talk to him after he's done with his media responsibilities, we'll have a chance to get some insight into who Colby Barlow really is. Maybe we should take a little break as get a chance to actually hold on. If you got some more insight into Colby Barlow.
I was going to say, Dave, just quickly. I mean,
sure.
Obviously, we've only seen highlights of Colby Barlow. We haven't watched him live with the Owen Sound Attack.
How many times have we said the name Colby Barlow in the last 10 minutes, by the way?
Yeah, I'll say it again here. I'll read a few more scouting reports on Colby Barlow here from some of the guys that we've had on our show over the years. Chris Peters, Flow Hockey. Barlow is a legit goal scorer who also plays with a little grind in his game. Love that. Love grinders. He was a captain in Owen Sound this year. We mentioned that earlier, and was a standout for Canada at multiple international events. Scott Wheeler from The Athletic, who we've also had on the show. Barlow plays a direct, intentional game built around great hands, a physically mature pro frame, and an NHL shot. He's also an able penalty killer, which would give him in all situations upside at the next level. Corey Pronman from The Athletic. He is a strong skater who can transport pucks through the neutral zone. He's a hardworking forward who has some physicality, can kill penalties, and is quite physically advanced for his age. Stephen Ellis, Daily Faceoff, one of the few players to come close to hitting the 50-goal mark this season. Barlow has scored at all levels and is as confident as anyone handling the puck. So, I mean, listening to that, he's a good overall player, a smart player. Right. Who's not the fastest guy, but he's a pure goal scorer, right? And who can play well defensively, right? Based on those scouting reports, he's a guy that can contribute on the penalty kill if you need that. So that's what I would say about him: a smart goal scorer, good shot, and a guy who's got some physicality to his game. I don't know if you would call him a power forward. I mean, maybe if we get Colby Barlow on the show, we'll ask him if he would consider himself a power forward. I don't think people are necessarily going to confuse him for Matthew Tkachuk or Pierre-Luc Dubois or some of the other known power forwards in the NHL, but there's definitely some physicality to his game. And I like that. I like what Chris Peters said. What was that? He's got a little bit of a grind in his game. I think that was the one I wrote there from Chris Peters. You always like to hear that, a guy's got a little grind in his game, because even though there's recency bias, guys, he is a guy that you would say would be a playoff type of performer. And the other thing too, Dave, just watching him walk up to the podium there, he's a thick guy. He's 6 feet, 190 pounds.
Big boy.
Yeah, he's a big boy. So you see some 18-year-olds that are, 165, 170 pounds. This guy's 6 feet, 190 pounds. So he's got some good size to him. He's not the tallest guy, but, with that weight, he's definitely going to be, a 200 to 210 pound NHL player. So I think if you're a Jets fan watching right now, or maybe you're not watching, Jets fans everywhere, I think have a lot to be excited about when it comes to Barlow. Well,
and I think, look, I just had the comment highlighted and went back to Rum Huts because I like this one as well. But I think, well, SK is like head of, usually we've got T. Conapoli is the head of the fan clubs. T. Conapoli is the head of the Tyrell Bauer fan club, but SK is beaming right now with the Jets getting Barlow. So SK is going to be the head of the Colby Barlow sweepstakes.
Well, you hear a lot, club. Especially with the amount of Manitobans on the Vegas Golden Knights, right? You mentioned Mark Stone, but you throw in Keegan Kolazar, you throw in Zach Whitecloud, right? You throw in even Nolan Patrick, who obviously hasn't played a lot, but he's still a member of the Vegas Golden Knights, right? But you hear that criticism, right? That the Jets have maybe taken too many American players when you're talking about Chaz Lucius and Rutger McGroarty, and obviously prior to that, Jacob Trouba, Andrew Kopp, Connor Hellebuck. I mean, the Jets have probably drafted, 20 to 25 American players. And obviously Colby Barlow is an Ontario boy, right? So that I don't think that's necessarily a thing, Dave. I've talked to you about this before. I don't think the Jets need more Manitobans or more Canadians. They just need, good players that are going to contribute at the NHL level. But for the Jets fans that believe the Jets should draft more Canadian players, I think this is going to be an even more satisfying pick for them.
Yeah, and I think, look, you need the players who are going to fit the mold of your hockey team. And their birthplace aside, the birthplace, of course, the idea behind the birthplace, if you have two even players, and like I said, Mark Hillier spoke Jets director of amateur scouting, spoke about that. And he said, look, if you got 2 equal players on your list, then maybe you go with the kid who's local, because the thought process is that he's going to stay. But I mean, we've seen local guys have the option to sign here, and they don't necessarily do that. So it always, and again, how many Americans have signed and set down their roots here? Blake Wheeler, been here for 10 years, right? Had his family here. Connor Hellebuck signed. He's been here for 10 years. Kyle Connor. I mean, you've had these guys sign these contracts. So sure, there's the Jack Roswicks who don't want to stay, but there's a lot of American players who have chosen to stay in Winnipeg. So the birthplace is a lot less important to me than it is of course, obviously I'm set with having a Manitoban. I rep the province more than most, so I'm not so worried about that. Let's take a break.
The Jets were going to be getting a Manitoban most likely was Carberry's Carson Bjarnason, because unlike last year, there aren't as many high-end Manitoban players, right?
Hold on.
Think of Connor Geeky, Denton Matejchuk, right?
We got some breaking news from T-Will. T-Will saying, my brother just texted me. Apparently my sister-in-law grew up with Colby's parents. He's a good kid, player, and leader. You'll like him.
I like that. I like that breaking news from T-Will.
Thank you, T-Will.
And the thing is, like, everything, and obviously, we talk about this every year. You got to remind yourselves, these are 18-year-old kids. Colby Barlow is not going to be wearing a Jets jersey, in an NHL regular season for at least a couple of years, right, Dave? I think you'd agree with that. Like, you have to step back. Like, not every player is Patrick Laine, who's going to step into the NHL at 18 years old. Not every NHL player is Connor Bedard with the Chicago Blackhawks. He's going to play in the NHL next year. Or Adam Fantilli with the Columbus Blue Jackets, right? Give Colby Barlow a few years. He's going to go back to the OHL, and then I imagine he's going to turn pro after that and most likely start with the Manitoba Moose. But all of the scouting reports, everything says he's a good character kid, a smart kid. And look, when you're the captain of any Ontario Hockey League team, you obviously possess great leadership qualities and you're a great character. And that fits the mold with, the Josh Morrisseys and the Adam Lowrys, those types of players. I mean, that's the type of player Colby Barlow is, a great leader and obviously, a really skilled winger. Sure. And I'm just going to read this and then we're going to head to break. TSN's Craig Button, courtesy of our friend at Jamie Thomas from Jets TV. Craig Button on Colby Barlow, IQ off the charts. Him and Rutger McGorty are cut from the same cloth. You want to win, you need players like Colby Barlow. So Craig Button, who we love to have on the show, great insight. He is raving about the pick by the Winnipeg Jets with the 18th overall selection. You are listening to the Illegal Curve special edition draft coverage show. We're hoping to be joined by Colby Barlow probably in the next half an hour. So don't go anywhere. And we're just going to hear from some commercials from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Keeping Winnipeg laughing for over 30 years. Rumors, Canada's longest running comedy club, bringing you the biggest laughs from the best comedians on the planet. Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Jon Stewart, Dennis Miller, Brad Garrett, the greats, and all the up-and-comers too. When was the last time you laughed out loud? Make it a great night out with friends or book your office or birthday party. Even a fundraising event at Rumors. Get all the details and dates on upcoming shows at rumorscomedyclub.com.
Hi, Ez. A strange question for you. But why are you lying on the ground being crushed by a piano?
Well, Drew, I definitely tried to carry this baby grand piano down the stairs by myself, and somehow I failed miserably.
Right. Yeah. Sorry, that was a silly question on my part. My apologies. Would you like me to call Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage to help you move the piano? They are the most experienced piano moving company in Winnipeg, after all.
Yes, please call Rolly's and hurry. This piano is very, very heavy.
Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage offers stress-free residential moving services while taking great care of your personal belongings, including your piano. At Rolly's, no job is too big or too small. For more information, visit rollys.com.
Hi, it's Drew from Illegal Curve here. Selling your home can be stressful, but it wasn't for me. Thanks to my friends at Zappia Group Realty, they made the process so easy. My home sold within 48 hours and with multiple offers. Zappia Group Realty took care of everything with their exquisite customer service and attention to detail. If you want to sell your home for more in less time, get started by talking to Frank and Mauro Zappia of Zappia Group Realty. Online at zappiagroup.com.
Hey, Drew.
Ezzy, whoa, what a smile!
Yeah, I got my crowns done at Linden Market Dental Center, and they whiten my teeth.
I see.
They're so bright that every time I smile, they go...
We have hockey tonight. Do you have a mouth guard to protect those pearly whites?
I sure do.
Whoa, they even ting through the mouth guard.
Linden Market Dental Center covers all your dental needs from restorative to cosmetic dentistry and will fit you with a sports guard for that active lifestyle. 877 Waverly. See lindenmarketdental.com.
Boston Pizza harnessed Fanalytics to help optimize no-look dipping. Ooh, making adjustments so you can stay focused on the game. The playoffs at Boston Pizza, powered by Fanalytics.
Welcome back to the Illegal Curve Hockey Show special edition of our draft coverage, the 2023 draft in Nashville. Just cruising by. Ezzy and I are sitting here, we're talking, we're like, this is shocking how fast and how smooth this is going. No trades, nothing of significance, and yet here we are, Ezzy. Colby Barlow, the newest member of the Jets prospect pool, the 2023 first rounder, selected 18th overall from the Owen Sound Attack of the Ontario Hockey League. Lots of praise coming out in the hockey world, as there usually is. But I mean, every player is going to be Wayne Gretzky and is going to make the NHL. So you always got to take that with a grain of salt. But this seems to be a good pick, a solid pick, and hopefully we'll have a chance to talk to him once he's done talking to our colleagues that are in Nashville, and we'll get to meet him and learn a little bit more about Colby Barlow and what he is all about.
Yeah, I'm sure Sean Reynolds is probably circling Colby Barlow right now, right? And probably Murat Atesh of The Athletic. He's down in Nashville. And so are Huss and Remus.
That's right.
Down in Nashville. We had them on during the first hour of the show. So, yeah, I mean, you mentioned it, Dave. Colby Barlow, I mean, he's a guy that, has a lot of offensive upside. We talked about, he's a left winger. He projects to be a top six forward at the NHL level. Scouts believe that his ceiling is a 30-plus goal scorer. So if you can get a 30-plus goal scorer who also has, a lot of smarts and can basically play in all situations, that's what I think stands out. He's a guy that's a physical forward. He's a guy that's responsible defensively. And then we talked about it, captain of the Owen Sound Attack, very smart player, reads the game really well. So there's really no, I mean, the one thing was that he's not the fastest player and he could still improve his speed. But how many other 18-year-old players can you say that about, right? Most players.
I got to tell you, if that's your biggest problem, speed isn't an issue. Guys can develop and learn and train to become faster.
And that doesn't mean he's slow, by the way.
I understand.
I mean, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying in the scouting reports that we've read, that's all we've said is that he can still improve his speed. So you don't want to confuse, like, this guy just went 18th overall in the NHL draft, right? So let's not confuse, could still work on his speed with slow. That's not at all we're saying. He's not a slow player.
Yeah, exactly. And again, like I said, from my perspective, and going to Rutger McGorty, who seems to be probably a pretty good parallel between the 2022 first rounder and the 2023 first rounder, one of the things he talked about when he was asked by our friend Cameron Poitras of 680 CJOB Jets at Noon, he said, what did you work on this year? And he said, my speed. And he was, a point per game player at University of Michigan for the Wolverines. He'll be heading back there next year. And he said, that's one of the areas I'm going to be working on. He's rollerblading apparently a lot in Michigan where he's training. But one of the things,
Braddock Bonk's kid, Oliver Bonk, by the way, sorry to cut you off, Dave.
That's okay.
Oliver Bonk just went to Philly at 22.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Well, I mean, again, that's when you start to feel a little bit older, when you guys that you watched play in the NHL now are being drafted, their kids are being drafted. And that's obviously been happening for some time, but Radek Bonk doesn't feel that old to have a kid, old enough, I should say, to have a kid drafted in the NHL. But here we are. Tell you,
Oliver Bonk has just as good a hair as his dad did. I mean, you remember his dad with the Ottawa Senators had great hair. Oliver Bonk's got some great lettuce as well.
Well, the fact of the matter is that right now, though, as we are focused on Colby Barlow, Murat Atesh of The Athletic is talking to him. He said the first hug was with his mom, who's sitting beside him, a good long one. He said, thanked his parents, so many teammates for helping him get to this point. So, I mean, it's not a surprise. This kid sounds like he has an excellent head on his shoulders. So I'm not really surprised that he's conscientious and considerate of the people who helped him get there.
Yeah, not surprising at all. I thought Murat was going to say he got the first hug from Colby Barlow after he was drafted 18th overall. So I'm glad that it was his mom. You said, right? His family. So yeah, hoping to get, as you mentioned, Colby on the show. I'm sure he's a pretty busy guy right now, doing the rounds, meeting a lot of people, shaking a lot of hands, hugging a lot of people, possibly including Murat. But yeah, looking forward to talking to him. And also, we talked about this a little bit on the Saturday show, I think a couple weeks ago, but when it was announced, but it's been a while since we've seen a Jets development camp. I think it was 3 straight years or 4 straight years that we didn't have a development camp. And I think, Dave, I mean, obviously, that's not going to determine whether a guy is going to play in the NHL or not. I mean, for the most part, it's all about team building, right? And a player getting acclimatized with the city and different prospects in the organization, management, coaching staff, everything like that, right? But it'll be nice for fans to watch Colby Barlow play. What is that, July 5th? July 6th?
4th. I think. July 4th to the 8th.
Yeah, so that's next Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken, right? So you're not going to have to
I think it's Wednesday to Saturday or Sunday, but or whatever.
Yeah, so it's in a week, right?
Yep.
Like you're talking about a week from now. So, it's going to be nice for, Jets fans to see Colby Barlow play at, I believe it's Hockey for All Center, right? That they're going to have a Jets development.
Well, I haven't seen it yet, but I would imagine that's where it's
HVAC, if you want to use an acronym. Used to be called Bell MTS Iceplex, obviously, but yeah, it's going to be really exciting to see him develop in the Ontario Hockey League. We talked about it, 79 points in 59 games, so obviously he missed a little bit of time, but I think you're talking about a guy that could easily hit 100 points, Dave, next year if he plays a full season with the Owen Sound attack.
For sure. And again, you're right, Ezzy. And I've mentioned this before on our show, whether it's a Saturday show, probably the Saturday show, I would imagine. But I think one of the things that has been lacking is that ability for fans to get up close and personal. And they did that last year with these. Well, they didn't have a development camp, but there was training camp at least, which returned it a bit to normality. They didn't do the development camp last year because of the summer World Juniors. And so because of that, the Jets had seen guys like Daniel Torgerson and Henry Nikkinen playing for the Moose. So they didn't feel a need to have a camp per se, because a lot of these guys were either playing or they were dealing with some injuries and stuff like that. So yeah, it's not a surprise that they didn't do it last year, but again, it's an opportunity I think it's an opportunity for two things. I think these guys become familiar with the city. They become familiar with their teammates. And I think those are both really important things for guys. You don't want it to be a foreign thing. And we take it for granted. These kids are 17, 18, 19 years old. They're coming to Winnipeg either for the first or second time. They don't really know, it's a foreign city. It could be a foreign country. And we just take for granted these guys are just going to, adjust. And you can talk to a guy.
There's a reason why they hold these development camps, right? Like this isn't just performative, right? Like there's a reason why NHL teams do these development camps. There was reasons, obviously, the pandemic being one of the reasons why they didn't hold development camps. There's reasons why teams don't, if it doesn't work with their schedule or whatever. But you're absolutely right, Dave. It's important for these prospects to get to know other players on the team, get to know the city. Like, maybe, he'll get to, Colby Barlow will get to maybe, pick up a burger at VJ's or, go check out Assiniboine Park, or maybe
more importantly, he'll be here when it's
legal curve. I don't know.
He'll be here when it's not minus 40. And I think that's also a good selling feature, because I love Winnipeg in the summer. It's a great place to be. So I think that's just one of those other things that people, again, people hear Winnipeg, oh, it's so cold. It's so cold. Let them come here. Let them understand that there's things to do, and it's beautiful weather, and it's a great time to be here. Show them, take them to the lake, take them to Lake of the Woods, take them to the Interlake, wherever it's going to be. There's always great things to do here in summer, whether it's Festival, the Fringe, the X, I think.
Festival de Voyageur, though, was great in the winter.
Well, that's a winter thing, but I meant you got the Red River X, I think, is on right now. Jazz Fest, I think, was on, and maybe it's over. You got Fringe Festival, which was one of my favorites.
Gabe Perreault just went 23rd overall to the Rangers, Dave.
So that's a pretty good pick. I mean, that's a lot later than I think he was anticipated. So, good for the New York Rangers. But One Bird Funbird wants you to take them to the zoo. So I don't think the Jets are going to allow. I have a lot of relatives
at the zoo, actually. Yeah, they have a lot of other silverback gorillas there. Some of my second cousins.
Folklorama, Spency, kind of almost yelling at me in the all caps, Folklorama.
Well, it's still ridiculous that you've met Spency, Drew's met Spency, Sheldon Mandel has met Spency. I haven't met Spency. I mean, Spency and I, we don't just need to go out and have a few beers. We need like a full weekend together.
Oh, there's no question about it. You guys need to, believe me, and we need to like film that whole thing. It'll be beautiful. But no, I mean, look, we're not going to give you any more really insight into what Colby Barlow is going to bring to this Winnipeg Jets club, because if we don't have a tremendous background on the player. We'll again get to know him next week at the development camp, where he'll get a chance to mix and match with guys like Rutger McGroarty, Brad Lambert, all sorts of draft picks and prospects who are going to be here in Winnipeg, and maybe some invitees. I think there's some college invitees that were on the list. And look, every once in a while you get those guys like a Christian Reichel who gets invited to camp after camp. He played for Red Deer, as you'll remember that. And then he kept getting invited. He got invited so many times. I actually thought he was a Jets draft pick for the longest time, but he just kept getting invited to camp after camp. And then
I don't know. I don't think you just mentioned that. Sorry. I was reading Gabriel Perreault. I still can't believe he went 23rd overall. A lot of scouts had him going in the top 15, but Carson Kuhlman, remember, he was another guy, undrafted, came to Jets development camp. And then obviously, was signed by, I believe it was the Bruins first that signed him. And he went to Seattle and then came to Winnipeg. Right. So the development camp, again, it's not going to determine much in terms of a player's development. But it plays a vital role in terms of players, getting familiar with the city and the organization, and then also other players trying to making a name for themselves who weren't drafted.
Yeah, and just looking at the reaction from the folks who are at Canada Life for checking out their draft party. I mean, I'd rather be here with you as in my maison.
No, we're having a party in River Heights.
We got a draft party here. We got everyone, over 330 of you right now currently in the chat. We lost some numbers. I mean, I don't want to say it was Billick maybe sticking around a little too long, but we were trending up, and then Scotty maybe trended us down. Regardless of that, I mean, look, I think there's some cautious optimism in the Winnipeg market. There's still a lot of uncertainty. We don't know what's happening with Connor Hellebuck. We don't know what's happening with Mark Scheifele. I suspect that what Kevin Cheveldayoff's comments weren't directed towards the folks like us in the media or the fans. They were directed to his fellow general managers, essentially saying, if you want these players, you're not getting them for a hill of beans. So you're going to have to make me a good offer. You're going to have to put something on the table that's worthwhile. And so, it's interesting what's going to happen, but I really think, like, I agree with Scott. I thought the most significant thing that Kevin Cheveldayoff said was the idea of Cole Perfetti potentially at center, or even Gabe Vilardi. Although Gabe Vilardi said, and I thought, again, his comments today at Jets at Noon were interesting, how he talked about how he learned playing on the wing. He's very comfortable in either position, but he felt that he created more offense as a winger than he did as a center. So depending on which the Jets need, but look, the Jets could use another right shot winger who can create offense on either their first or second line.
Well, the thing when you talk about Gabe Vilardi, I know you talked about Perfetti there and Vilardi, both OHL guys, by the way.
Our friends Frank and Mauro Zappia and Dom Zappia are going to be very happy about the high level of Italian draft, or not draft picks, but players who are going to be part of the Jets organization.
Absolutely. I worked at Mona Lisa for 3 years, so you know that I love Italian people and Italian cuisine alike, and Italian cappuccino, which we've enjoyed courtesy of Frank and Mauro Zappia, right? But just going back to Gabe Vilardi, Dave, and talking about Cole Perfetti, I mean, just because these guys haven't played a lot of time at center at the NHL level doesn't mean they still can't be centers, right? Gabe Vilardi's 24 years old. Cole Perfetti's 21 years old, or Vilardi's turning 24 years old.
Yeah, he's going to say he's
23 turning 24, right?
Yeah.
The thing with LA, though, is we've talked about this, right? Like, you had Kopitar there, you had Philip Deneau there, you had Quinton Byfield there, who's obviously a natural center. But so Vilardi has played some center at the NHL level, but he's primarily played on the wing. So again, just because a guy, if you're drafted as a center and you play on the wing, you can still play center. That's always an option. And I think that's what a lot of people we're talking about, in addition to the good call that Chevy got with Vilardi, Iafallo, Kupari in the second round pick. I think, there's always the chance that, if you have Mark Scheifele as your first line center, which again, I mean, Scheifele could always be traded. I mean, it's looking more and more likely that Scheifele is going to stay a member of the Jets organization, but you could have Perfetti or Vilardi in that second line center role. Again, Vilardi or Perfetti could both be used on the wing, but it's not out of the question that one of those two players, by the way, great to see Trotzy up there with the Nashville Predators, the new GM, Pride of Dauphin, Manitoba. about to make their pick at, I believe it's 25th overall at this point. 24th overall. Nashville Predators have the pick.
So Barry Trotz was on the 32 Thoughts podcast, and I was listening to hear what Jets related things they were discussing, but it was hilarious because they told, they clipped it from the interview, but they did a little chit chat with Dennis about, he said, do you know Dennis Bayak? And then, I don't know if you saw my tweet, Ezzy, but it was a little Dennis Bayakism. And I whenever I get a chance to tweet about Dennis Bayak, I'm always going to take that opportunity. I actually tried to get Dennis to come on because I sent him the tweet after, and I tried to get him to join on. I said, Dennis, everybody would love to see you and hear from you. So he said he's busy. He's in Saskatchewan right now, but he promised that he would try and make it on with us sometime in July. So I said, okay, well, I'll see. I'm going to hold you to that, Dennis. We'll see what we can do. Hold on. This is the comment they had on the 32 Thoughts podcast. Funny Dennis. Oh, this is me. Funny Dennis Bayak memory to start the 32 Thoughts podcast. This is him talking to Jeff Merrick. Jeff, I'm from Winnipeg-Osis, Manitoba. Merrick replied, what can you tell me about Winnipeg-Osis? It's the birthplace of the toothbrush. So Jeff said, yes. Or sorry, really? And then Dennis said, yeah, because if it were anywhere else, they'd call it the teeth brush. Get it?
That's hilarious.
One tooth. There you go. Come on.
Yeah,
Come on,
I know. I did see it. Sorry, I'm just following here. The draft is in Nashville, of course, as everybody knows. Tanner Molendik, a good Saskatchewan boy, led all Saskatoon defensemen with 9 goals in 22-23. So Molendik's a little bit maybe off the board, but you got to love it every time a Saskatchewan boy is drafted, right, Dave?
I agree, but I mean, come on. I was in the middle of telling a Dennis Bayak story, and I could tell you weren't paying attention. Anyways, I was expecting.
Well, I saw your tweet, though. I know.
Fine. But Dennis, I mean, and by the way, the chat could give a little more love to Dennis Bayak and my comment about Dennis Bayak. But regardless, it's not my joke. It was Dennis's. But anyways, Dennis is doing well. He says hello to everyone, and hopefully we'll have him on sometime next month to catch up to him and catch up with him and see what's going on, get his thoughts, and see. Thank you, Phyllis. Phyllis gave me a smile. And seeing Phyllis's name, it reminds me of something. Have people smash that like button? We're hoping to be joined by Colby Barlow, but he's not going to be impressed if there's over 300 of you right now in the chat, and we do not have close to 300 likes. So I mean, please, let's get those likes up there and make sure you're subscribing to the Illegal Curve channel on YouTube, because this is, of course, where we go live every Saturday morning, 9:00 after every Jets post-game show. Jets schedule just came out, 82 post-game shows with the three of us, not necessarily all three of us all the time, but the fact of the matter is we will be doing 82 post-game shows, probably maybe hopefully a new format. We'll see, but should be a lot of fun. And we're going to, we'll try and see what happens in that regard with all of the exciting Illegal Curve action coming your way. Just coordinating with the Jets to try and get Colby Barlow, the 18th overall selection, on with us momentarily, but we'll see if we can get him on. The internet, of course, as they know in Nashville, unfortunately isn't the best. So we don't really have that capability of phone calls as we should maybe figure that out, but we are going to try and work to see if we can get Colby Barlow on for a little bit, just to introduce him to the folks here in Winnipeg.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to correct myself there, Dave. Tanner Molendik's actually from Kamloops, British Columbia. So he played for Saskatoon. I made a mistake there. He's not a Saskatchewan boy. So as anybody who's watched the Illegal Curve hockey show over the years knows, I make a lot of mistakes and a lot of guarantees that turn out to haunt me. So again, not a Saskatchewan boy, but he is a Western Canadian boy who played from BC, who played for the Saskatoon Blades. And looks like he was a little bit off the board there, because I was looking at Craig Button's list. He had him ranked 52nd. Elite Prospects had him at 40th. Bob McKenzie in his final rankings had him at 62nd. But again, all that matters is who the Nashville Predators amateur scouting staff, what they think, right? And they obviously like Molendik. They liked what they saw out of him with the Saskatoon Blades of the Western Hockey League. And now we're going to be waiting for the 25th overall pick, which belongs to the St. Louis Blues. And as you know, Dave, they have another first-round pick at 29th overall. And I go back to what I said. So the Blues have 3 first-round picks. And obviously the Montreal Canadiens had 2 first-round picks. They traded one to acquire Alex Newhook from the Colorado Avalanche. Shout out to Joey Sakic, by the way, somehow giving up nothing to acquire Ryan Johansson and then flipping Alex Newhook for a first-round pick and a second-round pick. So I think Burnaby Joe's done a great job there addressing his center ice position, because, as you know, Dave, Gabe Landeskog is going to miss the entire season, which is crazy. But going back to what we were talking about before, focusing on Colby Barlow, I mean, I think this and you know, some of the draft picks that we've seen that have been completely off the board, starting with number 6, which was Dmitry Simashev, Russian defenseman. I had to scroll up, Dave, because I'd never heard of Dmitry Simashev. So I had to look at the NHL.com draft tracker here, but there's been some surprises, right? And whether it's Dmitry Simashev, whether it's even the Habs taking David Reinbacher, the Austrian defenseman, over Matvei Michkov, or even Nate Danielson, Brandon Wheat King, right? 9th overall. We thought he might be an option for the Jets at 18th overall. But reminder that this happens every single year, right? Moritz Seider going 6th overall back in 2019, Dave, or 2020, I forget.
Remember, by the way, and that's why I just want to remind everyone, as a cautionary tale, Ezzy, that before you pan every pick, you're like, oh, this team's stupid. Moritz Seider looks like a pretty good pick, and Steve Yzerman was kind of like, he was maligned a little bit because of that selection, because everybody's like, this is so far off the board and da. Well, and again, that's why I said, so I know we laugh at
he had 50
sometimes.
points in his rookie year. I mean, Moritz Seider is a guy that, would you be surprised if he wins the Norris Trophy one day?
No, I wouldn't. And that's the whole point. But again, he was panned for the selection by a lot of folks. And again, I don't pretend to be a prospects expert by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I don't try and be an expert on anything other than a little site called illegalcurve.com, of course, that I'm an expert in.
I think you're an expert in looking good as well.
Oh, thank you, Ezzy. Well, I'm got to thank my Manitoba shirt, my Illegal Curve hat. Switch it over here. What's up? Legal Curve, no big deal.
Sharp.
But I just think a little fresh. But no, I think that what we've got is you've got to take it with an understanding that these guys,
it with a grain of salt. Take every single pick with a grain of salt, unless it's Connor Bedard, Dave.
Yeah.
Not every player. You can't, like, Connor Bedard is going to be an exceptional generational player, whatever superlative you want to use. Connor Bedard's most likely going to be 100-point plus player at a certain point in the NHL, right?
Right.
Adam Fantilli, he's most likely going to be an 80 to 90-point player for the Columbus Blue Jackets. But most players, you're not going to be able to say with certainty, this guy is going to score 35 goals and 70 points every single year, right? So, yeah, I mean, remind yourself that these kids are 18 years old, and, you know, they project. All players are unique. Dave's working the phone lines here, so maybe we got the Winnipeg Jets in contact with Dave. Might be hoping to get, for everybody watching, smash the like button. Thanks for joining us on our special Round 1 2023 NHL Draft coverage. I'm taking over the hosting duties here, Dave. Hoping to get Colby Barlow, the newest member of the Winnipeg Jets, taken 18th overall. If you're just joining us, Colby Barlow was the captain of the Owen Sound Attack, Scholastic Player of the Year, 93% average in grade 12. This is a very skilled left winger. He's a guy that projects as a top 6 forward at the NHL level, and he's got some grit, some sandpaper to his game, likes to get in on the forecheck, likes the physicality, and according to Craig Button, is cut from the same cloth as 2022 first rounder Rutger McGroarty.
There you go. Well, I mean, that will be, I'm a little concerned. It doesn't sound like it's so good. We'll see if the Jets can make it work. But
well, if we don't get Colby tonight, Dave, we can always get him on Saturday show if that's a possibility. So, I mean, look, he's busy, right? Like, yeah, and there might be some other technical difficulties. I'm not sure who you're texting with or what's happening over there, Dave. But if we can't get him, hopefully we'll get him Saturday, and if not, we'll get him the following Saturday.
There you go. That's why we bring you on, as you're the fountain of positivity on this show. Drew is the fountain of negativity. I'm kind of the guy in the middle, and that's why we.
Drew's just a curmudgeon.
Oh, for sure. Well, we already got Winnipeg Joe gave us
about everything.
Yeah, he said without Grandpa around, the show seems to be moving very smoothly. So we appreciate that. We appreciate all of your comments. You are, of course, listening to the Illegal Curve Draft Special. I think I should have just called it the Illegal Curve Draft Special. That probably would. I keep inserting hockey, but I think the Illegal Curve Draft Special with Ezra Ginsburg. I am, of course, Dave Manouk. We've been here since 6 o'clock. It is now 9 o'clock. So 3 hours, as I think we've taken a grand total of 2 breaks. So 6 minutes of breaks. Otherwise, we have been talking nonstop about the 2023 NHL Draft. The Jets, of course, selecting Colby Barlow with the 18th overall pick from the OHL. And again, a lot of people raving about what kind of player the Jets have brought in. Sounds like, again, like a high character kind of guy. We'll see if we can get him on the line. But again, it just seems that the Jets continue to build up that prospect pool, because remember, for a long time, as the Jets had a very envious prospect pool, right? They weren't going into it. They weren't dipping into it. They were allowing it to, develop, build, and then they rated it a bit. They needed it to start to pay off, and so those guys started to jump up and start playing in with the Winnipeg Jets, and then ultimately they became a little more threadbare because they were reliant on them. So
good word.
What's that?
Threadbare. Good word.
Yeah, there you go. So the point is that the Jets are building it back up with guys like Brad Lambert, Rutger McGroarty, Chaz Lucius, and now, of course, Colby Barlow. And they don't have a second-round pick, Ezzy, and I don't think they have a fourth-round pick, but they've got a third, and they've got 2 fifths. And
they have 2 second-round picks in 2024, don't they, Dave?
No, 1. No, because remember they gave up the Nito Niederreiter one this year at the trade deadline. So, so Kevin Sheldayoff has his full
wanted
contingent.
to stick it to Habs fans there.
Anyways,
but yeah, just getting back to what you were talking about the prospect pool for the Jets, Dave, and that had a lot to do with players that the Jets drafted coming into the NHL quickly, right? So you're talking about 2014 when they took Nick Ehlers, 2015 when they took Kyle Connor and Jack Roslovic. Connor and Roslovic obviously spent some time in college, but as these first-round picks, 2 or 3 years after they're drafted, get into the NHL, and then what happens the next year? They get Patrick Laine, second overall, and he steps right into the NHL. So you're right. Between kind of 2017 and 2020, you had 7 or 8, 10 first-round picks in the Jets lineup. And then now starting with Cole Perfetti in 2020, and then maybe even throw Ville Heinola, who was drafted in 2019, of course, he's still a prospect, right? Like you forget that Ville Heinola is still a top prospect in the Jets system. Is he going to play in the Jets top 6? Well, you have another guy in Declan Chisholm, who you've talked about a lot, watched a lot with the Moose, Dave. He's 23, 24 years old. He's pushing for an NHL spot, right? And then obviously you've got Dylan Sandberg there, who solidified himself in the Jets top 6. So when you've got Morrissey, Dylan, and Dylan Sandberg, sorry, should clarify that, Brendan Dillon and Dylan Sandberg on the left side there, it's going to be tough for Ville Heinola to crack the top 6, but he still is a prospect. And you're right, Rutger McGroarty is going to play another year of college hockey, then he's going to turn pro, we expect. And obviously Chaz Lucius, he's missed a lot of hockey. And so Chaz Lucius, I think you would agree, Dave, is going to play in the American Hockey League. I don't think he's going to step right into the NHL, mainly because of injury issues. But when you throw in Brad Lambert, who I think probably doesn't have much more to prove at the WHL level, he's probably going to be in the Jets lineup, a couple of years from now. So I think there's a lot of things to be excited about. Yes, the Jets had to trade Pierre-Luc Dubois because he didn't want to sign long-term. And they might have to trade Connor Hellebuyck because he also doesn't want to sign long-term. But the Jets have now rebuilt that stable of prospects, and you're starting to see what this Jets lineup is going to look like a couple of years from now.
I don't think there's any question, and that's why as you were talking about it yesterday, it's like almost like the Jets 3.0. You've had your run with the kind of resuscitating the team after Atlanta and kind of purging a lot of the players that you had brought over with you from Atlanta into Winnipeg. And then, of course, you had your chance to put your stamp on the team. You did that. And now, of course, that core group is essentially gone. And look, Blake Wheeler, we talk about it. I mean, these are his last days with the Winnipeg Jets. It's rather remarkable, right? The guy played, again, you don't have to like him. You don't have to say he's the nicest guy ever, but he certainly, one thing you won't really ever question is his effort on the ice, I don't think. And so, it'll be weird to not see Blake Wheeler on this Jets team anymore, but clearly that had to come to an end based on the end of season media avails, and not the comments, because I actually don't care about his comments so much. It was more just the fact that every player essentially swore fealty to him and said, "Oh yeah, we still see him as the leader." So to me, Blake Wheeler leaving, not a huge surprise in that regard, but still an end of an era.
It's time.
And,
it's just
well, it's
time,
the end of an
right?
era,
Like
but it's the end. It's the end
Yeah.
of an era, and he's the last vestige of their Atlanta, obviously, aside from folks who are in the scouting staff or like assistant general managers or what that sort of idea. But he is the last of the players who come from the Atlanta, were part of the Atlanta Thrashers.
And we talked about that. That's one of the things I like the most about the return that Chevy got for Pierre-Luc Dubois from the LA Kings is that Gabe Vilardi, I mean, he does a lot of the things that Blake Wheeler does on that right side, right? So could Vilardi play up the middle for the Jets? We talked about that. Yes, sure. Because he was drafted as a center out of the Ontario Hockey League, yes, he could play up the middle, but Most likely he's going to be on the right wing. And so now you've figured out who fills that hole that Wheeler left. So are we going to see a trade? It's possible. I mean, we've thought all along that if the Jets were going to trade Blake Wheeler, most likely they were going to have to retain some salary, most likely 50% of his salary, right?
Yeah.
So what can you get for Blake Wheeler? Well, I mean, I think considering his age and his salary, you're probably looking at, a third round draft pick or something like that, or maybe a C-level prospect. And that's no disrespect to Blake Wheeler. That's just kind of what we're talking about. I don't think anybody expects Blake Wheeler to be traded for a first round draft pick, right? It's just not going to happen.
No. And one of the things I thought was interesting, and I'm curious to get your take because it was something we talked about very briefly yesterday on the show, but I thought it was very interesting given the Jets had, I think, $13 million in cap space, that the insiders were saying the Jets are going to have to buy out Blake Wheeler in order to make this trade happen. And I'm like, why? In what world? First of all, the contract is not even going to be here because you're trading it with LA. So, I mean, obviously you have to be compliant when you sign a contract. So Pierre-Luc Dubois would have to, but the contract wouldn't be in effect till next year because he's got a contract till July 1st. And so then it would be a contract starting in 23, 24. So it just didn't make any sense to me. And the only thing I could think of, and it's something I kind of highlighted from Darren Dreger's comments earlier today, was that maybe there was another move in play. And maybe the Jets were trying to do something very big, whether it was with the LA Kings, maybe trying to make something significant happen, or maybe it was with another team. But it just didn't make a lot of sense to me that they were talking about the idea of needing to buy out Blake Wheeler in order to make the Pierre-Luc Dubois money work. Because I'm like, the Jets have $13 million in cap space for next season. It didn't make sense to me. And so I was trying to figure out where they were going with it. And I suspect, again, maybe it had something to do with a bigger move, because that's what Darren Dreger said. And I should find the exact quote just to give you some context so people don't go, the hell's Minuk talking about?
Just to clarify, Dave, as you know, you can go, what is it, above 10%?
10% above. Yeah.
Above, but it's only for, I think you can only be above for a month, if I'm not mistaken.
And it's a finite 10%. It doesn't like go, I don't think you can't go. It's not like you can go, okay, I'm 5% over, then I go back to 5% compliant, then 5%. It's 10% total.
Right. So
not Jets, that we're going to turn this into an accounting.
I think what people were talking about, maybe there was a little misunderstanding, Dave, because the Jets actually technically signed Dubois.
Yes.
Right. And traded him. The Kings didn't trade for him and then sign him. It was actually the Jets that signed him.
Yeah. So you get that
I don't know what his cap hit would have been for this year. If it would have been $8.5 million, or I'm not sure how the AAV would have worked in the first year.
I can't remember how it's broken down. It was,
right. But regardless, the Jets had the cap space. So
I think it was 8.5.
To basically go back to what you were saying, so much has happened. There's so many dollars that have been floating around.
Yeah.
But even with Dubois making $8.5 million and being on the books technically for the Jets still had cap room to still have Blake Wheeler.
Yeah.
So I think there was just a misunderstanding. Basically, the Dubois trade and the Blake Wheeler buyout aren't related to each other in that sense.
Well, but here's the comment. Here's the thing that I said that was the most. So this was Dreger with Jay Onright. He said he's trying to do business, talking about he being obviously Kevin Cheveldayoff. He's trying to do business in a number of different areas, not just the pieces that have acknowledged that they won't re-sign in Winnipeg. Meaning, obviously, we're not just talking about Connor Hellebuck. We're not just talking about Mark Scheifele. And obviously, he's not talking about Blake Wheeler specifically. So to my mind, that meant that the Jets were trying to do something else and trying to be creative. And that would have been the reason that they were doing a buyout. And it's entirely possible that maybe they were going to do the buyout to make Blake Wheeler easier to fit for another team, right? We don't know exactly how it was going to work. But, again, like I said, that's the behind the scenes stuff that's constantly going on. And you never really know what's happening, but I just thought it was rather peculiar that they were saying this needs to happen. And I'm like, why? Regardless, this is the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
Misunderstanding, Dave, of Dubois' contract, like him getting a raise from what was he making last year? 6.1 million or something.
Yeah.
And then it going up to 8.5. It was just a misunderstanding, I think, of how much cap space, as you mentioned, the Jets had.
Well, and it's funny. Rob Mahoney's saying, wait, Dubois signed with the Jets because he said if he had a contract, he wouldn't leave. Said that just yesterday. Big fat liar. But I said what the Jets, and I said that I've already used this joke as but it was kind of like the Seinfeld where George, the girl wouldn't break up with George. So after Dubois signed it, I'd just say, okay, well, it's too bad you signed it. You're with us for 8 more years. Live in Winnipeg. Buy a place in St. Boniface. Be happy. Regardless, this is the Illegal Curve Hockey Show draft
Caleb Ritchie,
special.
by the way, sorry, Dave, just went 27th overall to the Colorado Avalanche. So we've only got 5 more picks left in the first round.
Yeah, this is unheralded, unprecedented to have a draft end after only maybe 3.5 hours, has he? No trades, no thoughts. I think, to be honest with you, the guy who waited the longest was probably Kevin Cheveldayoff when he hesitated for a second at the draft table to talk most likely with Mark Hillier or maybe Zinger or one of the other guys in the organization. But look, all we know right now is that the Jets have, Colby Barlow in the stable. They've got a number of picks tomorrow. And remember, we won't be live, of course, doing the show unless there's something major that happens that we require a pop-up show of some sort. But if we don't require a pop-up show because nothing has taken place, the Jets are drafting once in the third, no second round pick, once in the third round, no fourth round pick. They lost. Does anybody remember why they lost the fourth round pick as 2023 fourth rounder? That was because
I don't remember. I was trying to think of who it might have been. Andrew
they traded it. No, that was when they acquired Mason Appleton from the Seattle Kraken. They've got a fifth rounder. They've got the Rangers fifth rounder. Do you remember why they have the Rangers fifth rounder, Ezzy?
Trouba trade?
Andrew Kopp. That was a conditional pick. They got that one. They do not have a sixth rounder in this year. Why don't they have the sixth rounder? Remember?
I forgot that Andrew Kopp was on the Rangers. He was on the Rangers for what, like 3 weeks?
Yeah. Do you remember what they gave up in the why they gave up their sixth rounder?
Sixth rounder, Nemesnikov?
No, Andrew Kopp. Nemesnikov.
Well, that's what I said before.
Rounder. Yeah, I know, but they lost their sixth rounder.
No, I know.
They gained, and then
at this point,
and they've got a seven. They've got a seven rounder.
Was that a fourth rounder?
Fourth rounder, yeah. So anyways, the point is that that's a fourth rounder in 2025 for Nemesnikov. Hollywood in telling me that we have 211 likes, which is pretty good actually. That's pretty much a 1-to-1 ratio. Not really actually. My math's a little bit off. I need to go to more like a 1-to-2 ratio. Given the fact that we had over 400 people here at one point, maybe even 500. Who knows? The numbers are inflated. This is fake news with Illegal Curve. But I'm Dave Minuk. He's Ezzy Ginsburg.
Just wanted to mention this too. Our good friend Andrew Hustler Patterson, who is on with us about 3 hours ago with Michael Remus, tweeted this out 49 minutes ago. Just saw this now. You probably already saw it, or you might have mentioned it earlier when I was scrolling through different scouting reports, Dave. Just talked to Craig Button, and to put it mildly, he absolutely loves Barlow. So, I mean, Craig, obviously, he's a very positive guy. And last year, when the Jets drafted Rutger McGroarty in the first round, he loved that pick as well. But you remember back in 2015, we were at that draft in Sunrise, Florida, and the Jets took Kyle Connor 17th overall. And he was ecstatic for the Jets organization. So Craig Button doesn't say he loves every pick, but look, I think Colby Barlow, we've talked about it. I mean, what's not to like about Barlow, right? Like, he's a scholastic player, captain of the Owen Sound attack. He's a great goal scorer. He's got physicality. He's good defensively. So I think Jets fans are going to love this guy, and they're going to get to see him, as we talked about, play as part of Jets development camp next week.
Yeah, and it's going to be, we're working with the Jets staff to try and get him on the show right now, but we'll see. He's got a lot of friends and family, of course, that he's probably going to want to get to and celebrate with. So if he does jump on with us,
who's on the phone right now? Are you talking to Gregor?
I'm talking to Gregor. Yeah, that's who I'm talking to. So hopefully
Gregor obviously is a busy guy. And, as you said, it's not like Colby Barlow is just, sitting down by himself right now. And he's looking at his phone saying, when are the Illegal Curve guys going to send me the show link?
To be honest with you, there's a lot of precedent. I mean, I'm not going to say it's exciting to be on here, but Chaz Lucius, he had a pretty good time when he jumped on with us in 2021.
His phone was blowing up.
We know Rutger McGroarty, he was having a lot of fun with us when he jumped on. So there's these guys. The precedent is there that draft picks have a lot of fun when they join the Illegal Curve hockey show. There's something called the Illegal.
You don't have to worry about having to talk to Drew. You get the two most handsome members of Illegal Curve here. That's a rare thing, right? Drew's been on every draft show that we've ever done.
As interim coach has it. Now I understand why he can't be on. He says he is studying right now for a math quiz.
Oh,
good point by interim coach.
Yeah, pre-calc.
No,
probably not. If he had a 93% average in grade 12, he's probably taking regular calculus.
Look at you. Well, it's good. No big deal. John Ginsburg's a math professor, retired.
Remember, the math gene skips a generation.
It skips 2, actually. Sorry, Ruben.
No, it only skips 1.
Oh, it only skips 1? Okay.
No, Ruben was counting to 20 the other day. He's good.
Really? And the problem was you kept screwing him up. You're like 16, 12. 13, 45.
Yeah, it's true.
Whoo, Ezzy, where does the time go? We have flown through the show. What draft pick are they? Quentin, your boy Musty went. A lot of Jets fans were kind of interested in him.
Yeah, Quentin Musty went to
the Sharks,
San
I
Jose
believe.
at 26. Then we talked about Caleb Ritchie, went 27th overall out of Oshawa, and then Easton Cowan from the London Knights. Is he a winger? I think he's a right winger. Easton Cowan
To the Leafs.
to the Leafs. Yep.
There you go. There you go. Silence. Well, anyways, we appreciate you joining us here on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. We've been rolling along. We're at 3 hours, 15 minutes. Not that I'm counting down. Mindell, can you imagine the gall on that guy to not be here on the draft special? The most important show, I would say, Ezzy, of the year. I mean, he'll be on the.
I have no problem. Like I said with Huss and Remus when we had them on in the first hour, Dave, it's just more mic time for us.
Oh, I agree.
The Ginsburg-Nuke experience takes over.
No, I agree with you. There's no question about that. And remember, of course, that our next broadcast will be on Saturday, bright and early, right at 9:00. And that will be, of course, a lot of fun because I believe free agency starts at noon. So we'll have free agency starting right at noon. So we'll get to kind of preview things. We'll see. Of course, we'll hopefully know by that point whether the Jets have qualified which players. We could have a buyout to talk about with respect to Blake Wheeler because that has to be concluded by June 30th. We should have the schedule for the upcoming development camp. We'll know the players that are coming. And as I said, we already know the regular season schedule, including some Boston Pizza appearances with the Illegal Curve folks. Drew is going to set that up. And of course, our friends at Betway.
Bringing the show to the public.
Yeah. Maybe once a month or a little bit more, a little bit less.
Well, we used to do
that
the
out.
show back in the day at Boston Pizza downtown. So it's going to be
but that wasn't our show though. That was just the Jets post game show on TSN 1290.
No. We did the Illegal Curve Hockey Show at Boston Pizza. We used to do it on game days. That might have been prior to your time, Dave. That's
Ezzy, what are you talking about? I've been on the show the entire time.
That's why
what
you're
the hell are you
forgetting.
talking
There was
about?
a guy, we just talked about the Toronto Maple Leafs draft pick taking Easton Cowan. There's a guy that used to be on with us that I think he might be a pro scout for the Leafs.
Really?
Richard, I think.
There you go.
Shout out to Richie P.
By the way, you mentioned BP, and of course our friend Spency Sutton says fish bowls.
Fish bowls, baby.
He's getting ready for some fish bowls. So yeah, it's going to be, it's a long weekend for everybody, Stacey, here in Canada, of course, because Canada Day, which I actually hate as an aside, this is going to be a little bit of a rant. I hate that free agency is on Canada Day. I think it's annoying. I think that Canada Day should be a day where you can be with your families. And I don't like that they do it on July 1st. I kind of find it a little bit disrespectful personally. That's just my an aside. I think that it's better. You can do it July 2nd. It's one more day. Give everybody the opportunity to celebrate living in this country and being with their family. So I don't like it. I've never been a fan of it. We do it obviously because that's what it is. They don't stop for us but I just don't like the fact that they do free agency on Canada Day. They always try and to me, they always try and act like it's too cute about it. They're like, oh, well, it's a national holiday and hockey's a national. No. Don't tell me what it is. There's a time and a place to be with your friends and your family. And then there's a time and a place to cover hockey. And I just don't like how they link it between Canada Day and free agency. So
yeah, I'm with you on that. And the thing is, I don't want to go there, but if you did it on July 24th.
No, July 4th.
Pardon me, July 4th.
Whoa,
July 24th is my birthday.
I'm like, would that be disrespectful if they did it on your birthday?
I meant to say July 4th, Independence Day, right? So, 4th of July. It is what it is, as you said, Dave, even though what is Jerry Seinfeld, if you've ever seen his stand-up routine, he says, why do people say it is what it is? What is. But yeah, I think ideally it wouldn't be on Canada Day because look at Canada Day. You can say whatever you want, right? And don't get me wrong. We have a part of our history that is not something to be proud of. But I think, on July 1st, we celebrate everything that is great about Canada. That's mainly the diversity, right? Diversity is the strength of our country, right? We were the strength
of the country.
Well, yeah, us too. But I think most people would say diversity and, all the great people that we have coming from all different countries in the world, coming over to Canada. I think that's what makes Canada, in my opinion, I'm biased because I'm Canadian, I think we have the best country in the world. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is, and we're going to have fun on Saturday, and talking about Colby Barlow and possibly Blake Wheeler being bought out, and maybe some free agents that the Jets might sign.
Yeah. So anyways, we will be talking about that, and of course getting some insight into the Moose team, of course, because the only player they've been losing players, a lot of players going to the DEL. So we'll see what's happening with the Manitoba Moose, as well as they might get some players here as part of the organization, as part of the signing. Although the Moose
Ashton Sautner is going to play for the Moose next year. He re-upped.
He did, but he signed a Jets contract. He's on an NHL contract. The Flin Flon product. Very happy, very proud to be back in Winnipeg. He grew up in Saskatchewan and Alberta, I believe, but he was in Flin Flon, I think, till he was 6 years old. And his mom was a teacher, so he would come to Winnipeg quite a bit with her. Very proud of his Manitoba roots, and his grandparents, I believe, are still in Flin Flon. So he talked about how much it meant to him to be here in Winnipeg as part of the organization last season. And I know they liked him a lot, and they saw him in kind of that leadership role. So yeah, he's the only one so far. And you're right, Ezzy, he is most likely going to be a Moose player next season.
But hey, I mean, if injuries happen, right? Like, I mean, you look at a guy like Kyle Capobianco, right? Like, I don't think a lot of people thought Kyle Capobianco was going to play a lot for the Jets. And what did he end up playing? 15, 20 games for the Jets?
That many? Really?
10 games, something like that. Just saying. I mean, Ashton Sautner, if there are injuries, could end up playing a little bit for the Jets. That's all I'm saying. But yes, he's more likely going to be a Moose defenseman.
Just a little news from our friend Dave Pagnotta at the fourth period, bringing it back to the Jets. Even though we were just talking about the Jets / Moose, said on Winnipeg, things have been quiet on the Hellebuck trade front since it became known he wants $9 million plus on an extension. Why are people surprised about that? Not much this week on Scheifele either. Not yet anyway. Well, and maybe that's the reason why Kevin Shoveldayoff said what he said. So it sounds as
Capobianco played 14 games for the Jets. You made it seem like what I was saying was ridiculous. What did I say? 15 to 20 games.
No, you said you actually said 15 originally, and I was thinking it was closer to 7 to 10. But look, you're accurate. I don't question the Ginsburg. Well, I do question the Ginsburg, but
you have to
not in this instance.
Question everything. We often have to get Daniel Dale on to fact check me.
Oh, all the time. He sends me notes. He's like, Ginsburg got like 30 things wrong on the show. I'm like, Daniel, what do you want from me? I can only do so much.
Flint-A-Betty-Flanagan. That's right, Dan Jets fans. Flint-A-Betty-Flanagan. I believe the only town in Canada or the world that's named after a fictional character. That's a fact that you would have to check.
Wow, that's a good.
Is named after a fictional character, and I would know because my dad's from Flin Flon.
I'm going to ask Ashton Sautner about that the next time I interview him. I'm going to be like, Ashton, is it in fact true that Flin Flon is the only town named after a fictional character?
At the very least, it's the only one in Canada, I believe.
Well, that makes sense. I would think that it's probably not the only one in the world, but I think maybe the one in Canada. Anyways, Ezzy, where are they in the draft right now? What are we looking at?
We are looking at right now Theo Lindstein, who's a Swedish defenseman, went 29th overall to St. Louis. So 3 picks left, Dave. We've got Carolina at 30th overall. Colorado has another pick at 31st overall. We talked about they took Kalen Ritchie from the Oshawa Generals at 27th. And then the reigning Stanley Cup champion Vegas Golden Knights, featuring a plethora of Manitobans. They select 32nd overall.
Ezzy, more importantly, though, we didn't get. What did you think of their trade today?
What trade? I don't even know if I saw it. The Golden Knights made the trade?
One of the original Misfits was sent to the Pittsburgh Penguins for a 3rd rounder.
Who's that?
Well, I'm going to ask you to guess.
Well, just tell me.
Why don't you tell me?
The original Misfits for a 3rd rounder.
Mm-hmm.
Braden McNabb?
Riley Smith.
Oh, right. Was Braden McNabb is Braden McNabb an original Misfit?
No, because he's with the Kings at the time, wasn't he?
Sure anyways, Riley is original. Well, I wasn't. They weren't going to trade Jonathan Marchessault, but Riley Smith for a 3rd round pick,
and then they signed Barbashev to a 5-year deal.
See, that's exactly remember what we were talking about earlier? Well, of course you remember. You're on the show, but it's been what are we pushing 3.5 hours here, Dave?
Yes,
we were talking about how the Jets didn't need to buy out Blake Wheeler to make the Pierre-Luc Dubois money work because they signed him and then traded him. But yeah, I think when you're the Vegas Golden Knights and we know they're right up against the cap, if they were going to sign Barbashev, which I think is the right move, because as you remember, the top line for the Golden Knights in the playoffs was Jack Eichel, Jonathan Marchessault, and Ivan Barbashev. But still, Riley Smith for a third rounder, Dave. Like Riley Smith is a perennial kind of 50 to 60 point guy. So Kyle Dubas did very well there.
Yeah, no, it is a nice move by the Pittsburgh Penguins. Because look, I mean, with that group,
How did I miss that, by the way? Obviously, there was a lot more going on today.
Well, I could kind of tell that you didn't.
I definitely did not see that.
I could tell because I made a comment earlier and it kind of, you didn't pick up on it. And I was like, all right, whatever. I will get into it later when we talk about it. But yeah, no, they made a trade. They wanted to, of course, get Barbashev signed for 5 years. I think it was 5 times 5 for Barbashev. So he obviously liked what he saw when he signed with the Vegas Golden Knights after winning a Stanley Cup with them. And one thing about Vegas, you want a Stanley Cup for us. You're one of the original misfits, but hey, we got to fish or cut bait. And that's one thing that Kelly McCrimmon and that brain trust haven't been afraid to do is change their team when they see an opportunity.
Wow. Like if you're Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang, like that is Riley Smith immediately slots into your top 6, right?
Oh,
like immediately.
sure.
He goes on top 6 on the wing, right? So yes, you're right. Kelly McCrimmon and the Vegas Golden Knights have been cold-blooded in terms of, how they make their moves. And that's really impressive that Kyle Dubas was able to acquire Smith and only give up a third rounder. I'm really impressed by that, actually.
By the way, Eddie, you know what the craziest thing you just said is? The fact that you just said Kyle Dubas gave up. And I'm thinking to myself, but we're talking about Pittsburgh. And then I had to think about it for a second. I was like, well, wait a second.
It feels like Kyle Dubas has been the GM for a long time. It's been like 4 weeks.
Yeah, no, I know. And it's like, well, he's not even the GM. He's the president.
Sure. You're right. President of hockey.
Although he might be interim until he actually hires the GM, but the fact
I guess because Spezza is not the GM. He's the assistant to the, or what's it? Is he assistant secretary. General manager? Yeah. Cause he brought Spezza over with him.
Yeah. I'm not sure. It's some title to say I get to hang out with an NHLer and he gives me coverage. So, why is Barlow getting interviewed by Huss? Is that what's going on? Kenny's water bottle? Is Huss taking up all the
Huss? I think already spoke with him, but yeah, I mean, he could be talking, but I believe Huss already spoke with him, and you can catch that on Winnipeg Sports Talk tomorrow.
Yeah, and we'll hopefully have. I mean, look, we're going to have the video up available on illegalcurve.com. Even if we don't get him, and as he said, we'll try and get him another time if we can't still do it. But hey, we're still going on. We still got another 20 minutes, half an hour left in this show. We'll break down all the moves by the Winnipeg Jets. Just kidding. They didn't make any moves, but all the stuff that's going on in Jets line. Because like I said, it's interesting to read what I read to you. Well, at least I thought it was interesting because that's kind of the general sense I've been getting is the fact that Mark Scheifele and Connor Hellebuyck, and I was kind of on that board. I didn't think Mark Scheifele was getting moved. Wasn't certain about Connor Hellebuyck. I mean, I said that a couple of weeks ago back on our Saturday show when we talked about it, and I knew Dubois would be gone, and I was iffy on Wheeler, but it seems like Wheeler is going to be gone. I would imagine by what is today? Tuesday.
Friday.
Today's Wednesday. By Friday,
yeah.
So Wheeler I suspect will be gone. But whether Scheifele and Hellebuyck, and look, it's a tight rope to walk. But I mean, if you're Kevin Cheveldayoff, you can't give them away for nothing, especially Mark Scheifele, but especially Connor Hellebuyck. And at the same time, what do? You keep them, you work them towards the trade deadline when a team could acquire them. But then what happens if you're in a positive spot? What happens if this team is gelling? And I guess that becomes
also has Mark Scheifele's mind or has Connor Hellebuyck's mind changed a little bit? I mean, I would think more likely, Hellebuyck is still a guy who's going to be moved. I don't know when that's going to happen, right, Dave? But you wonder if, Mark Scheifele clearly at this point in his career, he's 30 years old, 29, 30 years old, right? I forget. He doesn't want to be on a rebuilding team. But now 30. That Pierre-Luc Dubois has been traded and Gabe Vilardi and Alex Iafallo are coming to Winnipeg, not to mention Rasmus Kupari, but obviously Vilardi, Iafallo, those are the big ones. Now you know that you've got, some pretty good talent there on your second and third lines, plus Connor Hellebuyck might be starting the season with the Jets, right? So that maybe changes Scheifele's mind a little bit. But I'm not Scheifele, I don't have a good read on because it seems like the trade scuttlebutt has been minimal involving Mark Scheifele. Boston obviously is a team because they're going to lose Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci, Scheifele makes a lot of sense as a center for the Bruins.
Mhm.
But Hellebuck, I'm not too sure what's going on there. I mean, I'm still not confident in saying that Hellebuck will start the season with the Jets because, as we know, the Jets have talked to other teams about Hellebuck. So we'll see what's going to happen. But yeah, it looks like there's a strong chance that Scheifele, at the very least, will remain a Jet next year.
All right, well, let's take our final break of this Illegal Curve hockey draft show. Hopefully, Colby Barlow will be able to join us relatively soon. Sounds like Huss is hogging all the airtime, but we're going to send it to break. You bear with us, listen to our sponsors. Please give them support. This, of course, is being brought to you by our good friends at Betway. Okay, as one last commercial break, and then we're going to do the final segment, which is still going to be about half an hour. So don't fret, folks. We'll be here for a little bit longer.
Keeping Winnipeg laughing for over 30 years. Rumors, Canada's longest running comedy club, bringing you the biggest laughs from the best comedians on the planet. Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Jon Stewart, Dennis Miller, Brad Garrett, the greats, and all the up-and-comers too. When was the last time you laughed out loud? Make it a great night out with friends or book your office or birthday party. Even a fundraising event at Rumors. Get all the details and dates on upcoming shows at rumorscomedyclub.com.
Hi, Ez. A strange question for you. But why are you lying on the ground being crushed by a piano?
Well, Drew, I definitely tried to carry this baby grand piano down the stairs by myself, and somehow I failed miserably.
Right. Yeah. Sorry, that was a silly question on my part. My apologies. Would you like me to call Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage to help you move the piano? They are the most experienced piano moving company in Winnipeg, after all.
Yes, please call Rollies and hurry. This piano is very, very heavy.
Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage offers stress-free residential moving services while taking great care of your personal belongings, including your piano. At Rolly's, no job is too big or too small. For more information, visit rollys.com.
Hi, it's Drew from Illegal Curve here. Selling your home can be stressful, but it wasn't for me. Thanks to my friends at Zappia Group Realty, they made the process so easy. My home sold within 48 hours and with multiple offers. Zappia Group Realty took care of everything with their exquisite customer service and attention to detail. If you want to sell your home for more in less time, get started by talking to Frank and Mauro Zappia of Zappia Group Realty. Online at zappiagroup.com.
Hey, Drew.
Ezzy, whoa, what a smile!
Yeah, I got my crowns done at Linden Market Dental Center, and they whiten my teeth.
I see.
They're so bright that every time I smile, they go...
We have hockey tonight. Do you have a mouth guard to protect those pearly whites?
I sure do.
Whoa, they even ting through the mouth guard.
Linden Market Dental Center covers all your dental needs from restorative to cosmetic dentistry and will fit you with a sports guard for that active lifestyle. 877 Waverly. See lindenmarketdental.com.
Boston Pizza harnessed Fanalytics to help optimize no-look dipping. Ooh, making adjustments so you can stay focused on the game. The playoffs at Boston Pizza, powered by Fanalytics.
3 hours, 32 minutes, 17 seconds. That is how long Ezra Ginsburg and I have been rolling along here on the Illegal Curve Hockey Draft Coverage Show. It's been a long night already, Ezzy. We're not done yet. We're still rolling along.
One more pick. The Colorado Avalanche just took defenseman Mikhail Gulayev, who's obviously Russian.
It's lots of Russian.
Well, not obviously Russian, but he's
not
he's
obvious.
Russian.
It could be Belarusian, i.e., like who's from Belarus, Ezzy?
Mikhail Grabovski?
No, Dmitry Kuzmin.
But also Mikhail Grabovski.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying. Anywho. Lots of is your boy Bruce is telling us to keep it rolling. And by the way, just as an aside for folks who are still waiting on their Jets merch from this contest, it's funny. I got an email from someone saying, "How did you deliver to this person? I live like 2 blocks away." Well, I try and have it all geolocated and done, but you know, I'm only one person. Ezzy and Drew do not help.
If Dave's in the north end, he hits the north end. He might, venture over to Transcona. But if Dave is nestled into the south end in River Heights, he might go to St. James, maybe Crescentwood, Osborne Village.
But my office is in Elmwood, so I'll stop. I'll have no problems dropping into Transcona or anywhere along North K, any of that sort of thing. Don't spend a lot of time in St. Patel, but unless Fancy invites me.
East St. Paul.
I do East St. Paul. Yeah, it's
Headingley.
nice. West St. Paul. Well, Headingley. It's a little too bourgeois for me, a little too fancy. It's more of a Mandel hang up.
By the way, shout out to the great folks in Oakbank. I have family in Oakbank. Chicken Days. What was that? 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago?
Yeah, I saw you at that.
Or if you
Well,
don't have to have kids, if you just like to party and like to have a good time, Chicken Days was a really good time.
Well, nobody likes to party like Ezra Ginsburg.
Yeah, love to party, especially when there's chicken involved. Speaking of issue boy Bruce, we ran into him at the Bombers game. What was that? 3 weeks ago. Great to run into issue boy Bruce.
There you go. Is your boy Bruce? Okay, well now I'm seeing that the interview with Huss, so we'll be able to throw that up on the website after the show, and we'll see if we're waiting on the Jets. See if we're going to get him to join us. He's got a lot of friends and family who are in attendance, and it's tight to the timelines. So we'll see if we can get him on for 5, 6, 7 minutes. If not, again, like I said, it won't be the end of the world, because that just means more time for Colby Barlow, more time for Dave Minuk and for Ezra Ginsburg to keep this yapping. And SK may have gone for his run, so we'll see if that's happening. But no Darwin Moore, no unique code words anymore. No Colby Barlow, but yeah, Rob, I know St. Vital is nice. You've got a park; it's beautiful. Kings Park is the park.
St. Vital Park is a beautiful park. We've taken the kids there several times. As we wait for Colby Barlow, we might as well talk about how beautiful St. Vital Park is, and in general, the entire area of St. Vital, Windsor Park, Dakota Community Center. I love all of it.
It's like, are you just going to name every area in the city that has a park? Look, it's an interesting time to be covering the Winnipeg Jets, or for fans of the Winnipeg Jets, seeing what's happening with this organization. You know, the draft, hope springs eternal. There's a lot of optimism surrounding all 32 NHL teams, maybe not the Leafs. Folks are questioning what they're doing, or the Arizona Coyotes. But for 30 of the 32 teams, there's a lot of optimism surrounding the draft as they acquire new players, new blood, adding it to the stable, if you will, of their prospect pools. And again, we'll see. It's amazing to me. It's kind of like what I was talking about yesterday on the show. We're already declaring people want winners and losers. I'm like, we don't know. And even today, we're going to hear about, oh, this guy's going to be absolutely, a home run. And this guy, it's a reach. Well, again, like I said, these guys are 17 years old. It's going to take years and years and years before we actually get any sort of insight as to whether they are going to be significant pieces for their respective organizations. So you just celebrate who they are and the fact that they got drafted. And for the ones who don't get drafted, it's not the end of the world. We've seen a lot of guys, Brendan Dillon, Nate Schmidt, are guys who never got drafted by NHL organizations and have carved out roles in the NHL. Oh, hold on. We're seeing some stuff. We'll see if we got anything from the Jets. Okay. No, we're not going to get Colby Barlow on, unfortunately, tonight. So we will have to throw the Huss interview on. Thanks. I'm going to tell Hustler, I hope he appreciates that he stole our time. So no Colby Barlow for Illegal Curve because of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Looks like we got beef. So no Colby Barlow for us. No beef.
We got barbecue chicken. That's what they're eating in Nashville.
Yeah, that's the problem. They were eating barbecue chicken anywho. So point is that we're
going to play the video live right now.
I could try doing that. I'm not entirely certain. Drew does it with his stupid little second screen. I don't think I have the ability. Why don't you talk for a few minutes? See if I can figure that out while you're yammering.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be. I think we'll be able to do it, but a couple of minutes, Dave. I'm not sure if I can do that, but no, I'm just kidding. But Colby Barlow is a guy that we talked about, has the IQ off the charts, and is a guy that I think many people expect to be a prolific goal scorer at the NHL level. 30-plus goal scorer is what we saw from a lot of the scouting reports. And when we talk about Colby Barlow, I think the thing that also stands out about him is that he's a great overall player and a leader, right? Captain of the Owen Sound Attack, youngest captain ever in Owen Sound Attack history. And I think a guy that has some sandpaper to his game. We talked about it when Craig Button was giving his analysis of the Jets taking him at 18th overall, cut from the same cloth as Rutger McGroarty. We talked about some of the other scouting reports that we read from Stephen Ellis and Ryan Kennedy and Corey Pronman and others, that this guy is a good all-around player, a really good shot. Not necessarily the best skater, not the fastest skater, but also not a bad skater or a slow skater or anything like that. So just a really good overall player, a guy that projects to be a top 6 winger at the NHL level, and obviously a really good character player who's got, as I just mentioned, sandpaper to his game. So I'm not sure if Dave is having any success trying to pull up the Colby Barlow. Here we go. Maybe we're going to have it here. I think we've got a nice little ad. There's a lot of things going on. Dave, what do we got? What do we got going on here? I'm not sure what you're playing, but hopefully we're going to have Colby Barlow talking to Huss here in a second.
Forget that noise. That didn't work. I will tell you though, having listened to Colby Barlow for 2 seconds, he's excited, but there's no sound. I don't know how to make the sound work, guys. This is the problem without Mindell. I was trying to make it happen.
It's true. Drew knows how to do those fancy technical things, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, if I can figure this out, I will figure it out, and I will, let me just see if I can make that happen one more time. And if I can't, then I won't.
Looked like he had a big smile on his face, and it looked like Huss was having a good time.
Yeah, no, it seemed like they were good, but you know what? Did I delete it? I don't know what happened to it. Well, we'll see. I think I must have deleted it, Ezzy. So we'll forego that. We'll have to have everyone go to the little site called legalcurve.com. I've got a post with Colby Barlow on there already, and then you can watch it there. I'm sorry I was not able to make it happen. I will see.
It's all good, Dave. We had a great show, 3 hours and 40 minutes, and where the draft is now officially wrapped up. Vegas selected. Who did they select? David Edstrom, Swedish center.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, there you go.
So round 1 is officially over.
Wow. Well, I mean, I got to tell you, under 4 hours, that's pretty remarkable, especially given the fact that that I'm still trying to make this happen. So bear with me, folks. But it's kind of weird. I don't know why it would have been muted. I could hear it in my headphones.
Folks can go check it out at on Winnipeg Sports Talk's YouTube page.
Yes, absolutely. And again, like I said, hopefully I can try and make this work. But if it doesn't, we had a good run, and no, Desi, I'm not going to try this. I'm going to we'll just finish off the show, and we'll try and get the Colby Barlow feature on Winnipeg little site called legalcurve.com, because unfortunately, folks, I just don't want to start screwing things up and making a mess here of the show. So T Will's telling me I have to change the audio feed. Well, I don't know, folks. It's not going to happen, I don't think, unfortunately. But again, you're not going to hear it live here on the show, but you're going to be able to hear it as soon as we end our show. You can go to legalcurve.com, and I'm going to have all the interviews that Colby Barlow did with Huss and with the Jets people and with the media, and all the interviews will be on illegalcurve.com under the post for Colby Barlow. And of course, tomorrow we'll be back to running a smooth operation. And of course, we may be doing a pop-up show, as who knows if something happens. Sounds like that doesn't seem like it's going to be a very distinct possibility, but we're not going to necessarily end the show just a second. But what are your final thoughts here, or some thoughts now that we've gone almost 4 hours of talking here, Ezra?
Yeah, well, I love the pick for the Jets. I mean, I just talked about it as you were trying to get that interview up from Winnipeg Sports Talk, but you got to love the pick. Just seems like a great Winnipeg Jets player. I mean, macro level thoughts of the first round. I mean, starting with Leo Carlsson going 2nd overall to Anaheim instead of Adam Fantilli, there were definitely some surprises. 5th overall, David Reinbacher, and then 6th overall, the biggest surprise probably in the entire first round, certainly in the top 10, was Dmitry Simashev, Russian defenseman, going to Arizona instead of Russian forward Matvei Michkov, who obviously went the next pick, 7th overall, to the Philadelphia Flyers. So yeah, there were some surprises in the first round, but that happens every year. We've been covering these drafts since 2011, and there's always a lot of surprises in the first round. Some guys who go later than you thought they were going to go, some guys who go earlier than you thought they were going to go. So love the pick from the Winnipeg Jets perspective. And as you mentioned, Dave, a lot of moving parts. I mean, there could be a trade tomorrow from the Jets. There could be a buyout tomorrow from the Jets, or it could happen Friday. But one thing is certain, we're going to be back on air Saturday morning at 9:00, breaking it all down.
There you go. That's what we like to hear, Ezra. Oh, okay. I can confidently say, while we aren't going to get Colby Barlow tonight, I have tentatively tried to arrange for Colby Barlow to join us Saturday morning on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. So he'll be able to, actually, it'd probably be a little bit better, because while you get him in the initial rush into the excitement, we'll be able to have some calm energy, and he'll be
A
able to bring
calmer Colby Barlow.
There you go. A calmer Colby Barlow. And, it'll be nice because we can
CCB.
talk about
Calmer Colby Barlow.
But the point is that we can have a opportunity to have him, relaxed and reflect on what it's meant to, have a couple of days now as a Jets draft pick. So we'll see if we can arrange that. And if I can, we'll make it happen. And he'll join us sometime, hopefully on Saturday. David Zrick saying, get him for a longer interview. That's, I will try that. And Donnie Boy is telling me good recovery. That's what I do, folks. It's what I do. It's what I try and do.
Before we wrap up, though, in all honesty, great job hosting, tonight. It's not easy. Like, we give Drew a hard time, but, it's not easy to go almost 4 hours, and you have a lot of moving parts. And obviously, Dave M is the editor of LegalCurve.com. So he's posting stuff on our website. He's posting stuff on social media. So there's a reason why we call you the heart and soul of A Legal Curve, Dave. And you did an awesome job hosting. Hopefully, I wasn't too big of a jackass providing insight and analysis.
You're great.
As your co-conspirator here. And one thing's for sure, we're not going to have as much mic time on Saturday when Drew the Bear Mindell returns.
Oh, dear God. There is no chance that Mindell, having been deprived 4 hours of microphone time, is going to let us speak for the first hour of the show. That's my thought. So I wonder if that'll be a reality. We'll find out on Saturday morning, bright and early at 9:00 here on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show YouTube channel, which is where we broadcast from every Saturday morning, every post-game show, every pop-up show. That's where you can hear Ezra Ginsburg, Dave Minuk, Drew the Bear Mindell. Although David Rick saying Drew who. So
and thanks everyone for watching as well. Like, for the people that have been watching the whole show or parts of the show, or, maybe only watching 5 minutes, whoever's watching the show on replay on YouTube, we always appreciate it. As Dave mentioned, the draft is always our favorite time of the year. It's chaotic, but it's good chaos. You have a lot of things going on. There's always mystery around, every single draft pick, except for obviously first overall. Everybody knew that Connor Bedard was going to go first overall as soon as Chicago won the draft lottery. But thank you to everybody watching. We don't do the show unless we have great folks like you tuning in and watching on YouTube and, Twitter and wherever you're watching the show right now. So thanks to everybody for sticking with us. And as Dave mentioned, we're going to do this all again in 3 days.
Well, Jet Oil Tom, we appreciate you being here the whole show. A lot of folks have been here the entire show, and that's, a testament to the dedication you guys have as both Jets fans and fans, I guess, of this program. And we, as he just touched on, really appreciate that. And everything will be on illegalcurve.com. I've got pretty much everything that's up until I started hosting. That's also the reason why, selfishly, I enjoy Drew being on the show, because when Drew is on the show and Ezzy is here to take up some of that airtime, that's when I kind of
like, do you have 4 arms, Dave? Like, I don't even know how you were posting stuff while we were on air. I was trying to fill in those 2 to 3 minute gaps, but I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit here. But I think we filled in admirably in the absence of, as you mentioned, Drew the Bear Mindell.
It's true. Although Rob Mahoney's saying Drew Mindell bought Girl Guide cookies from intern, so he is a good person, according to Rob. The only problem, Rob, he was supposed to give me the Girl Guide cookies as well. He chose to eat the Girl Guide cookies. Now he had paid for them. I was going to pay him as well once I exchanged them. Little exchange for said Girl Guide cookies, and then Drew said, "I've already eaten them." So
a lot of people don't know this. I'm sure Rob doesn't know this. Drew, not only does he like Girl Guide cookies, he actually was a Girl Guide as well.
That's true. Although I don't think we're allowed to make fun of him now for that. But back in the day, we did, because he was. The best is on Saturday. Everybody's going to be asking Drew about being a Girl Guide, and he's going to have no idea. Anyways.
You can go for some of those Girl Guide cookies right now. It's been a long show.
See, is our boy Bruce wasn't he? That's the kind of support you appreciate. Still went to the draft barbecue at Canada Life Center. As an aside, I didn't even know they were doing that, but he went there and couldn't hear it, but he read the chat. So we appreciate that. Is your boy Bruce, and
your boy Bruce is a beauty. He's always tuning in. Good friend of the show, so I'm not surprised at all that Is Your Boy Bruce was tuning in with us the whole time.
Well, I mean, I got to tell you, the fact I didn't even tune in with us the whole time. I'm exhausted just from being here for almost 4 hours. I was kind of hoping we could do another 9 minutes, Ezzy. I mean, if you want, I'll do it. We can just keep rolling. We can talk about the Jets cap situation. I'll go to A Legal Curve. I'll just start reading things off of legalcurve.com. John Shannon's comments, Kevin Cheveldale.
Share some of our favorite recipes.
Well, I will say, just as an aside, though, because I've been so focused on this, I do want to tell people, though, if you do want to see anything from the draft that is posted, I will have it on this website. So Kevin Cheveldayoff spoke earlier today in advance of the draft. He'll speak also after the draft. Gabe Velarde spoke both on a Zoom call, which I was on at 10:30, and then he was also on Jets at noon. So I've got both those, but one's video, one's audio. You can listen to that. Jets setting, Ted Wyman and Scotty Billick. They did kind of an analysis of the Dubois trade and the pieces and looked ahead. So we've got about 10 posts on illegalcurve.com right now that if you are lacking Jets content following 4 hours with Ginsburg and Minuk, then you're welcome to join illegalcurve.com for the after party. Make sure you hit that, just keep refreshing it. Give me all those impressions. We like it. Make sure you visit our sponsors. We want to thank our sponsors. Where's Frosty? I need some help here. My brain is not functioning enough to remember all the sponsors. So if Frosty isn't going to provide same as we're just going to have to wing it. I don't think Frosty's here to provide it. And again, we want to thank all of our sponsors. This, of course, this special show is brought to you by our friends at Betway. They are a title sponsor of the Illegal Curve post-game show. We appreciate all the support that the fine folks at Betway have been with us. They've been a great friend to the Illegal Curve hockey show and illegalcurve.com. So thanks very much to Betway. And of course, all of our sponsors. I'm not going to go through all of them because I'll probably forget one and then I'll be insulting. As we've been talking so long, my TV was ready to shut off. It's like, clearly you've fallen asleep because the TV should be off by now. No, you haven't changed the channel.
I'll bail you out here, Dave. I've got the sponsors. I've got all of our sponsors, and I agree with you. We thank our sponsors, each and every one of them. Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, as we just mentioned, Betway, Dr. Les Rikus and the team at Linden Market Dental Center, Grid Park, Tough Duck, Boston Pizza, Rolly's Transfer, Zappia Group Realty, and Seagram's.
So thank them, because through the support of them, we have our show. So we appreciate everything that they've done for us, and we appreciate everything you've done for us, because again, like as he says, each and every time we go live, the show is taken to the next level because of the chat. Actually, Ezzy didn't say that. I just said that. So I'm thanking you on behalf of Ezzy. And I think that's going to wrap it up. So like I said, join us on Saturday for 9:00. Hopefully Colby Barlow will be part of our show. We'll let you know tomorrow because I'm going to text with the Jets tomorrow. So we'll know. Donnie Boy wants me to go that extra 8 minutes, but Donnie, I'm zonked. I'm out. I'm done. I still got like 4 hours of work. People.
Hey, that's close. 3 hours and 53 minutes. I'll take that.
Yeah, for sure. And I've still got a lot of work to go. So we're gonna have to cut it here. But again, we're hopefully gonna have Colby Barlow on with us Saturday. I don't know who maybe we'll also speak to on Saturday to assess the Jets draft picks. Maybe Scott Wheeler, someone like that. That's always a good guy to have some sort of an assessment. We'll figure that out. We'll let you know. Tomorrow is Thursday, so stay tuned to illegalcurve.com for all the Jets news. I am Dave Minuk, your host for tonight's show. He is Ezra Ginsburg, my main man. Drew Mandel is not with us, but he'll be back on Saturday. So if you've been listening to this show, you know it is the Illegal Curve Hockey Show draft coverage of 2023 Round 1. Good night, everyone. I am done.
Thanks for listening to this broadcast from Illegal Curve Hockey. For more great Illegal Curve content, subscribe to the Illegal Curve YouTube channel, follow at Illegal Curve on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and visit your online home for hockey in Winnipeg, illegalcurve.com.